What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 3 Su Chapter 61 Kawasaki's Layout. Rising Uchiha. Summoning Technique. Konoha Village, Hokage Building. Sarutobi, the third Hokage, who was writing, looked up and found that it was Danzo who came in. What are you doing here? The third generation's tone was calm, although Danzo had been ambitious and difficult to control before. The third generation dismissed him from his position, which was a big blow to him. The third generation stopped the funding of the Root organization and restricted other ninja clans from cooperating with them. The Root is probably very tight now. But Danzo has been working with him for many years and will definitely be useful in the future. As long as Danzo is still under his control, the past things are nothing. Whenever he needs Danzo, he can always make a comeback. This is the profit estimate of Uchiha. Danzo took out a stack of datasheets. The Hokage glanced at it. So much? 20 million a month? Danzo's tone was the same as usual. This is just Konoha's data. If you count the Land of Fields, it's more than 50 million a month. Itachi and Shisui brought Chinese cuisine to the Land of Fields. Although the Land of Fields is poor, this store is spread all over the country. How rich the Uchiha are, no one knows. Danzo paused. The daimyo Matano Kuni made a lot of money from this and asked me to get all the formulas. So, Hiruzen, I need your help now. Danzo looked a little proud and took out a letter of instruction. The third Hokage frowned and took a look at the letter of instruction. It was real. DUF. The third Hokage took a deep breath of the smoke in his pipe. I didn't expect Danzo to attack the daimyo. This is a tricky thing. As the village chief, there are many places to spend money. The reason why Konoha can become the strongest in the ninja world is because of its sufficient funds and rich resources, which can be infinitely converted into war resources. Whether it is population, food or other things, Konoha has an advantage in many ninja wars. Cloud Shinobi from the military power of the Lightning Kingdom has been fighting Konoha intermittently for more than 10 years. Konoha forced Cloud Shinobi to negotiate peace when its military strength was not superior, relying on its strong financial resources. Konoha's own income is one aspect, and more importantly, the various subsidies issued by the Fire Country daimyo. The Fire Country is vast and populous, with rich resources, in order to maintain its leading position in the ninja world. The relationship between the daimyo and Konoha village is very good. After all, only Konoha village defeated other countries, and the daimyo could make money with peace of mind. Now, the daimyo has set his sights on Chinese cuisine. And the daimyo bypassed him and gave Danzo a direct order. Was it because of Uchiha's departure? It seems that I didn't report it, which made the daimyo feel resentful. Although Konoha village, as a military group, doesn't need to care about the daimyo's face. But the number of ninjas is small, and they don't engage in production, so they can't directly manage the country. The daimyo has become the financial sponsor, so under normal circumstances, the third generation is still very face-saving. In the Hokage building, the third generation is flipping through a pile of documents on the table. He has checked everything he can. From customer flow to average consumption, the long-term statistics of the Japanese series show. Danzo's thoughts on the Uchiha family's store are not a matter of 1 or 2 days. Danzo's preparations are so thorough and detailed that even the third Hokage is surprised. The income of the Uchiha family is so high. According to these data, although Konoha's financial resources or the money is dozens of times that of the Uchiha family, but the third generation does not control it alone. Village construction, ninja salaries, secret technique research and development, and maintenance, every expense comes from here. The Uchiha family is different. 90% of the money earned by the family belongs to the clan leader Fugaku, and he can spend it as he wants. If it continues like this, will the Uchiha family become the host in the future? Each ninja clan pays attention to practical interests, if the economic strength is in place. It is not impossible to support Uchiha Fugaku to be Hokage. The third generation did not expect the situation to be so serious, and a sense of urgency suddenly surged in their hearts. When they were about to think about the response strategy, they found that Danzo was standing in front of them. Third generation thought to himself, Ichiraku. Well, professional matters should be left to professionals. After all, Danzo is quite familiar with this. Third generation tapped the table with his pipe. What are you going to do? Danzo replied. We have tried to imitate, but the taste is always a little worse. There are indeed some secret recipes that we don't know, so the taste is always inferior to theirs. Seeing Danzo's ambitious look, third generation couldn't help but remind him. You are not going to rob them by force, are you? You can't resist their Susanoo. Danzo's face changed slightly. How can I go head-to-head with them? Danzo shook the document in his hand. Hiruzen, you can let Fugaku share the secret recipe in the name of supporting them. Third generation frowned. I'm afraid Fugaku won't agree. Danzo smiled grimly. If he doesn't agree, there are ways to make him change his mind. The third generation seemed to be thinking, what do you want? Danzo said without hesitation, restore the Root organization. The third generation paced back and forth for a long time, and finally his eyes fell on the astonishing figures of the Uchiha clan's income. The third generation shook his head and said, restoring the root is impossible. Danzo did not speak. He knew that it was not easy to rebuild the root, but it was the daimyo's task after all. The third generation always had to give the daimyo some face, so he expected that the third generation would have the second half of the sentence. The third generation continued. I can greet other ninja clans and do not prohibit them from cooperating with you. Advertisement, Danzo said with a little disdain. This is not enough, old partner. The third generation thought for a while. I will give you 2 more honorary elder positions. Honorary elders. Danzo pondered for a moment. Honorary elders, except for Uchiha, every large ninja clan has such a position. No real power, but there is the right to make suggestions, and the votes held in the Hokage election are also key. It is already a powerful class. To become an advisory elder, honorary elders are a must. The third generation obviously reserved a position of honorary elder for Danzo. The other one is equivalent to an asset for Danzo to operate. Danzo was satisfied and asked again, Hiruzen, who do you think is suitable as the other honorary elder? The third generation took a puff of cigarette and said, the security department can be moved. Danzo thought for a while. The security department is currently managed by Hyuga Hisashi. The Hyuga family is conservative, if there is a profit-driven. It just so happens that Danzo's root members in the security team were expelled because of the Nakamura Kazuya incident and became a dead chess piece. And Hisashi, out of gratitude to Kawasaki, has always restricted these root members and allowed them to patrol from Leaf Street to 4th Street. Other places are not allowed to intervene. If the elders of the Hyuga family participate, can the root take action? In the Hokage building, Fugaku suddenly received an invitation from the third Hokage. Therefore, he came to the Hokage building early. When he walked into the office, he saw the third generation members handling official business. This is the first time seeing the third generation leader since the last Cloud Shinobi incident. Third generation leader. Fugaku's mood has changed a lot, and he no longer has any emotions towards the third generation. When you foresee the destruction of the future ninja world, it is difficult to respect the shadow of a village. Over the years, the third generation leader has always been a good guy. He smiled and said, Fugaku is here, sit down. Fugaku sat down as ordered. I wonder what the third generation leader wants to see you for. The third generation leader picked up the teacup. Fugaku, we haven't seen each other for a long time. I see that your Uchiha clan has developed very well recently. As the clan leader, you have made great contributions. Fugaku said calmly, it's okay, these are all the credit of Kawasaki, it has nothing to do with me. The third generation clearly felt the change in Fugaku's attitude. He said cheerfully, your Uchiha restaurant is very popular in Konoha. Seeing that Fugaku didn't respond, third generation said again, Fugaku, the village plans to strongly support your store. Fugaku raised his eyebrows. How do you plan to support it, third generation? Third generation took out a Konoha village floor plan and drew a circle on it. The Chinese cuisine stores are all concentrated in the 8th Street. The other streets have a lot of traffic, which is a big waste. Third generation said seriously. I plan to leave 8 stores for you on each street from the 1st to the 7th Street, so that your stores can be spread all over Konoha. Fugaku looked along the third generation's gesture, and this circle almost included all the prosperous commercial streets in Konoha. If these streets all opened, Chinese cuisine stores, Uchiha's income would undoubtedly double. However, Fugaku said to the third generation with an apologetic look, third generation, Uchiha is short-staffed, and we really can't take care of so many stores. The third generation nodded. I have thought about this issue a long time ago. I will assign someone to manage the store, and Uchiha only needs to be responsible for technical training. In the end, we can distribute the profits in proportion. Fugaku, what do you think? Fugaku sneered inwardly. It turned out to be for the secret recipe. No need, Hokage-sama, I think Uchiha's business is already enough. There is no spare capacity for expansion, and there is no plan to open new stores at present. Fugaku stood up. The affairs of the clan are heavy. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. After saying that, Fugaku walked out. Although the current Uchiha's revenue is less than 1/10 of Konoha's, the franchise fee from the land of fields left by Kawasaki is sufficient. Fugaku is full of confidence and does not need to care about the third generation's face. The third generation did not try to keep Fugaku, but calmly put away the map. This time he just used courtesy before force. He had long realized that he could no longer control the current Uchiha as before. In the Wind Country, Sanagakure. This is the recipe for sour plum soup, that is the method of burning grass jelly, and this is the secret recipe for herbal tea. Kawasaki held one plan after another in his hand and presented them to Luosha one by one. This includes dessert series, peach gum series, glutinous rice products, cough drinks, and fulling paste, etc. Each one records the production method in detail. Rosa took the thick plan. As the head of a village, he naturally had a keen strategic vision. He immediately saw the business opportunities hidden in it. These are the products I carefully selected, which are very suitable for the climate of your Wind Country. You find a reliable partner to operate, and we will share the profits in proportion in the end. Rosa frowned slightly. What is your real purpose? Kawasaki smiled and replied. As a shadow, if you promote it, our Uchiha clan will naturally benefit more. Advertisement. At the same time, it is also to find a powerful ally for Uchiha. Kawasaki deliberately emphasized the words, "our Uchiha." Rosa suddenly realized that the Uchiha clan currently dominates Konoha. Both economic strength and high-level combat power are second to none. But the overall strength is still slightly inferior to Konoha, which has gathered the strength of major families. What Uchiha needs most is development, so they decided to take a roundabout strategy, starting with the economy, and plotting for the position of Hokage. Kawasaki, as the deputy chief of the Uchiha clan, generously helped Senagakure as soon as he arrived. This solved the sealing problem that Senagakure had been unable to solve for a long time. After Luosha sent many people to test, he confirmed that Kawasaki's sealing technique was indeed extraordinary, and his arrival was obviously full of goodwill. From now on, Gaara can choose whether to communicate with Shukaku on his own, completely eliminating the risk of losing control. This move also promoted the reconciliation between Luosha and Gaara, making Luosha realize his many past mistakes. Although the process made Luosha feel unhappy, but reality is pressing, and rules have always been made by the strong. Moreover, all Kawasaki wanted was an ally of Uchiha. In such a win-win situation, Luosha could not find a reason to refuse. Okay, I agree. During my reign, Uchiha was our most steadfast ally. Kawasaki smiled. Official business is over, let's talk about personal matters. After getting Ross's promise, Kawasaki also sat down easily. Kawasaki said, although the ninja world has experienced 3 wars, the ambitious have never disappeared. Although Gaara's seal is stable, as a Jinchuriki, it is inevitable that people will be peeped at. Rasa listened carefully. The Wind Country is relatively poor among the 5 countries, and the daimyo has no intention of governing the country. The funds of Sand Shinobi have been tight for a long time. Therefore, Rasa, the Cage, had to go out to Pan for gold to supplement the village's finances. If he didn't have this skill, perhaps he would not have taken the position of Hokage. Jinchuriki should have been the strategic capital of the village, but Sand Shinobi was short of talent and lacked sealing masters. As a result, One-Tail Shukaku could only be viewed from afar for a long time and could not be used. Originally, Fonfuku had excellent control over Shukaku, and his pure heart even won the praise of Shukaku. However, due to power struggles, the Sand Shinobi high-level officials did not want each other to control the Jinchuriki. So Fonfuku was imprisoned until he was old, and many good opportunities were missed. Kawasaki continued. Uchiha has received reliable information that a powerful force is plotting against the tailed beasts. They are powerful and may not only target the soil and Sand Shinobi. Gaara is also in their plan. Rasa did not ask the source of the information, which was someone else's secret. But his heart was tense. Someone intended to get his hands on the tailed beasts, and Gaara was a Jinchuriki. As everyone knows, once the tailed beasts are extracted, the Jinchuriki will die. This is tantamount to threatening Gaara's life. How does Mr. Kawasaki plan to deal with it? Kawasaki said, I am very optimistic about Gaara's talent. He used to be unable to receive a good education because of his rampage. In the past few years, you might as well ask Mr. Kazekage to focus on training Gaara to deal with the crisis that will inevitably come in the future. Gaara has unlimited potential and will become the most ideal candidate for the next generation of Kazekage when he grows up. Luo Sha's heart was warmed. It was one thing for him to recognize his son, and it was another thing to get recognition from others. He had personally experienced the strength of Kawasaki. Such a strong man actually had high hopes for Gaara. Luo Sha solemnly promised, please rest assured, Mr. Kawasaki, I will definitely train Gaara carefully. In addition to business cooperation, this trip is also to inform you of this news so that you have an idea. Luo Sha felt quite uneasy in his heart, as the deputy head of the Uchiha clan and a strong man of Mangekyō Sharingan. People who stand at this height must have a reason for their words, and they specifically reminded him. But the organization has not yet appeared, and Luo Sha can only bury his worries deep in his heart. Kawasaki finished his instructions and left without staying for too long. His purpose of coming to the Sand Country was for Gaara. Now that they have established a good relationship, he hopes that he can be included in his own army in the future. At this moment, Obito is already in Mist Shinobi, and Kawasaki has little time left. Kawasaki unfolded the map and studied it carefully. The people he needed to kidnap were in the Land of the Water and the Land of the Dragon. The Land of Water, which is full of talents, is far away from the mainland. To get there, you need to pass through the Land of the River and the Land of the Fire. It takes several months for ordinary merchant ships to sail from the Land of the Hot Spring to reach the Land of the Water, and even longer in bad weather. In comparison, the ships of Cloud Shinobi and Mist Shinobi are faster, only taking more than a month, and the ships are always ready. Besides, Kawasaki does not want to expose his whereabouts at the moment. Konoha and Sand Shinobi are more convenient to travel because of their alliance, but it is not easy to pass through other countries. Kawasaki thought about it. Itachi still has to go there, and he can go directly to the Land of Water. Seeing yellow sand rolling around, no one was there. Kawasaki quickly wrote on the scroll, ordering Itachi to go to the Land of Grass to take away Karen, and then to the Land of Taki to capture Jugo. These two are crucial to Orochimaru's research. Kawasaki made a seal. Summoning technique. Bang. Chapter 62 Terumi Mei. Please welcome Mr. Kawasaki. Magic? Ibiki's shocked. Unbelievable. The smoke cleared and a crow appeared. Take this message to Itachi. Kawasaki ordered. Ah. The speechless crow quickly disappeared. The Uchiha clan has always had a close relationship with the ninja cats and the ninja crows, and Kawasaki chose the ninja crows. Kawasaki has no particular preference for summoning beasts. He believes that the greatest value of summoning lies in sending messages and counter-summoning. After all, in the later period, summoning beasts are mostly reduced to decorations. The clan has always used the enlightened ninja cats to communicate, but now that Kawasaki is out, he uses the ninja crows to communicate with Itachi. The land of water. Why? The female ninja shook her body and questioned the vague figure in front of her in pain. Beside her were the silent bodies of her two companions. Hoshigaki Kisami's eyes were like bloodthirsty sharks. Bloodshot. Eliminate my companions, this is my special mission. The female ninja fell to the ground, without blaming, but asked weakly, your life has been difficult, right? Hoshigaki Kisami's pupils shrank suddenly. But his face was still wooden. He stepped forward and stabbed with a knife. A pixel block suddenly appeared in the sky, and then a figure suddenly fell from the sky. What the hell is going on? Kawasaki used Sasuke's space teleportation technique and flashed from the Kingdom of Wind to the Kingdom of Water in an instant. Unexpectedly, the landing point was in midair. Fortunately, Kawasaki was agile and landed steadily with a flip. There were several corpses lying on the ground, and a blue-skinned shark-faced man stood on the edge of the cliff. Are Konoha's pursuers so fast? Hoshigaki Kisame glanced at Kawasaki indifferently. Then he jumped off the cliff. There was a commotion in the woods, and a large group of people were approaching this side. Kawasaki looked around, and when he went forward to check, the female ninja was no longer breathing. Tisk tisk, Kisame is really cruel. I remember that girl seemed to have a good impression of Kisame. The last words before death gave Hoshigaki Kisame a heavy blow to his heart. I'm afraid he will never forget it. Damn Obito. Kawasaki complained in a low voice. Forget it, since we met. Kawasaki waved his hands. Bang. Transformation technique started. Kawasaki first changed his appearance. The palm of his hand was shining with light, which was the healing jutsu learned from Yakushi Kabuto. Tisk tisk, this Kisame is really cruel, and the knife went straight to the heart. This mist ninja woman should have passed away without too much pain. Swish, 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 a large number of Konoha shinobi rushed out of the bushes. The leader was Konoha's interrogation expert, Morino Ibiki, and there were 6 Konoha elites. Who are you? Although Kawasaki used the transformation technique to change his appearance into an ordinary person, he was wearing the clothes of Konoha. Kawasaki pressed the healing jutsu on the chest of the female mist ninja with one hand, and took out the Konoha forehead protector from his bag with the other hand. One of us. Morino Ibiki could see at a glance that the other party used the transformation technique, and even the forehead protector was newly taken out. But the other party did have the Grandmaster Konoha medical ninjutsu, healing jutsu, which made Morino Ibiki a little confused. What are you doing? A Konoha elite couldn't help asking, and their eyesight naturally saw that the female mist ninja had just been attacked. However, Kawasaki ignored them and just operated the healing jutsu wholeheartedly. Healing jutsu lived up to its name. In a moment, the wound on the female mist ninja's heart had healed. Hey, this mist ninja is obviously dead, why are you wasting chakra? Kawasaki glanced at them. Old-fashioned, with a flick of his wrist, he slapped the female mist ninja's chest. The female mist ninja's body bounced up in response. In a flash, Kawasaki slapped down 2 more times. Ixix. Heartbeats sounded. Cough, cough, huh. The female ninja sat up suddenly, coughing and panting. She was still a little confused. Wasn't she finished by Brother Kaki? Mori Ibiki and the other 6 Konoha shinobi were all shocked. Resurrection from the dead? Don't look at me. You're my prisoner now. Just follow me obediently. The female mist ninja looked around, but didn't see Hoshigaki Kisame. There was only a circle of Konoha shinobi surrounding her. She glanced at the people around her, a strange face, and a Konoha forehead protector on the ground. Is that so? I was arrested? She lowered her head sadly. Mori Ibiki frowned. This is our mission target. Kawasaki scratched his head with a headache. These people were Konoha's elite, and he didn't intend to reveal his identity. There's no way. Kawasaki's tone changed, and the several Konoha shinobi who were on guard had not yet taken a fighting stance. Before Kawasaki could make a seal, the void behind the Konoha shinobi suddenly appeared full of yellow sand. The yellow sand blocked the sunlight, and the sky suddenly darkened. The sand and dust quickly covered it like a heavy quilt. Advertisement Desert Layer Funeral Seal. Rumble. The yellow sand condensed into blocks, and the 7 Konoha elites were tightly bound in it. The yellow sand filled the sky, and the surrounding scenery was completely blurred. Morino Ibiki was shocked. Isn't this Sanagakure's technique? How is it possible? Such a high-level technique doesn't even require a seal. Is it possible that they will die here today? Morino Ibiki and others were terrified, and they were hit by the sandstorm and couldn't move their bodies. The sand quickly wrapped everyone, and even a finger couldn't move. The sand quickly fixed everyone's limbs and sealed their mouths and noses. Kawasaki looked at the people who were wrapped tightly, like sculptures. This is sand sculpture. The system is indeed excellent, ignoring the environment of the spell, without the need for hand seals and conditions, and directly activated. Is it too obvious to just walk away like this? Kawasaki controlled the spell, leaving many gaps between the sand grains. Kawasaki stepped forward and searched the pockets of the Konoha shinobi one by one. He searched several scrolls from Morino Ibiki, and put them all into his arms without taking a closer look at the contents. Everyone in Konoha was desperate. The other party had already started searching. What would happen next? Even the last words were prepared in their hearts. After a long time, the yellow sand on the bodies of several people loosened and slowly slid to the ground. The person who just cast the healing the jutsu's people and the female mist ninja were gone, leaving only 2 mist ninja bodies. After checking each other, they found that all items had been looted and the weapons were missing. At this moment, their pockets were cleaner than their faces. Not even a kunai was left for them. Ibiki frowned, because the intelligence scroll on him was gone. That intelligence was extremely confidential, and it recorded in detail the situation of the Mist Shinobi Code Unit leaving the village to perform the mission. So Konoha specially sent the interrogation expert Ibiki to perform this mission. And this mission was full of twists and turns, and the intelligence was correct. The Code Unit was indeed caught up on this route, but there were always Mist Shinobi people cleaning up the traces. After finally chasing to a desperate situation, a mysterious person appeared again. He subdued Ibiki and his party with one move. Fortunately, the other party had no intention of killing them, but just took away the things. Ibiki picked up the yellow sand on the ground, and it was indeed yellow sand. Such a large amount of yellow sand, all materialized for ninjutsu? How huge does it take? Chakra amount. Looking at the gradually dissipating yellow sand, Ibiki fell into deep thought. The climate of the land of water is humid, and the soil here is solid, so this kind of yellow sand is not visible. Unless it is brought by oneself, or the soil is transformed into yellow sand by using ninjutsu. But the activation speed of this technique is too fast, and the yellow sand depends entirely on chakra to appear. Who on earth can not only perform healing jutsu, but also master Sanagekyou's technique, and reach such a level? Oh, it's really bizarre. Ibiki racked his brains but couldn't think of it. This is just a one-time ninjutsu that Kawasaki didn't want to reveal his identity. Yes, healing jutsu belongs to Konoha, but Kawasaki doesn't know it at all, and it's all based on Yakushi Kabuto's light. As for the sealing technique, it was originally exclusive to Gaara, and naturally came from Sanagekure. Captain, no one was found alive. The person next to him reported after searching around. Everyone had neither supplies nor weapons, so they could only look at Morino Ibiki helplessly. Morino Ibiki thought to no avail, so he had to go back to the camp to replenish supplies. This mission is getting more and more confusing. At the bottom of the cliff. Gulp. Splash. Kawasaki dragged the female mist ninja out of the water. It turned out that there was a pool of water under the cliff. No wonder Kisame didn't fall to death. Kawasaki noticed the wet footprints on the shore. Apparently Kisame had left first. Kawasaki took out fuel and spit out a fireball to light a bonfire. He opened the collected things, and the weapons had been thrown into the water. There was nothing valuable in the ninja bag. When Kawasaki opened Ibiki's scroll, he frowned. Konoha's sealing technique. Kawasaki touched it with his fingertips, and the seal was unlocked. After reading it, Kawasaki earth-coiling the scroll thoughtfully. A long time passed. Did he miss something? Turning his head, he found that the female mist ninja was staring at him with wide eyes. Oh, sorry, I forgot to unseal you. When he jumped off the cliff before, Kawasaki used the 4-symbol seal to restrain the female mist ninja. He actually forgot to unseal it. Kawasaki pressed his palm on the female mist ninja, and the black 4-symbol seal retracted into his hand. The female mist ninja instantly regained her ability to move. Where are you taking me? The female mist ninja saw that the guy in front of her was not in the same group as those people in Konoha. Kawasaki had removed the transformation technique and was still dressed in the wind country. He was also wearing a large gray cloak and a hat. Kawasaki took off the hat and threw it aside, revealing his true face. Although Kawasaki was famous, his portrait was not everywhere. Therefore, the female ninja did not recognize him. Where to take you? It depends on you. Kawasaki raised his chin slightly. Advertisement. What do you mean? Do you hate Hoshigaki Kisame for killing you? The female mist ninja's expression changed subtly, as if she thought of something, and sat down by the campfire with her knees hugged, her eyes a little absent-minded. For ninjas like us, obedience is our duty. If you don't save me, I will also die. What's there to complain about? Quote. Kawasaki smacked his lips with interest. Sometimes fate is really wonderful. Hoshigaki Kisame actually met such a woman. I am very interested in Hoshigaki Kisame, and think he is a talent. I want to recruit him to my team. Can you help me persuade him? Kawasaki admired Hoshigaki Kisame very much. Kisame pursued peace and yearned for beauty all his life. In the end, he even sacrificed himself and summoned sharks to eat himself to protect the information. If possible, Kawasaki hopes to change everything. The female mist ninja was a little surprised, and pointed at herself in disbelief. Me. Kawasaki understood why she was surprised. Explained. Believe it or not, if I didn't save you, your death would be remembered by Hoshigaki Kisame for the rest of his life. The female mist ninja widened her eyes. A little surprised, and then her cheeks flushed. She hurriedly covered her face. How could it be? Besides, Brother Hoshigaki will not betray Miss Shinobi. Hey, girl, are you okay? Didn't Kisame just stab you? Why do you still seem to be so devoted to him? Brother Hoshigaki, will you become Brother Kisame next time? In Kawasaki's eyes, this kind of fate is simply that the matchmaker used steel bars to weld the two together. Kawasaki said helplessly, don't worry about this. Your fourth Mizukage has been controlled by the enemy with illusions. Kurigakure is finished. What? The female mist ninja was still shy a second ago, but she stood up suddenly after hearing the news. Kawasaki casually threw the scroll he had read to her. The female mist ninja took a look. This is the route map of our secret service. The female mist ninja was shocked. They were carrying out a top secret mission. The information was leaked before they left the land of water. Kawasaki shrugged. The one who sold your information was the controlled Mizukage. The female mist ninja suffered a heavy blow. Mizukage's tyranny over the years. Kawasaki nodded and confirmed. Yes, it was the person who controlled him. Really? Really? The female mist ninja's voice trembled slightly. Kawasaki laughed. What good does it do me to lie to you? As an elite of the Secret Service, the female mist ninja was a little embarrassed, but she still started to think. Thinking back then, the fourth Mizukage seemed to have changed overnight. The families with bloodline limits were suppressed, and the management of the village became extremely harsh. Many elites of the mist ninja either died or fled. Even the once famous demon, Zabuza defected not long ago. It seems that this is probably true. The female ninja suddenly felt sad. In the past 2 years, her relatives and friends have died tragically in this bloody mist shinobi coup. But who knew that all this was just a scam? What's your name? The female mist shinobi looked up at Kawasaki, looking quite depressed. My name is Kyoko, Kurita Kyoko. Do you have any family? Kawasaki asked casually. Kyoko shook her head slightly. Mist Shinobi was originally a ninja village with many talents, but after Obito's commotion, I don't know how many elites have been lost. This is just right. You help me persuade Kisame, then you can work for me together, and fellow villagers can take care of each other. Kawasaki felt like those coal bosses who coaxed people to work illegally. I originally planned to try the effect of the sand mat first, but now I still have a drag, so I can only wait for a chance in the future. Hoshigaki Kisame walked towards the village with some confusion. He had to protect his partners in the village to carry out missions, and he had to kill them himself when they were about to be arrested. Kisame's life was extremely difficult. He played the role of a guardian. He was also the executioner who executed the death penalty. His worldview was completely distorted. And Kurita Kyoko, the woman he had only had a brief contact with. The sentence she said when she was dying, your life must be very hard. This sentence directly caused Hoshigaki Kisame's state of mind to begin to collapse. In this hypocritical ninja world, the so-called excellent ninjas are nothing more than murderers who betrayed their companions. They can sacrifice their lives for the village, but they can't find their own position. Hoshigaki Kisame wandered alone, and before he could go back to report, he was unfortunately intercepted halfway. You are the subordinate of the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Demon. The fourth Mizukage, Gojikura, appeared on the road that Hoshigaki Kisame had to pass. Mizukage-sama, I am Hoshigaki Kisame. Hoshigaki Kisame bowed respectfully. Since the assassination attempt a few years ago, Yagura has rarely appeared in public and is extremely strict with his subordinates. I didn't expect to meet here today. Your boss, Zigwashin Puffer Ghost, secretly communicated with the enemy and leaked information. What? Hoshigaki Kisame was shocked. The person who ordered me to kill my companions to prevent the information from being leaked, sold the information to the enemy on purpose. Yagura said with a grim face. Zigwashin Puffer Ghost is very cunning, and only you have the opportunity to approach him. Once you have the opportunity, kill him. Hoshigaki Kisame agreed woodenly. Yes, Mizukage-sama, quote. After giving the order, Yagura left indifferently. Hoshigaki Kisame stood there for a long time, then looked up and continued to walk towards the village. Inside Kurigakure, Kurita Anzi finished her report to Terumi Mei and handed over the document scroll in her hand. After reading it, Terumi Mei's face turned livid. After all, no one could calmly accept the fact that the leader of their village was controlled by illusion. Please come in, Mr. Kawasaki. Terumi Mei rubbed her forehead. No wonder Mizukage has not made public appearances in recent years, especially in places where Ching appears. As the door was pushed open, Kawasaki walked into the room, with a slight smile on his face, and his expression was quite unfathomable. Chapter 63 Kawasaki's Confrontation. Obito's Shock. Mr. Kawasaki's name. Kawasaki's original intention of coming to Mist Shinobi was to find a few people with potential to bring back. As for whether Mist Shinobi is smart or stupid, it doesn't matter to him. Therefore, he directly facilitated the contact between Kurita Anzi and Terumi Mei. After all, Terumi Mei will be in power in the near future, and now she is an important faction in Mist Shinobi. I have heard of Mr. Kawasaki's name for a long time. Uchiha can have talents like you, and it is just around the corner to revive its glory. Terumi Mei was still polite at the beginning. After all, Tsuyoshi Sake provided them with evidence that Mizukage colluded with the enemy. And this evidence was actually found from Konoha Shinobi, which is quite intriguing. Kawasaki looked at Terumi Mei, who was tall, mature and gentle, and was a little puzzled. Did the people of Mist Shinobi turn a blind eye? Such a beauty is not pursued by anyone. But Kawasaki had no other thoughts about Terumi Mei, he was only here for official business. You are too kind. Miss Terumi Mei is also outstanding. Once this matter is confirmed, the position of the next Mizukage must be yours. After some pleasantries, Kawasaki and Terumi Mei turned to the main topic. I wonder how Mr. Kawasaki plans to cooperate with us. Terumi Mei asked. If you want to sit on the position of Mizukage legitimately, you must publicly disclose the fact that Yagura is controlled by illusion. Now there should be no one in the village who can guarantee that they can suppress Mizukage, right? Not only is it difficult to suppress, but now the high-end combat power of Mist Shinobi is seriously lacking, and many famous bloodline limit families have been almost wiped out by Obito. Terumi Mei is not yet strong enough to challenge the fourth Mizukage alone. Mizukage also has a unique skill. Water mirror technique. The water mirror technique can create a water mirror that reflects an identical replica of the enemy, and can perform the same ninjutsu as the opponent, with the same power. Therefore, as a Jinchuriki, Yagura Kujidachi can run rampant in Sonogakure. This is also the fundamental reason why Terumi Mei was unable to act despite her doubts. She was not as strong as the enemy. Mist Shinobi was already riddled with holes, and it would be too uneconomical to sacrifice more lives to fight hard. Terumi Mei looked at Kawasaki with an inquiring look, and Kawasaki smiled lightly. If I can get this evidence, I will be able to deal with the fourth Mizukage. Terumi Mei nodded, and she naturally recognized the strength of Mangekyō Sharingan. Mr. Kawasaki, did you go on a long expedition just to help me get promoted? Terumi Mei leaned lazily on the back of the chair, full of charm. However, Kawasaki turned a blind eye to this. He waved his hand. Just call me Kawasaki. You should know the relationship between Uchiha and Konoha. Terumi Mei nodded. She naturally understood the current delicate situation between Uchiha and Konoha. The two sides only maintained superficial peace. Uchiha, in addition to performing some tasks for Konoha, hardly participated in other affairs of Konoha. It was like an outside ninja's affiliation. The reason behind it had long been spread in the ninja world. Terumi Mei smiled and said, Mr. Kawasaki, just tell me what you want. Kawasaki held up 2 fingers and said, after the matter is done, I want 2 people, and I want you to help me find 2 people. Oh, which 2 people can attract Mr. Kawasaki's attention? Kawasaki nodded and pointed at Kurita Kyoko, her, and Hoshigaki Kisame. Terumi Mei glanced at Kurita Kyoko and gave Kawasaki a meaningful glance. Then he thought for a while. Kurita Kyoko and Hoshigaki Kisame are both members of the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Demon, he will not let them go easily. Quote. Kawasaki spread his hands. It doesn't matter, Ziguashin Puffer Ghost is already a dying man, why should I care about his feelings? Terumi Mei frowned. Why do you say that? Kawasaki chuckled. This time Ziguashin Puffer Ghost ruined his plan, how long do you think Puffer Ghost can live? Are you sure? Terumi Mei narrowed her eyes slightly. Ziguashin Puffer Ghost is a veteran in Mist Shinobi, in charge of the Secret Code Department and another assassination unit. Ever since Yagura was controlled by illusion, Puffer Ghost has been living in seclusion and rarely shows up. He is one of the few people in Mist Shinobi who can still support the overall situation. However, Puffer Ghost does not support Terumi Mei to take over, so for Terumi Mei, the existence of Ziguashin Puffer Ghost is a stumbling block. Mist Shinobi has been ruined to this point. Terumi Mei has decided to destroy first and then build. Diehards like Ziguashin Puffer Ghost must be eliminated. Of course I am sure that as long as I keep a close eye on Hoshigaki Kisame, Ziguashin Puffer Ghost will definitely die. Then it will be the best time for you to overthrow Yagura. Terumi Mei thought about it. Anyway, they are just 2 traitors. Okay, I agree. Kisame, you be asterisk 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 D. Oh, Ziguashin Puffer Ghost vomited blood again. I didn't expect that my most trusted subordinate would actually attack me. Another stab came, and Ziguashin Pufferfish felt that all the strength in his body was drained. Then he fell heavily. Kisame squatted down and reached for the shin muscle behind Ziguashin Pufferfish. This was his trophy. Kisame kicked the corpse with his foot and turned to leave. At this time, a voice sounded. Thank you for your hard work, Kisame. Kisame turned around and held Samahata tightly. I expected that he would relax his vigilance against his subordinates, and it turned out to be true. This guy colluded with the enemy. From now on, you are the master of the big sword Samahata, and you will also become my subordinate. Kisame saw that it was Mizukage who appeared, and loosened his hand holding the shin muscle, but did not show joy. He squeezed out a false smile on his face. In the end, I can't escape the fate of being eliminated by you, fourth Mizukage. For a long time, the missions carried out by Waisame were either to kill companions or to kill the upper companions. Even if the opponent was the fourth Mizukage, Kisame still did not feel a sense of belonging. Because you have completed countless dirty tasks for the country and the village, and experienced countless betrayals, people like you are more trustworthy. Mizuki said expressionlessly. Because you understand that this world is full of hypocrisy. Kisami's expression did not change. I realized this as early as when I killed my companions. As a ninja of Mist Shinobi, but I killed a ninja of Mist Shinobi, then what am I? Kisame seemed to be asking Mizuki, and also seemed to be asking himself. As I an enemy or a friend? What is my purpose and where is my position? Where will I go and where can I find peace? Kisame looked at his hands. I only deeply feel that I am just a hypocritical existence. A black shadow walked out from behind the expressionless fourth Mizuki. Kisame was startled. A low voice came slowly. Let me free you from this hypocritical sea of suffering. Do you want me to find you a place to stay? Advertisement. Who are you? Hoshigaki Kisame immediately became alert, and his hand was on the handle of the big sword Samahata. Starting from this country, you have been running around to punish your companions. From now on, you will act in the name of my companions. The low voice sounded again. Kisame felt that the other party trusted him very much, and he couldn't help but wonder. You seem to have a lot of confidence in me, but I don't know your true identity yet. In the darkness, a bright red Sharingan quietly opened. Hoshigaki Kisami's heart trembled. This is actually. Those eyes flashing in the darkness. Kisame seemed to understand. So that's how it is. The fourth Mizuki I thought was actually you. You used the Sharingan to manipulate the fourth Mizuki. Ha, the world is really full of hypocrisy. And you actually have the power to manipulate the Mizuki who was the Three Tails Jinchuriki. Who are you? Obito said in a deep voice. Uchiha Madara. What? Hoshigaki Kisame was shocked. That person should have been dead long ago. Obito was about to implement the final plan. Hehe, that's right, so he is biased towards you. A mocking laugh came from behind Hoshigaki Kisame. Hoshigaki Kisame heard the sound, his thoughts stopped suddenly, and he jumped aside vigilantly. Obito frowned. How could he come here? Kawasaki appeared leisurely. Sorry, your acting is so poor, I laughed out loud accidentally. Quote. Hoshigaki Kisame frowned. You are the one from that day. Kawasaki raised his eyebrows and greeted Kisame. Obito asked in a low voice. What's so funny? Kawasaki's mouth curled up with a hint of sarcasm. It was you who asked Hoshigaki Kisame to carry out these tasks, and it was you who made him confused. What right do you have to say that you want to help him get rid of his pain? Didn't you create the turmoil in Mist Shinobi in recent years by controlling Yagura with illusion? Now you are pretending to be Uchiha Madara, trying to be both in power and in authority. Obito was silent. Although he didn't understand what trying to be both in power and in authority meant, he knew it was a mockery. Kawasaki's appearance was a trouble for Obito, but he had decided to play Madara, so he had to keep calm. At this time, Kawasaki suddenly asked, Are you really Uchiha Madara? Obito had to bite the bullet and said, Yes. It seems that Obito is still holding on. Kawasaki burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Obito was a little angry. What's so funny? You said you are Uchiha Madara. Madara has been fighting on the battlefield all his life, when has he ever covered his face? How could Madara be a sneaky villain? Your illusion may fool others, but can it fool the Uchiha clan? Kawasaki scolded loudly. The most disgusting person in the world is Obito. If Obito hadn't caused trouble everywhere, why would he have to run around? Hoshigaki Kisame was silent on the side. Did that other person refer to himself? Humph. Obito, who couldn't refute it, snorted coldly. He took a step back and stood behind Yagura. Yagura waved his hand, and a mirror appeared, reflecting the appearance of Uchiha. Oh my, isn't this the legendary water mirror technique? A person who looks exactly like Kawasaki really popped out of the water mirror technique. Kawasaki's eyes lit up, and he really wanted to try this water mirror technique. He quickly formed seals with his fingers. Fire style, great fireball bed. The person in the mirror also used a great fireball. The two balls collided, and all the ninjutsu disappeared. Awesome, it can really be copied. What about Susanoo? Kawasaki activated Sharingan, and Mangekyō spun at high speed. Susanoo. The golden Susanoo instantly rose from the ground, and the surging chakra filled the dim basement. Obito's face was gloomy. How could Uchiha Kawasaki have such a powerful pupil power? Susanoo began to condense directly from the bones. The water mirror technique on the opposite side shook twice and then broke. It seems that the water mirror technique cannot copy Susanoo. Kawasaki's Susanoo has flesh and blood, and it broke the stone above his head. Under the moonlight, Kawasaki's Susanoo was covered with a hazy golden light. On the other side, Yagura, who was half-tailed, had already transformed into a beast, and his chakra was scattered out of control. Obito, wearing a mask, stood behind him, and his Sharingan slowly rotated with an ominous red light. When Yagura was transformed into a beast, Obito could not be completely invisible. This was in the heart of Mist Shinobi, and the battle had to be resolved quickly. Yagura, who had transformed into a beast, jumped up and hit Susanoo with his palm. Kawasaki planned to meet the attack head-on, using his Susanoo arm to block it. Bang! Advertisement. With a muffled sound, a huge coral grew on Susanoo's arm. Kawasaki's Susanoo did not retreat a step, but just threw off the coral. He slapped Yagura with his palm, and Yagura flew backwards, right into Obito. Obito looked at Yagura flying towards him expressionlessly, but did not move at all. Sure enough, Yagura penetrated his body and continued to fly backwards. Kawasaki's Susanoo drew out his saber and slashed at the king. Go ahead, trash. Aren't you going to pretend to be Uchiha Madara? Boom. A loud noise. A gap appeared in the ground, and dust flew up. But the blade only pierced through Obito's body, leaving the king's hair intact. Obito sneered. You can't hurt me. Yagura, covered with a chakra coat, attacked at an astonishing speed. Boom boom boom. In the fierce roar, no matter how fiercely Yagura attacked, Kawasaki calmly resolved it. Sir, are we not intervening? The people around Terumi-Mei asked. Terumi-Mei narrowed her eyes. The time is not right. But Mizukage. Terumi-Mei interrupted him. That's a puppet. Not Mizukage. Yes, sir. Mizukage's several high-speed attacks were blocked by Kawasaki's Susanoo, but Kawasaki still seemed to be at ease. Could it be that his eye technique can reduce the consumption of Susanoo? I wonder how long your Susanoo can last. Obito's tone was mixed with provocation and inquiry. The mist shinobi has not yet appeared, and Terumi-Mei can really keep her composure. And Kisame was not far away, staring at this side with shark eyes. Kawasaki chuckled, and pointed the 283rd blade of Susanoo at Obito. You don't have to worry about that. Where is your Susanoo? Uchiha Madara without Susanoo. Uchiha Madara hiding. Without Susanoo, you are just a maggot. Although Terumi-Mei had cleared the interference around, their confrontation was too fierce, and the Susanoo was tens of meters high. In the dark night, it was like a blazing torch, and the surroundings were as bright as day. More people from Kurigakure gathered, and Terumi-Mei saw so many people coming. She knew that it was impossible to get by, so she stood tall, called out, and led everyone to rush forward. Until then, Obito suddenly realized that he was already surrounded by the hidden Thousand Garden Village. Kawasaki. Obito was shocked and angry, and the power in his eyes was urged again. Driving the fourth Mizukage to completely transform into the tailed beast form. Yagura Kodachi transformed from a human form into Isogai in the blink of an eye. Isogai's body expanded rapidly, and its size was comparable to Kawasaki's Susanoo. Like a giant turtle wearing armor, waving three thick tails. Oh 9. Oh 9. Unlike suppressing 9 tails, Obito had to resist Yagura Kodachi's will while controlling Isogai. Even for Obito, this consumption of pupil power was very large. Shadow Caress. Isogai's whole body was tense, and the heavy shell on the back covered the whole body and rushed forward like a rolling wheel. Boom. A loud sound like an earthquake. Isogai used his huge body and weight to rush over with a crushing force. Kawasaki's pupil power exploded again, and Susanoo became more substantial, and her body evolved from flesh and blood to armor. The weapon in his hand became more solid and huge. Kawasaki's Susanoo swept out and collided fiercely with Isoko's body. Boom. For a moment, the mountains shook and the earth trembled. The roar in the distance made the Kurigakure people on the periphery look horrified. The flying stones were like scattered kunai, making the Kurigakure people dare not even get close. Is this the power of the tailed beast? Is that the strength of Susanoo? It can actually be evenly matched with the 3 tails. Terumi-Mei's face was livid. Whether it was Uchiha Kawasaki or the fourth Mizukage, their strength was beyond her imagination. Susanoo and Isoko were competing in strength, and neither side could overwhelm the other. Bug, you were the one who controlled the Nine Tails Rebellion in Konoha back then. Now you use the same method to control Mizukage. Do you dare to take off your mask? Kawasaki's voice was loud and echoed in Kurigakure. Is Mizukage being controlled, or is it the person who controls Konoha Nine Tails? Is it true? Many people in Kurigakure came because of the noise, and some only heard that someone was impersonating Uchiha Madara. Now they know that the Mizukage of their village is fighting an Uchiha. They even heard that Mizukage was controlled. Obito was horrified. How did Kawasaki know that the Nine Tails Rebellion was caused by him? Kawasaki took the opportunity to use his pupil power to hit Isogai directly. Wake up. Isogai paused, and was then thrown away by Susanoo. Chapter 64 Kawasaki's Eye Technique. Successfully recruited Shiro. Obito Kamui failed. Seeing that Isobu paused, Obito increased his pupil power and regained control of Isobu. Kawasaki shook his head helplessly and reflected. He couldn't fight anymore, otherwise the secret of the Eternal Eye would be exposed. He pretended to be injured first. He wiped his eyes casually, and a little blood red appeared. Your eyes are in pain, right? I wonder how much pupil movement you have left. Obito's voice was cold, and seeing Kawasaki trying his best to hide the red, his tone was full of confidence. He stood with his hands on his chest, as if everything was under control. Is it great to be able to hollow? Kawasaki suddenly had an idea and pretended to be exhausted, panting and covering his eyes. Susanoo degenerated into a flesh and blood state, and the wusion in his hand dissipated. Obito sneered in his heart, it was indeed like this. Ha! Kawasaki trembled all over and roared. The last blow. Susanoo condensed again, put on armor, and solidified his weapon. Obito looked at Kawasaki's desperate look, with a hint of sarcasm on his lips. Buzz buzz buzz. A purple black-tailed beast bomb began to gather in front of Three Tails Iso. Kawasaki's heart was set when he saw Obito standing fearlessly. Aim no Murasaki style, the name of Kawasaki's eye technique. In an instant, Kawasaki's eye power rushed into Susanoo's weapon. Susanoo's weapon seemed to be covered with a layer of light, and the air around it was shaking. Kawasaki slashed down with a knife, and the target was exactly Obito. Obito's mouth curled up with a contemptuous smile. I have Kamui space, can you hurt me? As he slashed down with a knife, he brought out a crazy warning in his heart. It was like the fear of a small animal when it encountered a disaster. This kind of fear and despair has only been felt when Mangekyō is activated. How is it possible? Obito, following his heart, instantly gave up control of Mizukage. Izanagi was activated. Sizzle. A sound like a mirror breaking. No huge explosion, no smoke. A huge 50-meter deep ditch silently opened up on the ground, like an abyss. The edge was as smooth as a mirror, as if it had been erased by an eraser. The person pretending to be Uchiha Madara disappeared completely. Everyone present was stunned, their expressions were terrified beyond words. Some people's legs went soft and they sat down on the ground. The moment Obito released Izanagi, Yagura took back the control of his body and stopped the release of Tailed Beast Bomb. If Tailed Beast Bomb exploded in the village, Kakusai Village Road would suffer heavy damage. Yagura, who had transformed into a tailed beast, quickly returned to his original appearance. Looking at the ditch cut by Kawasaki, he couldn't say a word. Huh, I finally got rid of you, a hateful bug, with my own hands. Kawasaki put away Susanoo, exhausted. In the past, when he used the aim kume style in the dream space, his pupil power was complete. After leaving, he gave a part of his pupil power to Fugaku, and never used the aim kume style with full strength again. I didn't expect that it would be so difficult to condense the aim kume style without full pupil power. But it was really refreshing to be able to kill Obito once. There was silence all around. Kawasaki looked up and found that people were standing there like wooden sculptures. Kawasaki frowned. According to the plot, shouldn't Terumi-Mei take over the conversation? What are you standing there for? Ahem. Kawasaki cleared his throat. Terumi-Mei suddenly woke up. She stepped forward, looked at the gully with fear, and then said to the doctor. Mizukage-sama, you are under the control of illusion, causing great losses to the village. So I went to Konoha to invite the deputy chief of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Kawasaki-sama, to help us remove the illusion. Yagura was conscious when he was controlled. He knew what he had done and was angry and desperate. As the head of a village, the perfect Jinchuriki was controlled by illusion and became a tool for others. Mist Shinobi was thus left in tatters, a shame that would be hard to erase in a lifetime. But he had a blank expression at the moment, looking at the gully caused by Kawasaki. What if this blow landed on him? Yagura shuddered, as if he had just woken up. After a long time, Yagura sighed and looked at Kawasaki deeply. All Mist Shinobi senior executives will. After saying that, Yagura no longer paid attention to the eyes of others, nor did he care about the complicated eyes of the Kurigakure people present. He had made a decision and walked towards the village meeting room first. The members of Mist Shinobi dispersed one by one, and everyone secretly glanced at Kawasaki when they left, with both admiration and fear in their eyes. After Kawasaki left the stage to them, he silently looked for Hoshigaki Kisami's location. Hoshigaki Kisame was lying on the ground, and the big knife next to him was also abandoned in the factory. The huge rift not far away was not as empty as the emptiness in his heart. Fake. All of it is fake. Even Uchiha Madara is fake. Advertisement. What is the true face of this world? At this time, Uchiha Kawasaki's face came into Hoshigaki Kisami's eyes. Hey, do you want to join my team and hang out with me? Quote. No worries about food and drink, no need to kill each other, and no need to worry about betrayal. Hoshigaki Kisami's shark-like eyes slowly turned. He sat up, looking at the smiling Kawasaki in front of him, and then looking at the abyss next to him. He really couldn't connect the two. What are you going to do? Hoshigaki Kisami's voice was extremely dry. As for me, when I don't have the ability, I just lie down and rest. When I have the ability, I naturally do what I want to do. Kawasaki smiled. Kisame opened his mouth to speak, and the image of the girl flashed in his mind. Your life has been very difficult. Kisame lay back down. It's too difficult, forget it. Quote. Kawasaki smiled and said nothing. Brother Hoshigaki. A gentle voice sounded in his ears. Is it an illusion? Kisame didn't believe it at first, but still turned his head towards the voice. Kurita Anko tilted her head and said to Hoshigaki Kisame, we agreed to have dinner together. Quote. Water country. Ding. Congratulations to the host for greatly changing the life trajectory of Hoshigaki Kisame. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Big Explosion Water Wave 1. Ding. Successfully recruited Hoshigaki Kisame. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Water Attribute Affinity. Kisame had dinner with Kyoko. I don't know what Kyoko told him, but Kisame decided to follow Kawasaki. With the affinity for water attributes, Kawasaki's learning of water style became twice as effective with half the effort, and it was also much easier to find water sources. Although ninjutsu is better than nothing, after all, he can practice it himself, it just takes some time. But Kurita Kyoko did not receive any reward, perhaps because she did not leave a famous minister in the story. Kawasaki was worried that Terumi Mei and Yagura would not hand over Samahata. As a result, the two cooperated unusually and respectfully presented the information Kawasaki needed, and the big sword Samahata returned to Hoshigaki Kisame. Terumi Mei also expressed her wish to be with him forever in the future. The Uchiha clan formed an alliance, supported each other, and kept a low profile. Terumi Mei and Yagura had no choice but to do this, as Mist Shinobi no longer had much high-end combat power. And Yagura had been controlled by Sharingan. As the winner, Kawasaki obviously had stronger pupil power. Even without Sharingan control, Yagura was no match for Kawasaki. Now the ruined Mist Shinobi could no longer afford new enemies. After the scandal of Mizukage being controlled by illusion, Yagura explained everything. He passed the position of 5th Mizukage to Terumi Mei. He was imprisoned in Mist Shinobi's prison. Although he deserved death, he was a Jinchuriki after all. He was an important strategic asset of the village. Before finding a suitable successor Jinchuriki, he could not die easily. The new Mizukage took the throne, which was a big deal for the current for Kurigakure. There was no obvious improvement for a while. The long-term rule of the Blood Mist and the destruction of the bloodline boundary family have plunged the entire hidden land into chaos. The water country is isolated overseas, and Kurigakure hides in the mountains. It is shrouded in thick fog all year round and is relatively closed, so the relationship with the daimyo is closer. The chaos of Mist Shinobi has not only led to the decline of one ninja village, but also has a huge chain reaction. Even the national strength of the water country has declined greatly. If it were not for its remote location, it would be hard to say whether other major countries would have any ideas. After Kawasaki got the necessary information, he left Kurigakure and embarked on the road to find people. The water country has vast islands and mountainous terrain, and the customs and habits vary from place to place. There are many islanders who live according to customs, and the climate changes like the 4 seasons. Because it is far away from the mainland and blocked by the ocean, this is also the reason why the water country rarely participated in the past Ninja World War. But in just a few years, the entire water country was dragged into a mess. Along the way, the people were pale and thin, and all kinds of ninjas of unknown origin were everywhere. There are also people who regard Kawasaki as a fat sheep. Kawasaki has dealt with several batches along the way, but there are still people who keep coming to provoke. If it weren't for the purpose of looking for someone, Kawasaki didn't want to stay in these remote villages at all. Later, he simply let Kisame wear the Mist Shinobi forehead protector, and the harassment was reduced. The weather was getting colder, and snowflakes began to fall. Bai curled up beside the garbage dump, and stretched out a hand with empty eyes. He caught a snowflake, and the snowflake melted in his palm instantly. At this time, a cart nearby dumped a lot of garbage. Bai immediately got up and searched for food in the garbage. Pooh, woof. A dog barked at Bai. Bai kicked it away indifferently, and the dog fell to the ground with a whimper. At this time, 2 puppies rushed out from the corner, rushed to the big dog, and grinned at Bai. Bai lowered his eyes, and there was an emotion in his eyes that was difficult to interpret. He ignored it, did not search the garbage again, and turned away. Even dogs have people who need them, so what about me? Finally I found you. A voice sounded in my ears, and then a large cloak was draped over Bai's shoulders. A warm feeling came, and Bai turned around with a slight tremor. I saw 2 men and 1 woman standing behind him, and the man in front was looking at him with a smile. Advertisement. The man behind him was not good looking, with blue skin, a fierce look, and a huge weapon on his back. Who are you? Did you find the wrong person? The 10-year-old Bai was thin and short, and his pretty face was full of stains. He had black hair, a slightly empty look in his eyes, and a chain like a dog leash was tied around his neck. Click. A crisp sound. Kawasaki retracted the knife, and the chain on Bai's neck broke. I'm looking for you. I need a partner like you. Can you help me? Bai stared blankly, and the dog chain that had been imposed on him by others fell off. You need me. Bai's eyes flashed with an unusual fluctuation. Kawasaki patted Bai's head. Yes, I need you. Bai felt as if a ray of light had entered his world. He showed a gentle smile. My name is Bai. Kawasaki took out a bun from his pocket. Eat something to fill your stomach first, I'll take you to wash up. My name is Uchiha Kawasaki. Bai obediently took the warm bun and took a bite. He chewed it carefully several times before swallowing it, and a warm feeling rose from his stomach. Kurita Kyoko squatted down and handed him a kettle. Eat slowly, be careful not to choke. Quote. Kurita Anko was already used to seeing homeless children like Bai, and her heart gradually became numb. However, she really didn't understand why Kawasaki looked at Bai differently. The information Kawasaki got was just that there had been an ice escape out of control incident in a nearby village, but the exact location was unclear. In addition, Bai was wandering around, so Kawasaki ran through several rural markets before he found Bai. Bai swallowed the bun with water in a few bites. Kawasaki sighed and helped Bai tie his robe tighter. Are you still cold? Bai shook his head again. I'm not afraid of the cold. Kawasaki took the towel from Kurita Anko's hand and gently wiped Bai's face twice. Bai dodged shyly for a few times, but Kawasaki finally cleaned the stains off his face. Under the messy hair, a pretty little face was revealed. Kawasaki exclaimed sincerely, and then he looked at Bai. Then he looked at Kurita Kyoko, thinking that both of them were good-looking. But, Bai, are you a boy or a girl? Bai grew up in a long-term hungry environment. Although he is 11 or 12 years old, he looks only 7 or 8 years old. There is no gender feature in his appearance. Bai smiled and said gently, I am a boy. Kawasaki had expected it in his heart, but Kurita Kyoko was surprised. She had always thought that Bai was a girl. Ding. Congratulations to the host for greatly changing Bai's life trajectory. Closing square bracket. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Magic Mirror Ice Crystal 1. Ding. Successfully recruited Bai. Closing square bracket. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Natural Affinity. What's going on? Kawasaki was a little confused. After recruiting Bai, shouldn't he gain the ability of Water Style or Ice Style? If he is naturally friendly with Bai's personality, he is indeed suitable for practicing immortal arts. Hoshigaki Kisame stood aside like a bodyguard, his eyes moved, and then returned to a dull state. In the Kamui space, the real and the unreal intertwined, and Obito appeared on the ground. His right eye revealed a huge fear. How could it be possible? Even the space was cut apart. Kamui is ineffective. How could it be possible? After a long time, Obito took off the mask and put it aside, and his palm was empty. When he turned around, he found a deep gully next to him. Countless stone platforms were completely swallowed up, and the cuts were as smooth as mirrors. It's not that Kamui is ineffective, but even Kamui space is swallowed up. Uchiha Kawasaki, how can your eye technique be so powerful? Obito was still in fear. If he hadn't used Izanagi at the end, he would have died. Lin, are you protecting me? De Wong Zhao. There may be thousands of ways to die, but leaving under Kawasaki's knife is painless and painless. At that moment, everything disappeared. Obito was reborn and could only recall the fear of that moment. If the Sharingan in his left eye had not turned gray, Obito would hardly believe it. The almost invincible power of Kamui also has a time to fail. It took Obito a long time to calm down and carefully review this duel. Kawasaki's Susanoo is extremely powerful, and his pupil power is both strong and long-lasting. One of his pupil techniques may reduce the consumption of Susanoo, while another one enhances the power of his weapon. Madara took a lot of classics from Uchiha, and Obito has read them all over the years. But after searching in his mind, he could not find any specific information about this pupil technique. It doesn't matter, as long as Kawasaki doesn't have the opportunity to strengthen his weapons, my Kamui will still be invincible. Kawasaki's Sharingan is too threatening, he must be eliminated. The situation in Kurigakure is becoming increasingly complicated, and the struggles between the various factions are intensifying. Although Terumi may has become the 5th Mizukage, there are still many people who are dissatisfied. Because of the Yagura incident, many people have lost confidence in Mizukage. There are many calls for Yagura to be executed. Zabuza took advantage of Yagura's imprisonment to assassinate him, but failed. If Yagura had not intended to leave the prison, Zabuza would have died. Kawasaki found Haku and went straight to the Yoruichi clan. Kisami's starting point of strength is Jonin, and Tien Shangzi is a member of the Sonogakure secret team. The two can naturally keep up, but Haku is not in good physical condition, untrained, and not fast. Kawasaki was worried that Kimimaro might move, so he had to pick up Haku and hurry on. Although Bai is not small, he is very thin. Kawasaki feels like holding a porcelain doll every time. Although Bai blushes every time, in order not to delay things, he has to let Kawasaki hold him and move forward. Fortunately, there are Hoshigaki Kisame and Kurita Anzi, both of whom are locals. Otherwise, Kawasaki really can't find the location of the Wei Yoruichi tribe. When the few people arrived at the Kagaya tribe, it was almost late at night, and they saw flames there. Are we late? Kawasaki frowned. Chapter 65 Dead Bone Pulse. Dance of the Early Ferns. Credit to Kawasaki. Sasuke Training Plan. Activate Sharingan. Kawasaki could not remember where Kimimaro was. Was he imprisoned in the dungeon, or had he broken through the siege? Water country, outside the Kagaya tribe, in the woods. A white-haired child leaned against a tree, his green eyes were calm, and his eyelids were set off by a blush. I am the only one left again. I have been imprisoned lonely since birth, and I left the cage only to fight. After the battle, Kimimaro felt empty, and he did not understand the meaning of living. Kimimaro strolled by the lake, thinking about the meaning of life. Suddenly, he found that he had been here before. That time, he found a flower in the weedy swamp. Kimimaro took 2 steps forward. Sure enough, the flower still bloomed in this desolate place. The flower was white and soft, with a few dewdrops, and the breeze blew gently, and the flower swayed gently. Kimimaro stared at the white flower for a long time and asked, why is it blooming here? Suddenly, he became angry. Why don't you answer me? You ignore me too. No one will see it in this place where no one cares. He held a bone knife and wanted to destroy the flower, just like destroying himself. Don't do this. A voice sounded from behind. Kimimaro suddenly turned around and found that someone was standing behind him. Living may not have a meaning, but living has the possibility of finding meaning. Kawasaki paused for a moment. Just like you found the flower, and I found you. Kawasaki slowly approached Kimimaro and stroked his face, and Kimimaro's face quickly turned red. Orochimaru is worthy of being a psychological mentor. Borrowing your words is much faster than I think. Come with me. A figure flashed in the forest, and Kurita Anzi fell down holding by, followed by Hoshigaki Kisame. Kawasaki waved his hand to signal Kimimaro not to be nervous. Partners. My name is Uchiha Kawasaki, this is Kurita Kyoko, this is Hoshigaki Kisame, and this is Shiro. Kawasaki briefly introduced himself and then asked. What's your name? My name is Kimimaro. Kawasaki smiled. From now on, we are partners. Kimimaro nodded, but his eyes turned to Shiro. Although Shiro changed into new clothes and cleaned up, Kimimaro could still notice Shiro's thinness. Especially Shiro's eyes, which were shining. Hoshigaki Kisame stood behind, with a pair of shark eyes that seemed to be glaring at people all the time. Ding. Congratulations to the host for greatly changing Kimimaro's life path. Closing square bracket. Congratulations on obtaining Early Fern Dance X1. Ding. Successfully recruited Kimimaro. Closing square bracket. Congratulations on obtaining Combat Intuition. Hiss. Kawasaki was surprised. This is the talent that taijutsu ninjas dream of. As a physical ninja, close combat is full of dangers every minute and every second. Some special ninjutsu can be launched very quickly, and if you don't react in time, you may die in an instant. Therefore, pure physical ninjutsu ninjas are extremely rare among ninjas, and Guy is a special case of special cases. After all, Guy doesn't have the indestructible bones like Kimimaro, and a mistake in close combat can be fatal. With this talent, Kawasaki narrowed his eyes slightly, wondering if the plan could come true. What he didn't expect was that Kimimaro and Bai quickly became familiar with each other. Perhaps it was because Kimimaro and Bai were both lonely. Kimimaro was imprisoned in the dungeon for a long time, and he himself didn't know how old he was. His age could not be seen from his bones. But from the memory of the previous life, Kimimaro and Bai both died at the age of 15. Kawasaki deduced that Kimimaro and Bai were about the same age. However, Kimimaro was half a head taller than Bai and was healthier. Kimimaro at least had food to eat when he was imprisoned, while Bai was always wandering. Kawasaki tested Kimimaro's dead bone pulse bloodline limit, which was born for fighting. Although Kimimaro had not received formal training and his attacks were haphazard. But it was difficult to predict his attack direction. After all, Kimimaro used all the bones in his body as weapons. In terms of the use of bloodline limits, Kimimaro currently only draws out bones to fight. As for the various dances of dead bone pulse, they have been deeply imprinted in his mind. Kawasaki was very curious about who taught Kimimaro these dances. You know, although the Wei Yoruichi tribe used bones to fight, but dead bone pulse liked Kimimaro. Only Kimimaro has it. Secret arts like the early fern dance cannot be taught to him when he was young. Kimimaro's answer surprised Kawasaki. He said that these dances appeared in his mind on their own. They were not taught by others. Advertisement. This made Kawasaki more certain that the Wei Yoruichi tribe was indeed the descendants of Ōtsutsuki Kagaya. And Kimimaro was the child who showed atavism. This atavism was not the first time, otherwise there would not be the name, Dead Bone Pulse. Kimimaro's atavism, from dead bone pulse to appearance and skin whiteness, was very close to Ōtsutsuki Kagaya. Today's Wei Yoruichi tribe, everyone has an ordinary face. Kimimaro's cold and aloof appearance is definitely an outlier in the tribe. After eating the chakra fruit, Princess Kagaya's personality tended to be deified. The way gods look at humans is the same as how humans look at animals. Therefore, you will feel her indifference and nobility. As an adult, Kimimaro fully demonstrates this atavistic temperament. If the eyes of Uchiha and Hyuga symbolize the eyes of the immortal, then the chakra of the Uzumaki clan is the symbol of the sage body. Kimimaro's dead bone pulse as the symbol of the essence of the immortal CIBG. Unfortunately, descendants cannot bear such bloodlines. Most of those who have atavism cannot bear gene mutations. The inheritance of Uchiha and Byakugan is relatively stable, but it is precisely because of this stability. Uchiha needs to break through the bloodline constraints step by step and seek atavism. But in the Mangekyō stage, Uchiha cannot control it, so this power is accompanied by side effects. The same is true for other bloodlines. The stronger the bloodline, the greater the risk. There is no need to take risks with Byakugan because they do not evolve. If there is a way to evolve Byakugan into Tenseigan, there will be corresponding risks. Hashirama's recovery ability is very strong, but his death is always a mystery. Kawasaki speculated that Hashirama's cells were dividing too fast and too much, exhausting his vitality. Kimimaro is now facing a similar situation, and Kawasaki plans to send him to Orochimaru as soon as possible. Orochimaru has been studying for 2 years and has achieved certain results. Perhaps he can find a way to let Kimimaro carry the essence of the immortal. As long as Kimimaro can withstand genetic mutations. Kagai's final killing gray bone will be the ultimate evolution of dead bone pulse. In his previous life, Orochimaru's research on immortal arts only stopped at the curse seal on Jugo. Those are all low-level forms of immortal arts, so they have serious corrosion and side effects on the body. Kawasaki's idea is that those who have the potential to practice immortal arts should master immortal arts. Before Ōtsutsuki arrives, use immortal arts to take the lead. In Konoha village, the course of Konoha Shinobi School is over. The Anbu, who is directly under the Hokage, still monitors Naruto every day. And Naruto has never shown any abnormality. However, his relationship with Sasuke was getting closer and closer, and he would escort Sasuke to his home every day before returning alone. Today was no exception. Naruto and Sasuke talked while walking, and then Naruto followed Sasuke into the Uchiha territory. Anbu members could only stand outside stupidly, because the third Hokage ordered that they were not allowed to enter the Uchiha territory. Fortunately, Naruto always came and went in a hurry, and left in just a few minutes after sending Sasuke. After returning home, Naruto worked diligently on his homework and training, which made Anbu worry less. But what they didn't know was, in the Uchiha territory, a dozen of Naruto's clones were working hard to blow up balloons filled with water, and the water balls were deformed. Sasuke was running fast on the surface of the courtyard pond, rushing to the other side, stopping suddenly and sprinting back and forth. After a few rounds of such high-intensity training, Sasuke fell to the ground exhausted. Looking at a large number of clones competing with the water balls not far away, Sasuke showed a trace of envy in his eyes. But then he turned his head and stared at the water surface. In the reflection of the water surface, a magatama was spinning in each of Sasuke's eyes. Sasuke's mouth corners rose, and then he put away his smile. After a short break, they stood up and started training again. Fugaku stood on a high place, with his hands folded in front of his chest, observing the two people's training. Kawasaki was really insightful. Not only was Sasuke talented, but Naruto also grew rapidly under the teaching of individualized teaching. Sasuke opened Sharingan at the age of 9, comparable to Itachi. Itachi opened it during wartime, while Sasuke opened it in peacetime. Of course, Fugaku did not think that Sasuke's talent was higher than Itachi's, but attributed everything to Kawasaki. If Kawasaki had not revealed to Fugaku the various characteristics of Sharingan and how to encourage Sasuke to stimulate them, Sasuke would never have opened Sharingan at such a young age. Before leaving, Kawasaki had handed over the detailed training plan for Sasuke and Naruto to Fugaku, and Fugaku was responsible for supervising the training of the two children. Considering the third generation's monitoring of Naruto and Naruto's own special physique, Kawasaki specifically ordered Fugaku to teach Naruto shadow clone technique. He arranged for Naruto to come to Uchiha territory with Sasuke after school every day, leaving his clones there for training, while the main body went home to rest. At first, Sasuke didn't believe that Naruto could master this B-level ninjutsu. But the result surprised Sasuke, and he was puzzled that Naruto was far inferior to him in all aspects. But in shadow clone technique, Naruto learned it immediately. He could even easily split dozens of shadow clone, and the dissipation of shadow clone had no negative impact on Naruto, at most making him feel tired. Seeing Naruto's rapid progress after using shadow clone, Sasuke actually felt a little envious. Advertisement. He also begged Fugaku to teach shadow clone technique. Fugaku sternly refused and emphasized to Sasuke that only Naruto could use shadow clone in this way, and it would be dangerous for others to try. The young and energetic Sasuke was not convinced. Seeing that Naruto learned so easily, he insisted that Fugaku teach him. Finally, Uchiha Makoto couldn't stand it anymore and secretly gave Sasuke the scroll of shadow clone. Sasuke was full of confidence, but it took him a whole week to learn it. In the end, Sasuke exhausted his chakra and only summoned one shadow clone. Although the number was small, which made Sasuke feel a little disappointed, but the doubling of training efficiency made Sasuke excited. That day, he and his clones exceeded the training task and practiced some extra. Fugaku folded his arms and remained silent. However, after shadow clone disappeared, Sasuke fainted directly. He lay at home for 2 days before recovering. After waking up, Sasuke felt his head buzzing and could not fully recover for a long time. At this point, Sasuke realized that everyone has something they are good at, and they should not force themselves to try things they don't understand. He recalled the teachings of Mr. Kawasaki about the problem of controllability. Knowing that he was too arrogant, he apologized to Fugaku with some shame. Fugaku said to Sasuke with a slight smile, "Kawasaki is right. Once you gain a little ability or learn something, you will become arrogant. Your mother gave you the shadow clone scroll to see if you can recognize yourself. You really don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. You just follow others. I told you that Naruto has a special physique and only he can learn shadow clone now. Why didn't you listen?" Kawasaki said that once you see Naruto can do something, you will be eager to imitate it, regardless of whether it is appropriate. Sure enough, he said it. Sasuke stammered. Did teacher Kawasaki even expect this? Your teacher is so wise that he had already anticipated your reaction when designing your training plan. You are a person who has no memory and will not listen to what I say. You will never obey unless you suffer a little loss. Now you know that Shadow Clone is not suitable for you, right? Sasuke blushed and lowered his head without saying anything. Fugaku originally planned to stop here, but he remembered Kawasaki's analysis of Sasuke's character. He insisted on comparing Naruto with Sasuke repeatedly. You are better at academic subjects than Naruto. Is this a reason for you to be proud? You have received elite education since childhood, while Naruto has no one to guide you. It is natural that your foundation is better than his, not a matter of pride. Naruto has to take care of his life by himself, while you have everything you need. Quote. You spend a lot of time every day practicing ninjutsu and shuriken throwing. You are better than others, right? Naruto has the wind attribute and can use wind style. Can you? Why do you want to compete? Fugaku turned into the most strict father and belittled Sasuke. Finally, Sasuke admitted his mistake with tears. When he looked up, Fugaku found that Sasuke had quietly opened the Sharingan. Before he could be happy, Sasuke fainted again. After waking up, although Sasuke was happy to open the Sharingan, he was no longer as arrogant as before. Afterwards, according to the training plan formulated by Kawasaki, Sasuke completed it seriously. The various high-intensity trainings that Sasuke is currently doing are all to lay the foundation for learning Chidori in the future. Sasuke, who has the thunder attribute, is undoubtedly most suitable for Chidori. Kawasaki hopes that Sasuke will learn Chidori as soon as possible and embark on the lightning-style exploration journey in advance. The Uchiha clan naturally has Chidori, which was passed on to the Uchiha clan by Kakashi himself. Because of Obito's Sharingan, Konoha had spent a lot of resources. As for Chidori, it was Kakashi who voluntarily taught it to the Uchiha clan. In the Uchiha territory, Patriarch Uchiha Kiming brought new information. Master Hazashi's position was replaced by the Hyuga clan. This is the letter that Master Hazashi asked me to pass on. Fugaku opened the letter, which was an apology letter from Hazashi. The third generation reached an agreement with the elders of the Hyuga clan to replace him and reminded Fugaku to be careful. Fugaku frowned. Is the third generation going to take action? At this time, another Uchiha member came to report. Master Fugaku, all the members of our security team deployed in the 8th block have been replaced. Quote. Konoha 8 streets. Today, all Uchiha shops are open for business, and they find that the patrolling guards have been replaced by unfamiliar faces instead of Uchiha people. They have cold expressions, not as friendly as Yongzia. The well-informed shopkeepers have found out that these people were members of the Root organization and were previously responsible for patrolling streets 1 to 4. We Uchiha are doing a good job, why should we change them? The shopkeepers were quite dissatisfied, and some went to the guard to report the situation. But they found that Hyuga Hazashi was no longer there, replaced by an older Hyuga. He didn't seem to know much about the transfer of the guard, and he didn't want to say much to the civilians. Song responded arrogantly. This is a normal personnel adjustment of the guard. Then he said no more and waved to let people leave. After being driven out, the shopkeeper was full of anger. How could the Hyuga people be so arrogant? On the way back, he met Hyuga Yongren. Hyuga Yongren was arrested last time Jiraiya established an image, and many people in the village knew him. The shop owner pulled Hyuga Yuto and complained. Why is the guard reception no longer headed by Lord Hazashi? You know how bad the old man's attitude is, he didn't even look at me. Hyuga Yuto hurriedly covered his mouth. Keep your voice down, that's the main family. The shop owner lowered his voice. Why do you Hyuga main family manage the guard? Hyuga Yuto looked around. This matter is not something that a branch house person like me can interfere with. Hazashi Tianrin has returned to the clan. Now the guard is all managed by the main family. The boss said dissatisfiedly. When will you change the Uchiha guard back? You don't know. Those people in the root, they are cold and sarcastic, and they don't look like good people. Hyuga Yuto spread his hands. Lord Hazashi is not here, I can't do anything. The boss could only leave with a lot of anger. Chapter 66 Kawasaki's layout. At its peak. Unfathomable. On Konoha 8 Street, many bosses opened their shops as usual after failing to reason with the guards. The guards of the root also began to patrol normally. At first, they thought the Uchiha shops were okay. But after a long time, they felt something was wrong. These root guards always wandered around the door of the Uchiha shops. As a result, some customers were unwilling to deal with these root members and simply did not enter the shops. The Uchiha shop owners all went to negotiate, saying that they did not need so many people to patrol and guard here. But the other party simply ignored it. Once the Uchiha shop owner had any extreme behavior, he would be arrested immediately. Danzo hid in the shadows of the street corner and smiled coldly. He used to look down on these small businesses. Until later, his investigator told him about the profitability of these Uchiha restaurants. He really began to pay attention to these shops. If these shops were all his own, he would not have to worry about research funds. He would no longer be constrained by the third Hokage. Without asking the third generation for money, the third generation would naturally not care about him. Even if the third generation disagreed to rebuild the root, it would only be a superficial cover. Therefore, he had to get all the small shops in Uchiha. Today was just a tentative step. There would naturally be other tricks later. There was still a long time, so take it slowly. But he didn't know that Uchiha had already had a response plan. After Fugaku received the news from Hizashi, the news from the guards followed. Then the news from the ordinary shop owners in Uchiha. The information reached Fugaku through various channels. In just a few hours, Fugaku responded quickly. In each Uchiha shop, an Uchiha tribe member entered. After the tribe member made a few pre-arranged gestures to the shop owner, he hurriedly left the shop. Immediately afterwards, the root members who were still spying found that these shops either had problems with the stove or burst water pipes. The stove was broken, the pot was broken, and the raw materials were contaminated. The shop owners apologized to the villagers who were still queuing with regret. Dear customers, I'm very sorry. Our kitchenware broke down today and we can't continue to supply food. We have to close today. The customers were disappointed. How could this happen? I've been queuing for an hour just to eat your spicy lobster. That's right, I came here early in the morning to queue up. What equipment is broken? I can fix it. Don't close the door. The shop owner gestured to apologize and said, every customer who is still queuing will receive a coupon for 3 pounds of spicy fried lobster. Please come back another day. 3 pounds of coupons are not small, at least worth a few hundred taels of silver. Although the customers complained a little, they still accepted the coupons and left one after another. The villager who said he would help repair the equipment was pulled aside by the shop owner. My friend, our equipment is not broken, and we have to close the door. The villager was surprised. You don't even make money. The shop owner raised his chin slightly and motioned him to look outside. The man really saw several root members wandering around. The shopkeeper gave a knowing look. The villagers seemed to understand, but still accepted the coupons from the shopkeeper and left. Afterwards, all the shops in Uchiha were closed under the surveillance of the root. The villagers who were unable to eat the food looked at the root members intentionally or unintentionally. The root members saw this, but did not care. They just reported this series of events to Danzo. Danzo waved his hand calmly. It's okay. Since they are in this business, they will reopen someday. There is no rush. Next, the merchants in Uchiha started a protracted war with the roots. Danzo originally thought that Uchiha would close for a day or two at most and then reopen, but he didn't expect that. These shops that make a lot of money every day were closed for 7 days. In 7 days, countless customers walked to the door and left disappointed. This is all hard-earned money. Danzo couldn't sit still, and the elder of the Hyuga family was even more uneasy. At first, he used his power to let Hizashi, the branch house, go back to rest and go into battle himself. Because Danzo came to the door and proposed that there was a position of honorary elder that could be traded, and the Hyuga family needed to show some expression. As a result, when he came, it was just a simple shift change, and all the Uchiha restaurants closed their doors. Now not only can they not get any benefits, but they may also cause more trouble. You know, these years these restaurants have driven the consumption of the entire street. Even the Hokage praised the prosperous 8 streets. Now all the restaurants are closed, and the flow of people in 8 streets has dropped visibly. The Uchiha family has not said anything yet. The complaint letters from other non-Uchiha family store owners on 8 streets have already flown to the Hokage like snowflakes. There is no way. The Hyuga family's head elder came and started to stir up trouble. Everyone began to go to him to report the situation, but they were so angry that their faces turned blue. Later, everyone simply bypassed the guards and complained directly to the Hokage. In Konoha village, although the Uchiha family did not mention anything, but when those bosses closed their shops, they all winked at the customers and secretly pointed at the root organization next to them. The root organization had a bad reputation, so everyone naturally started to speculate. Were the security guards of the root organization looking for trouble with the Uchiha family? Deliberately making the Uchiha family unable to do business. The villagers spoke as if they had seen it with their own eyes, and felt that this root organization was here to bring down the Uchiha family. As a result, Hyuga Hiyashi was invited to the Hokage building. The third generation smoked a cigarette and said to Hiyashi with an unhappy face, I don't care what agreement your Hyuga family and Danzo have reached privately. Anyway, the Uchiha store must be reopened within 3 days. Quote. Initially, Hiyashi did not agree with the elder of the main family to broadcast the things about the guards. Advertisement. He no longer has any good feelings towards the Hokage. Last time, the Hyuga family was sold out as a sacrifice by them in the Cloud Shinobi village incident. But the elder of the main family is a stubborn old man, and he is determined that it will be bad to go against the Hokage. Besides, Danzo promised, after the matter is settled, the Hyuga family will be given an honorary elder position, and it will only be a staff adjustment. Who would have thought that the Uchiha family seemed to have been prepared for it, and the people of the root organization approached. Those bosses simply closed their doors and stopped doing business. Now that he has the support of the third Hokage, Hiyashi hurried down to discuss countermeasures with the elders. The third Hokage secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he gave Danzo some power, he did not make it public. Everyone did not know that the actions of Danzo and the Hyuga main family were actually tacitly approved by him. The Uchiha family reacted strongly and could only consider long-term countermeasures. Hyuga Heihachi quickly conveyed the third generation's instructions. But the head elder of the main family was still concerned about the position of honorary elder, and he couldn't just let it go. So he had to recall Hizashi to continue working, and he stayed in the guard team in the name of assistant. Every time this happened, Hizashi hated these people who took up positions but did nothing. But people in the branch house could not offend the main family, and Hizashi could only silently endure the pointing of the head elder. Later, the guard team of the route was transferred to other blocks, and all the Uchiha stores on the 8th Street reopened at the same time. Oh, Xuanchuanxiang, stinky tofu, my favorite hot and sour noodles. Mutton soup steamed buns. The villagers were boiling again, and their stomachs had long been conquered by Chinese food. Once these shops were closed, everyone had a poor appetite and was unhappy for a week. Many people lost a lot of weight because of this. The shops reopened, and a large number of people immediately poured in, placing orders frantically. The Uchiha tribe members were almost paralyzed by exhaustion, and they just managed to survive a day of business. The villagers who tasted the delicious food again were so exhausted that they had to hold on to the wall when they entered and exited. They were afraid that these shops would suddenly disappear the next day. Fortunately, this fear did not come true, and the Uchiha shops opened as usual the next day. The villagers finally put their minds at ease. However, on the 4th day, all the shops were closed again. A customer privately met the owner of the Uchiha shop, who explained with a wry smile. The patrols a few days ago were our Uchiha people, our Hyuga people, so there was no problem. But today, it's the guard team composed of people from the route, how dare we open the shop? Those people from the route. The owner deliberately hesitated. When the route guard team changes shifts, our shop can reopen. Thank you for your understanding. The owner of the Uchiha shop squeezed through the crowd and left. There were many people and many gossips, and soon Danzo got the news. He smashed the teacup in his hand in anger. The Uchiha clan was so guarded, and he planned to take advantage of the opportunity when the route started patrolling that street. Find an opportunity to tamper with their food, create trouble, and then close the shop on the grounds of safety and bring the people back for interrogation. Once the people fell into his hands, he had the final say on how to manipulate them. Not to mention the secret recipe, even his private money had to be hidden. As a result, the Uchiha did not give him any chance at all. As long as the route patrolled. All Uchiha shops closed collectively. They would rather lose money than open a shop. They were not afraid of offending customers. Some customers were indeed angry at first. But the Uchiha clan had been prepared. They gave out all kinds of coupons and free food regardless of the cost. Let the customers feel that the Uchiha clan also had their own difficulties. Gradually, a tacit understanding was formed among the customers, and the patrol schedule of the guards spread from somewhere. As long as the route members patrolled on the day, customers would not go, because they could not eat anything. So, as long as the route patrolled, the whole street was empty, as if all the shops had closed down. Let alone finding an opportunity to get the secret recipe, it would be considered a great achievement for the route to find a Uchiha clan member. Danzo was furious. Does the store owner have no objection to closing the store every day like this? Danzo was very puzzled. This kind of business that makes a lot of money every day cannot be closed just like that. Every time the store is closed, a day's customer flow is lost, and customers are rejected every time they come. As time goes by, they don't want to come again. If too much food is prepared, it may go bad after one day, and the loss is not small. Danzo didn't know that Kawasaki had anticipated this situation from the beginning. He made a plan in advance with Fugaku. Please give flowers. As long as there is any temptation related to Danzo's roots, Uchiha must respond immediately. Otherwise, it will be like boiling a frog in warm water and it will be difficult to escape in the end. Customers didn't eat. No problem, all those who made a wasted trip due to the closure will be given coupons. And this coupon is not a small favor of only a few hundred yuan. It is a gift without a bottom line. Advertisement. The amount of a meal for an average person. If you buy too much food, it doesn't matter, all of it will be brought back to the tribe and distributed to everyone, free of charge. The losses of the restaurant owner will be reimbursed by the tribe. For each day the store is closed, a subsidy will be given to the store owner according to the average daily turnover of that month. There is no way people with money can be so willful. Do the bosses have any objections? Of course they do. They cannot stop the routes from being stationed on their streets every day. They don't even need to open a shop, the tribe will give them money directly. It's great to get paid even if you don't work. However, most Uchiha people are grateful to the tribe. After all, these shops were originally set up by Deputy Chief Kawasaki to help everyone. Now everyone's business is booming, and the money they make has increased several times compared to before. Lord Kawasaki explained the various difficulties that may be encountered at the beginning. The most important thing is to maintain the reputation of Uchiha. If the reputation is good, people will naturally remember it. All losses during the period will be borne by the tribe. This is also why the taste of Zonghua food is unique, and people who have tasted it will not stop coming because it is closed occasionally. Most people transferred their resentment of not being able to eat delicious food to the root members. Ordinary villagers posed no real threat to them, at most they just looked at them strangely. But if they were ninjas with ability or means, the situation would be different. Oh. The members of the root encountered many accidents, such as being knocked down while walking, finding bugs in fruits, and falling down in the toilet. They knew someone was playing tricks, but they had no evidence. Konoha village has a large population, and it is very easy to embarrass people with various secret ninjutsu. Therefore, these root members can only patrol during work hours and disappear quickly after get off work. Otherwise, you won't even know how they died. Konoha village. In the Hokage building. Is this the solution you came up with? Do you know how much the flow of people on the 8th Street has decreased? The mailbox is almost full of complaints from the villagers. There are also several ninja clans that have stores there, and they all came to me to report the situation. The third generation slammed the table heavily, extremely dissatisfied with Danzo. Danzo's eyes were full of impatience. Uchiha is obviously well prepared. I am also puzzled by their reaction. The third generation took a puff of cigarette. You let your roots stay in the guard team as a pure bad move. It has no effect so far. Go to the village hall and ask about how bad the reputation of your roots is. Everyone will take a detour when they see you. How can you be a guard? Danzo's face was not much better. When the roots were trained, the most important thing was loyalty to him and how to perform special tasks. Now let them learn to be guards. I can only say that they lack emotional intelligence and can't do this job at all. Danzo responded. I will find a way. How about withdrawing your people in the guard team first? The third Hokage said lightly. No. Danzo suddenly became excited. In the Hokage building, the third generation smoked a cigarette distractedly. Now the Uchiha clan is really hard to be persuaded. The soft policy doesn't work, and the tough approach doesn't work either. It's just that he himself is not convenient to come forward. Danzo was frustrated again and was silent for a while. Elder Kaharu, how are the Uchiha clan taking tasks now? The third Hokage had to think about the Uchiha's tasks. Uchiha Kaharu reported truthfully. I have brought the statistics of Uchiha's recent tasks. The third Hokage nodded with satisfaction. As expected, she was one of them. When the third generation summoned Uchiha Kaharu, she knew what was going on. She even prepared all the information specially. The third Hokage picked up the task statistics table and frowned slightly. Although hundreds of Uchiha elites left. But there should be more than 100 people left. But now the monthly task completion volume is less than 1/3 of the previous one. Are Uchiha no longer taking tasks to support their families? The third generation asked doubtfully. Uchiha Kaharu obviously knows more. Now many Uchiha are at home giving birth, so naturally fewer people are taking missions. The third generation was a little puzzled. Shouldn't you work harder if you have children? Uchiha Kaharu shook his head. Hiruzen, you don't know. Before Kawasaki left, he issued a reward to encourage childbirth. For every child born, he would be rewarded with a large sum of money. So many ninjas don't take missions anymore and concentrate on having children at home. Even if there are some who take missions, they only take simple ones. The third Hokage walked back and forth in the room. Since the Uchiha have such actions, it means that they have indeed made money in catering. The Uchiha must be stopped. In this way, we can modify the rules of the mission center. The third Hokage thought of a way. Husband. Chapter 67 Kawasaki's Training Space. By Industrial Monopoly. Danzo. Jonin. Complete at least 1 B-level mission or 3 C-level missions per month. Special Jonin. 2 C-level missions or 5 D-level missions per month. Chunin at least 1 C-level mission or 3 D-level missions. He did not set a rule for Genin, because the gap between Genin is very large. Uchiha Kaharu listened and couldn't help but praise the third Hokage's move. This rule is nothing to other ninjas, and they will definitely exceed the quota every month. But for Uchiha, the requirements are raised in disguise. There are not many Genin in Uchiha who still take missions, most of them go to do business. Those who are not talented have not been promoted to Genin for many years. There are also many who have just had children and are raising them at home. Now, most of the people who do missions in Uchiha are Chunin and a small number of special Jonin, which are also the backbone of Uchiha. If all these Uchiha are sent out to do missions, there will be fewer people in the Uchiha settlement area. As long as they don't gather together, a group of Chunin is not a big threat. What if they are passive? Uchiha Kaharu asked. The third Hokage said calmly. Then lower their share level, from inside the village to outside the village. There is a share for taking tasks in the ninja village, and people are sent to the ninja village to post tasks. The money should be divided into 20% for the village, and the person who completes the task will get 80%. It seems a lot, but the most important thing in the world is intelligence. If you want to complete a task, you have to pay part of the intelligence fee in advance. The more detailed the intelligence, the more expensive it is, and Konoha village has spies in every corner of the entire ninja world because of its prosperity. Konoha village supports them, and they provide clues to the village. Of course, you can also sell clues directly, provided that the clues are very valuable. So the ninjas of this village who take tasks can get about half of the bonus in the end, which is quite good. Ninjas from other villages or wandering ninjas are divided into more money, and may only get 20% to 30% in the end. Even so, many ninjas still choose to come to the 6, 9, 7 ninja villages of the big country to take tasks. Spend money to collect information, because if there is no intelligence outside, it is difficult to find a person, let alone complete the task. The third generation has implemented such a punishment mechanism. If Uchiha does not complete the task seriously, their share will drop like a cliff, falling to the standard outside the village. Although there is a subsidy for having children, you can't have them endlessly. In the end, the Uchiha clan still has to rely on taking tasks to make a living. The third generation's trick is really amazing. If Uchiha accepts, more people will do the task, and the clan will naturally be stable. If Uchiha does not accept, Fugaku will definitely come to talk to him. In this way, the third Hokage can make plans for the catering controlled by Uchiha again. In Konoha village, the secret base of the root, Danzo went back again, and brought back a lot of equipment intact. The Uchiha clan is becoming increasingly alienated from the village, and their catering business is making money like a money printing machine. This makes the third generation have to be vigilant. Profits are the key everywhere. Now, Uchiha's various incomes are probably the highest among all the villages. Uchiha has just experienced a baby boom. When these children grow up, Uchiha will usher in the most prosperous era. They have people, money, and Kawasaki and Fugaku's Mangekyō. Itachi and Shisui who are away are even more of a threat. Now the major families support the third Hokage, isn't it because of profit? If Uchiha can bring greater benefits, there is almost no need to guess the next Hokage candidate, it must be Uchiha. Although Danzo has lost the title of the root, it doesn't matter. The people of the root recognize him as Danzo himself. During this period, Danzo recalled many of his old subordinates. The third generation felt that as long as they didn't give money and limited Danzo's income, the root would not be able to make any big waves. But he didn't know that Danzo had already found another way to make money. The third generation promised Danzo that as long as they could get more than half of the recipes in the Uchiha store, he would resume the funding supply to the root. Danzo readily agreed. Humph, if I get half of the formula, do I still need your help? The third generation gave Danzo a blank check, and then waited to reap the benefits. As for whether Danzo would embezzle it, he naturally had his own way. Hyuga Kato, one of the 4 elders of the main family. The same generation as Danzo. He was a genius when he was young, invincible on the battlefield, and led the Hyuga clan to achieve many great feats. Unfortunately, God is jealous of talents, during a mission. In order to save his companions, his left leg was seriously injured, from bones to muscles, and even nerves, all destroyed. The Hyuga family did their best to save his leg. Advertisement. But since then, let alone returning to the battle sequence, he couldn't even stand. The leg was left, but it lost consciousness and was completely useless. In the end, he could only sit in a wheelchair, and a generation of genius fell. The higher you stand, the harder you fall. Since Kato became a disabled person, the family has gradually started to talk about him. People are always jealous. When Kato was a genius, no one dared to say anything, but when he became a useless person, unbearable rumors spread everywhere. Kato was angry, sad, and desperate. But he finally cheered up and became the 4th elder with his past achievements. Most of the other elders of the main family did not care about the life and death of the children of the branch house. But Kato was different. He promoted young people from both the main family and the branch house. After years of accumulation, he had a wide network of contacts. He also often planned for the family, just to make the Hyuga family stronger. That day, Kato stood in the courtyard again, moving forward with difficulty. He thought that if he persisted in rehabilitation training, there might be a miracle to make his legs recover. Unfortunately, reality is cruel. He trained from youth to middle age. Now he is approaching old age, and his unremitting efforts every day have not made his body better. His left leg still has no feeling, and his right leg has been injured many times due to excessive force. Maybe this is how it will be in this life. Kato thought a little frustrated. Quote. A strange voice came. Hyuga Kato turned around and saw that it was Shimura Danzo. Kato hadn't seen Danzo for more than 10 years. Although they were of the same generation, they had no friendship. Why did Danzo come? Kato frowned and sat on the ground against the wall. He didn't ask why Danzo suddenly appeared. His courtyard was not in the main courtyard of the main family, and there were not many guards, so they couldn't stop Danzo. Danzo, why are you here? At this time, Kato discovered that Danzo's right hand was not bandaged. Your arm. Danzo's arm had been bandaged for many years, and it was announced to the public that it was injured. But as an elder of the Hyuga main family, Kato heard different news. Danzo not only wrapped his arm tightly, but also sealed it. Needless to say, Danzo's arm must be hiding a great secret minister. Over the years, everyone has been used to Danzo's dress like this, but they didn't expect that the seal would be lifted now. And he also exposed his arm. I'm recovered, so I'll naturally show it. Danzo shook his arm, and his strong and powerful muscles made a sound of wind. Kato's face changed, and he looked at Danzo's arm with a complicated expression. Danzo smiled smugly and said, "This is the result of our research. It can strengthen the body, even if the nerves are broken." Kato moved to a nearby place with the help of a pillar, where a wheelchair was placed. Danzo did not help him. Kato moved step by step, and after a few minutes he sat heavily on the wheelchair. "What is your purpose?" Kato panted slowly. Danzo showed his arm deliberately, so he must have something to ask for. Otherwise, why would he come here to give warmth? Danzo shook his arm casually and said lightly, "Guardian." Hyuga Kato waved his hand. "Your root's reputation has been ruined, don't even think about joining the guard." Kato paused. "Besides, the guard has always been led by Hazashi. If it weren't for the intervention of the Great Elder, you wouldn't have had the chance to change guards." Danzo waved his hand casually. "I don't want the root to rejoin the guard, but I want to ask the guard to do me a small favor. Wrap your left leg around me, I promise it will be more flexible than before." Hyuga Kato asked vigilantly, "What is it?" Although he longed for his leg to get better, he would never trade it for the interests of the clan. "It's a small matter," Danzo said lightly. "As long as you instruct the Hyuga guard to keep an eye on the various secret recipes of Uchiha when patrolling, it will be fine." Quote. Hyuga Kato's face darkened. "Uchiha now regards those restaurants as cash cows, and now you want me to help you steal the secret recipe. The prosperity of Chinese cuisine relies on unique cooking techniques and secret recipes. Because it has never been seen before, people are curious to try it. And once they taste it, they find it difficult to replicate outside, so diners come in an endless stream. But unless it is a store with the same sign, other stores have never even heard of how those dishes are made, let alone eat them. We Hyuga clan and Uchiha clan have a deep friendship, and we will not betray friends for petty gains." Kato rejected Danzo. He pursued the prosperity of the family, not his own recovery. Danzo narrowed his eyes. "Petite. Kato, do you know how much their store can earn every month?" "At least this number." Danzo made a two-word gesture. Kato said nonchalantly, "It's only 2 million. Isn't it normal that their business is so prosperous?" Danzo shook his head. "No, it's 20 million. What?" Kato was shocked. "You know, the income of a dollar-level residence is only in the millions. Moreover, S-level missions are dangerous and you may die at any time, but Uchiha just needs to open the door to do business. Cooking every day can make 20 million in profit in a month. This is simply unbelievable. Even if you have cage-level strength, you can get professional information from the village intelligence department every time. You can't take a few S-level missions in a year, and some even take 1 or 2 years. Is it really that profitable?" Kato was still skeptical. Danzo was well prepared and handed the investigation report to Kato. Kato carefully studied the report and did not miss any information. Danzo continued, "Your Hyuga family is now close to the Uchiha. But the Uchiha is growing rapidly. They encourage childbirth and expand the tribe. Advertisement. Now a group of babies have been born. In another 10 years, the Uchiha will become the leading clan in the ninja world. With their financial resources, Konoha will have to look at their faces at that time. The position of Hokage will be easy for them." Kato's face changed slightly. Danzo's report also mentioned more Chinese cuisine stores in Tianjiguo. Although Tianjiguo is not large, there are many stores. Although these are not managed by Uchiha personally, they must be related to Uchiha. Itachi and Shisui should be in Otogakure village, but they have not appeared in public. The third Hokage was afraid of the power of Mangekyō Sharingan and did not list them and other Uchiha as traitors. The third generation once negotiated with Uchiha to support Uchiha's store. But Uchiha refused and monopolized the cooking secrets of Chinese cuisine. If we don't take action, the Hyuga clan may become a vassal in 10 or 20 years. The Hyuga family can get the secret recipe and cooperate with the village to make this cake bigger. With the relationship between the third generation and the daimyo, this business may be expanded to the entire land of fire." Danzo lobbied with all his might. Kato was very sober. It was normal for each ninja clan to have its own secrets. If it was a secret that could bring in profits, it had to be strictly guarded. It was natural that people would not be willing to give you something for nothing. But Danzo's words really touched him, after reading all the reports. The above figures are relatively conservative estimates based on the unit price of food and the flow of people. In other words, Uchiha's actual profit is likely to be far more than 20 million per month. Kato was also very tempted. He knew that after the Third Ninja World War, all countries were developing their economies. For the development of the country and the family, all the major families tried their best to make money. But the Hyuga clan was in a slightly awkward situation. Its reconnaissance ability was one of the best in the ninja world. During the war, Konoha would give Hyuga high subsidies to let them perform reconnaissance. In peacetime, if there was a Hyuga in the mission, the difficulty would be greatly reduced. Therefore, the Hyuga clan was very popular in the task allocation, and there were always people vying to invite them to form a team. The Hyuga family has never lacked money, and it has always been like this. However, the power of the Hyuga family has gradually weakened, and there is a lack of leaders. In addition, the life is comfortable, and the enterprising spirit is gradually fading. Everything is pushed to the branch house. The branch house only follows the lead of the main family. Even if they have made great contributions, their voice in the leaf is still weak. The old ministers who wanted to expand the family dreamed of gaining more power. Therefore, when Uchiha gave up the guard team, the old ministers and Hiashi were delighted. Because if they managed the guard team well, Hyuga would have real power in Konoha. In the future, the Hyuga family might not have no chance of running for Hokage. However, the branch house had experienced war and had limited staff, so the operation of the guard team almost took away thousands of family members. When the Hyuga family took over the guard team, they found that they had been fooled. The work of the guard team was not easy. Not only did they often offend people, but they also involved a lot of manpower. In the past, families that had good relations with the Hyuga family often borrowed Hyuga people to help when they encountered difficulties. Now, due to the shortage of manpower and repeated failures, the relationship between these families and Hyuga is not as close as before. In desperation, the Hyuga family can only hold on for power. After all, the guard team cannot be given up easily, and the captain's power is still not small. The Hyuga family originally planned to hold on for a few years. When the new generation grows up, the problem will be solved by itself. 5.3. At that time, they thought that Uchiha had given up power on their own, and many people had left. Although there were strong people in Mangekyō Sharingan, the Uchiha with few people and open power could only barely maintain it. The rise of the Hyuga clan is just around the corner. Who would have thought that Uchiha Kawasaki, this weird genius, suddenly appeared, and found many strange recipes from nowhere. Like a whirlwind, he swept the catering industry of Konoha village and Tianguo. And there are so many kinds of dishes that the Hyuga clan even suspected that Uchiha had discovered ancient relics. In the dream space, Bai's body was covered with rune spells and he couldn't move. Kawasaki had never expected that Bai's loyalty would be full so quickly. When he opened the faction template, he found that Bai could already perform dream simulation, and Kawasaki was quite surprised. Since Bai trusted him, he took this opportunity to enter the space to practice ninjutsu. The strength of the characters in the dream space is linked to reality, so Bai is a standard novice. Although he has mastered the blood limit ninjutsu, his moves are limited and he can be easily controlled by Kawasaki. So, Kawasaki began to practice in this space. The first thing to bear the brunt is water style. After learning water style, finding water sources becomes easy. Kawasaki no longer needs to carry a lot of drinking water on his journey. Of course, there are several people in the team who can use water style. But for the future, Kawasaki decided to learn a few tricks himself. People have limited energy, and Kawasaki still understands the principle of biting off more than you can chew. Learning water style is just to enrich the means of fighting. It is not to change the fighting style, so he opened the complete collection of Uchiha's ninjutsu. It is a bit embarrassing. There are very few people with water attributes in the Uchiha clan, but other escape techniques are included. Only a few water styles are copied. Kawasaki scratched his head in embarrassment. How about asking Kisame to teach him? A scene suddenly appeared in his mind, where he clapped his hands together and shouted. Ninjutsu. Great Explosion Water Wave. Chapter 68 Amaterasu. Kamui. Kawasaki kills Obito. Kawasaki raised his eyebrows. This style is too strange. Anyway, there is no rush, so forget it. Everyone has only a few ninjutsu that they are good at, mainly because ninjutsu training is not easy. In addition to the seals, there are also extremely high requirements for the flow path of chakra. In the ninja world, a single attribute is fine, as long as you practice well, you can still become a master. There are many attribute changes, but the talent is not enough, and each one is half learned, then the lethality of the ninjutsu performed is not enough. Each attribute change requires enough energy and talent, as well as a large number of ninjutsu to learn. In addition to school, ordinary people also need to spend a lot of money and merits to exchange for the ninjutsu they like. So far, Kawasaki has only seen the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, a strong man with multiple attribute changes. Kawasaki has never used lightning style because lightning style is his secondary attribute, which is not as good as his fire attribute. He used to worry about biting off more than he could chew, so he focused on fire style. It would be better to stab with a knife than to learn Chidori. After all, he has a talent for combat intuition and his physical skills are not bad. Now that he has an affinity with water attributes, Kawasaki finds that he can learn water attributes very quickly, far more than lightning style. He might as well start with water style. Kawasaki killed Bai with one sword and exited the dream space. At this time, he was sitting cross-legged on the deck. After gathering all the people, Kawasaki no longer planned to stay in the land of water. After all, he was not welcome here, and Kawasaki was not interested in knowing how Terumi-Mei would stabilize the situation of Mist Shinobi and sit firmly on the position of 5th Mizukage. According to his own lack of reward, Terumi-Mei should still be able to sit firmly on the throne of 5th Mizukage, and 4th Mizukage will commit suicide like in his previous life. He just wanted to send Kimimaro to Orochimaru as soon as possible. He knew that the earlier Kimamaro's illness was intervened, the more likely it would be cured. Once Kimimaro began to develop, the condition would become very difficult. After Kawasaki took Kimimaro in, he strictly prohibited him from using dead bone pulse again, even if he could extract bones to use as a weapon. Kawasaki told Kimimaro that the bloodline limit of dead bone pulse was flawed and excessive use would cause illness. Although Kimimaro didn't understand, except for him and Bai, everyone else in the team was very skilled, and Kawasaki was even a strong man in Mangekyō Sharingan. It wasn't Kimimaro's turn to take action, so Kimimaro just obeyed. Kawasaki came quite conveniently, using Sasuke's space teleportation, and arrived in a whoosh. 28 As a result, he was in trouble when he went back, because Obito was making trouble, and large merchant ships almost never approached the land of water. Kawasaki originally planned to take a boat directly to the land of hot springs, and then to the Sound Village, but he didn't expect that there were no ocean-going ships, only ships to the land of whirlpools. Now the land of whirlpools is only a place name, and the country has long been destroyed. There is a piece of land next to the land of water, which is the largest port between the land of fire and the land of water. In the land of water, Kawasaki has been alert to Obito's possible sneak attack. After all, Obito's mind is smaller than a needle tip. The layout of the land of water was destroyed by Kawasaki in advance, and Obito must have a grudge. I don't know whether he was scared by the last attack or he couldn't find his trace. Obito never took action in the land of water. Now Kawasaki and his team have boarded the ship, and the best place for Obito to take action must be on the ship. In order to be on the safe side, Kawasaki showed his money ability when choosing a ship. With a wave of his hand, he directly booked the entire ship, cleared the deck, and the crew were basically below. The deck was empty, only the huge sail fluttering in the wind. He knew in his heart that with Obito's calculating personality, he would definitely come to settle accounts with him. Therefore, Kawasaki stayed on the deck and waited for the rabbit. Kawasaki guessed correctly, Obito did come, but his reconnaissance team was not in the water country Kunyu. Kawasaki's whereabouts were uncertain, running around everywhere, and for a while, Obito could not find him. There was no way, Obito had to wait near the port, waiting for Kawasaki to appear, and he wanted to get rid of Kawasaki at once. In Obito's eyes, Kawasaki's existence hindered his plan. As long as Kawasaki was still breathing, the Uchiha clan had the possibility of a comeback. Moreover, Kawasaki was the only one who had cracked his Kamui head-on. This potential threat must be eliminated. Of course, if Kawasaki's Mangekyō Sharingan could be obtained, it would be icing on the cake. The space fluctuated, and a figure gradually emerged in the air as if out of nothing. You seem to know that I'm not dead. Obito crossed his arms and landed steadily on the deck. Humph, a bug like you naturally has a very strong vitality. I just ruined your big plan, you will definitely come to me to settle the score. Kawasaki yawned. Why did you take so long to come? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Obito was annoyed when he saw Kawasaki's careless look, and swallowed his words back. What, you're not pretending to be Uchiha Madara today? Kawasaki's face was full of sarcasm, with a hint of ridicule on the corner of his mouth. Obito's exposed eyes narrowed slightly. It seems that you already knew that I'm not Madara. Kawasaki waved his hand. You can only fool people who are not from the Uchiha family. Our Uchiha family's ancient books record that Uchiha Madara's Sharingan ability is time-space ninjutsu. Just based on this advertisement, Obito was surprised. Isn't that enough? Kawasaki also found it funny, such a big flaw. The ability of the Sharingan can't be changed at will. The one who can use time-space ninjutsu is definitely not Uchiha Madara. So you have so many loopholes that you can only scare outsiders. Quote. Obito was silent. He had been dealing with Nagato and his friends in Akatsuki using the identity of Madara. Nagato and Konan were both respectful and fearful of him because of his space-time ninjutsu and powerful pupil power, and they were half believing and half doubting his identity of Madara. Unexpectedly, Kawasaki saw through him at a glance. The clan still had records about Madara Mangekyō. Didn't Madara take it away? Or did they miss something? Obito opened his arms. I know you don't like Konoha village and advocate that Uchiha leave Konoha, why don't you consider joining forces with me? I ruined your plan for the water country, and you still want me to cooperate with you. Kawasaki responded indifferently. Obito said nonchalantly. The plan for the water country is nearing completion, and I have basically got what I want. It doesn't matter if it's earlier or later. How can you, the initiator of the Nine Tails Rebellion, have the face to cooperate with me? Kawasaki wanted to see how Obito would convince himself. I just want to teach Konoha a lesson. I have no ill will towards Uchiha. After all, I am also a member of Uchiha. Obito strolled leisurely on the deck, not even minding turning his back to Kawasaki. Oh, it's really funny. Kawasaki had a blank expression on his face. You would never trust him. If I hadn't taken Shisui and Itachi away first, Uchiha would have been wiped out by you. Open black lens bracket Chinese food close black lens bracket you did all that, right? Obito asked. So what if it is, so what if it isn't? Kawasaki didn't comment. I have a deal, you can listen to it. Obito didn't care about Kawasaki's indifference. He walked casually on the deck, as if walking towards Kawasaki without any precautions. Kawasaki was keenly aware that Obito didn't look at him straight in the eye. Why is Obito so alert this time? Not only guarding against my Susanoo, but also my illusion bed. Obito's Kamui will be automatically triggered when attacked once it is turned on, so sneak attacks are meaningless. But as we all know, overuse of Sharingan will lead to regression to 3 Magatama, or even closure. Obito transplanted Hashirama cells, which reduced consumption and recovered faster. However, strong illusions can drain Obito's mental power in an instant, causing him to fall from Mangekyō Sharingan immediately, and Kamui will be ineffective. Obito is a genius. After all, he jumped directly from 2 Magatama to Mangekyō. Ordinary illusions don't work on him, only advanced illusions work, and Mangekyō illusions are better. Obito has been avoiding Kawasaki, probably because he is worried about Kawasaki's attainments in illusions. Actually, Obito was overthinking. Kawasaki was not good at illusions, even though Kawasaki could practice through dreams. But illusions require talent, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. There is no way to drain Obito's mental power instantly like Itachi did. If he didn't use the aim no kume style, he couldn't pose a threat to Obito at all. Therefore, Obito's caution was completely unnecessary and self-indulgent. Your relatives died in the war. I have a technique here. As long as the conditions are met, I will kill your relatives. As long as you are willing to hand it over. What the hell, I'm pure world reincarnation. Obito has quietly come to Kawasaki's side. In an instant, Obito suddenly stretched out his hand to grab Kawasaki. So he wanted to capture me alive and put me into the Kamui space. Kawasaki jumped sideways and threw a few kunai at the same time. Obito rushed forward, and the kunai penetrated his body without surprise. Kawasaki looked at Obito coldly. Obito was agile and tapped the ground with his toes. His fingers were about to touch Kawasaki's body. In an instant, an Uzumaki appeared out of thin air, and a feeling of numbness came over him. Kawasaki instantly activated Susanoo, and the moment Susanoo was formed, it bounced Obito away. Obito rolled easily in the air and landed. I really want to know, how much of your churi is left now? Obito seemed to be sure of winning. Kawasaki didn't seem to hear Obito's words. But Obito clearly felt that Kawasaki's heart was in turmoil. Advertisement. He had tried twice and looked at each other unintentionally. Kawasaki didn't cast an illusion on him, which meant that Kawasaki was not good at illusion. People who use Grandmaster illusion will seize every opportunity to release illusion. And he knows the disadvantages of Mangekyō Sharingan. Driving Susanoo with all his strength consumes a lot of pupil power and chakra. Kawasaki can't always maintain the Susanoo state. Know yourself and your enemy. Kawasaki is already an eternal Mangekyō, and he has obtained the huge chakra of the Uzumaki clan from Naruto. Now he has only opened the skeleton form of Susanoo, which can last for a long time. It's a pity that he doesn't have a way to attack continuously for 5 minutes, and he can't take advantage of the illusion. As long as Obito maintains the hollow state, he can ensure invincibility. If he condenses the aim no kume style, that time is enough for Obito to escape. Well, at least that's what Obito is thinking. Kawasaki can see from Obito's expression that Obito intends to continue hiding, and wood style will not be seen. He is quite curious whether the so-called tree world birth can pierce Susanoo's shield. After all, that move killed Neji in one go, and he didn't even have time to open revolving heaven. Kawasaki frowned, cried out in pain, covered his eyes, and Susanoo disappeared instantly. Obito sneered secretly. The last move did consume his great power. He rushed forward and stretched out his hand to grab Kawasaki. He was full of confidence because he expected that even if Kawasaki was pretending, he would be able to escape from here when Kawasaki used Susanoo again. Obito's fingers touched Kawasaki's collar in an instant. Suddenly, a wave of Uzumaki appeared out of thin air, but Kawasaki did not move at all. A wave of numbness struck Kawasaki like lightning, but Kawasaki was prepared. Although his body could not move, his eyes were still flexible. Kawasaki's eyelids drooped slightly, and then suddenly opened. Amaterasu. An ominous black flame suddenly rose on Obito's body. Ah! Obito screamed in pain, full of horror. Why? How is this possible? Shouldn't his pupil technique reduce the consumption of Susanoo? In the blazing fire, Obito endured the severe pain and escaped into the Kamui space. Unexpectedly, even after entering the Kamui space, the black flame still did not go out and continued to burn his body. Obito struggled desperately, but the fire of Amaterasu remained unmoved. Enduring the severe pain all over his body, Obito's left eye Sharingan flashed. Ah! The shrill screams echoed in the Kamui space. Obito screamed in the black flames and finally turned into ashes. Obito, in the interweaving of reality and illusion, appeared in the Kamui space covered in cold sweat. It hurts. It really hurts. The feeling of being burned alive is like being unable to live or die. How is this possible? Kawasaki's other eye technique is not to reduce the consumption of Susanoo, so why can his Susanoo last so long? That black flame, is it Amaterasu? Damn, it's really Amaterasu. Obito recalled the secret book left by Madara, which mentioned Uchiha's Mangekyō secret technique, and Amaterasu was listed. Amaterasu can ignite black flames in the moment of focusing his sight, which means that Kawasaki has launched an attack the moment he materialized. The key is that Kawasaki seems to know my eye technique very well. What went wrong with this precise attack? At this moment, Obito was really scared. Kawasaki's two eye techniques restrained him to the extreme. There are many ways to extinguish Amaterasu, but Obito does not have any of them. Amaterasu can penetrate armor or form a chakra shield on the periphery to deal with it. But he only has one Mangekyō and cannot activate Susanoo. Obito covered his left eye that had lost its light, and his mind was full of thoughts. Witnessing the number of Amaterasu in the interface drop from 1 to 0, and then slowly disappear. Kawasaki couldn't help but sigh. Itachi is indeed Obito's nemesis. Whether it is Tsukuyomi or Amaterasu, as long as he finds an opportunity, he can instantly use it. If you know the working principle of Kamui, it will be very effective in restraining Obito. No wonder Obito had to wait until Itachi died before moving around, just like Guan Yu treated others as grass after Lu Bu's death. Obito will definitely think that my pupil technique is Amaterasu. In these two battles, Obito was firmly controlled by Kawasaki. I guess he won't dare to bother me easily next time. But it's a pity that I didn't see Obito's wood style. After all, I don't know how strong Obito wood style is now. Kawasaki thought so and quickly returned to the cabin. Everyone in the cabin was still on high alert. After all, if a war broke out at sea, the capsizing of the ship would be a big problem. But the expected battle did not happen, and the battle did not last long. Everyone was relieved to see Kawasaki return safely. Especially Hoshigaki Kisame. Last time, Uchiha Kawasaki fought fiercely with the masked man. It was earth-shattering, but this time he won quietly. Boss, did that man escape? The speaker was Hoshigaki Kisame. Kawasaki simply treated him as an employee and allowed him and Kurita Kyoko to call him boss. Kawasaki nodded. He has mastered the space-time ninjutsu. It is not easy to kill him. Space-time ninjutsu, Bai and Kimimaro have no idea about it. But Hoshigaki Kisame and Kurita Kyoko understand how rare this kind of technique is. They couldn't help but look at this boss with even greater respect. Chapter 69. Barrier Team. Sharingan Evolution. Summoning. In Konoha Village, the territory of the Uchiha clan. Patriarch, we have trained 4 barrier teams that can cover the entire territory around the clock. Kimming is reporting to Fugaku. Fugaku nodded slightly after listening to Kimming's report. Over the past few years, the clever application of barrier techniques has steadily increased the strength of him, e.g. Daichi and the other 2. Especially Kimming, after the Sharingan evolved to 3 Magatama, his strength has improved by leaps and bounds. The key is that Kimming has a deep affection for the family and does everything with all his strength. Now, Fugaku is increasingly relying on him. How is the progress of the imaginary enemy plan? Patriarch, preparations for the second imaginary enemies have been completed. For the reconnaissance of the third imaginary enemy, we have filled the forests around the territory with ninja cats and ninja crows. Although we have to pay extra daily feeding fees, we have ensured a cross-reconnaissance network for the territory. Quote. Fugaku waved his hand nonchalantly. Don't worry about the feeding fees, Uchiha is not short of money. Iori, your duties are equally important. In addition to you, we need to select a backup candidate. Iori replied. Yes, I will choose right away. Daichi, you are responsible for the assembly of personnel, and there must also be an emergency plan in case you are not present. Daichi agreed calmly. All personnel must return to their positions as soon as the signal is received. Uchiha's current situation is hard-won, you must go all out. Fugaku spoke earnestly. Kimming nodded heavily. Please rest assured, clan leader, if anyone dares to destroy the peace of Uchiha, they must step over my body. Iori and Daichi also echoed. We too. After arranging Kimming and the other 2, the 4th Elder Yangping hurried over. What's wrong? Fugaku asked anxiously. For Elder Yangping, the safety of the territory is the most important link. That lady has agreed, but it's too far to come in person. She sealed the magic circle in the magic weapon, and we can't activate it. We are preparing the necessary materials now, and Yangshu, Ora and Raikudo are all there to help. It is expected to be delivered in a few days. Fugaku breathed a sigh of relief, and it was good to have a magic circle. That's good. I will handle the follow-up affairs. Elder Yangping has worked hard. The follow-up evacuation plan still needs your support. Please go and have a good rest first. Elder Yangping was exhausted and retreated after a brief conversation with Fugaku. Fugaku stood alone in the empty field of the territory, lost in thought. Kawasaki, although you have made some arrangements, we can't rely on you completely. Fugaku looked at the high platform outside. It was a newly built platform, and the platform was wide. A huge magic circle was carved on the ground, and a few crows were looking for food next to it. 8 days later, several Uchiha elites escorted a mysterious box into the territory. There was also a man wearing a black tall hat in the entourage. Uchiha Fugaku met him immediately. Hello, Master Fugaku, I am Asumun. I am very sorry, the Miko cannot leave the palace, so I have to deliver the magic weapon on her behalf. Asumun was tall and handsome, with a pair of black framed glasses on his nose. This man exuded an elegant aura, and people liked him at first sight. Fugaku nodded gently. It's okay, I didn't think it through. After all, the journey is long, and it is indeed presumptuous to visit suddenly. Then, please give me a detailed introduction to this magic weapon, Mr. Asumune. Asumune opened the box, and a Kagura bell lay quietly on the purple mat. When he picked up the Kagura bell, the bell was unexpectedly silent. Fugaku used his Sharingan to perceive carefully and found that a powerful energy was sealed in the Kagura bell. But the sealing technique was very different from the one used by the Fire Nation, and even he had never seen it before. Asuho held up the Kagura bell and explained to Fugaku, this instrument is engraved with a time-sealing formation because it contains the spiritual history of Master Moroku. Just inject chakra to activate the spiritual power and form a formation. As he spoke, he injected a small amount of chakra into it. The Kagura bell lit up immediately, floating lightly in the air. The bell rang softly, and a white light enveloped, tightly surrounding Ashiho and Fugaku. The light gradually faded, leaving a series of spell patterns on the ground. Fugaku looked around curiously, feeling that there seemed to be something more in the space, but it was hard to describe. Ashiho continued. The time-sealing formation can block the time and space fluctuations in the space and prevent any form of space transfer. Fugaku tried to make a seal. Summoning technique. There was no response when the palm of the hand hit the ground. Moreover, once the formation is activated, you can only enter but not exit, and the person in the formation cannot step out of the formation. Advertisement. Fugaku reached out and touched it, and there was indeed a layer of invisible objects blocking him. Fugaku nodded with satisfaction. Seeing this, Ashiho gently pressed the magic weapon, and the light gradually converged and finally fell back into the box. At the same time, the surrounding spell patterns also disappeared one by one. Fugaku asked, how large an area can this array cover, and how long can it last? Can it be used mobile? Ashiho replied, the maximum range of this array is up to 5 kilometers, but it can only last for 5 minutes, and Lord Moroku's spiritual power will be exhausted. Once the barrier is deployed, it will be fixed. Will it be ineffective without spiritual power? Fugaku pointed directly to the core. Ashiho nodded affirmatively. 50 million, just for 5 minutes. Fugaku touched his chin and pondered. Ashiho hurriedly promoted. The time-sealing array is a rare time-space fluctuation sealing array. Currently, only Lord Moroku of our ghost country can make it. After the seal is lifted, the space is extremely stable and can interfere with the use of time-space abilities. 50 million is definitely worth it. Fugaku smiled and said nothing, recalling the emergency plan left by Kawasaki. If Obito attacks, use the reverse summoning technique to recall Itachi and Shisui. If that doesn't work, summon Kawasaki himself. However, after learning that Obito's Mangekyō ability is actually time-space switching, Fugaku felt a pang in his heart. As the saying goes, there is a code of conduct for thieves, so there is no reason to guard against thieves every day. He wants to keep Obito. Well, I am very satisfied with this magic weapon, but it only lasts for 5 minutes, and 50 million. Before coming, Ashiho had already discussed it with the Miko-sama. Now the Uchiha clan is in its heyday, don't offend easily. If the Uchiha are not satisfied with the magic weapon, the price can be negotiated. Ashiho hurriedly apologized. Sorry, Master Fugaku, the magic weapon has limited spiritual energy storage, so it lasts for a short time. If you think the price is too high. Fugaku waved his hand to interrupt. I'll give you 100 million, please go again and bring one more. Ashiho was stunned by this sentence. Konoha village, deep in the root base. Hyuga Kato was lying on the bed, his limbs were firmly bound. Master Kato, we will inject you with anesthetic, and then you will fall into a coma, and we will treat your left leg. The root researcher said according to the regulations. Hyuga Kato took a deep breath. Since he had decided to step into this place, he had already prepared himself mentally. Let's start. The cold liquid flowed into his body, and Hyuga Kaido's eyelids became heavy. He sank his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Inside the wall, Zetsu's body emerged. The researcher hurriedly lowered his head. Master, Hyuga Kato has been anesthetized. Zetsu waved his hand and signaled. Go down. Yes. The two exchanged glances and left. Zetsu circled Kato and finally fixed the initial line on the left leg. A white human figure slowly swelled up on Zetsu's body, and then gradually shrank and turned into a little white light. Zetsu's fingers passed, and a blood mark suddenly appeared on Kaido's leg, and the white light sneaked into it along the crack. Due to years of inactivity, Hyuga Kaido's left leg muscles atrophied, pale and thin. After Zetsu implanted the spores rapidly enlarged and multiplied. It seemed as if countless worms were crawling under Kaido's legs, and his skin bulged and collapsed. Kaido's whole body began to spasm, trembling constantly, and he made an unconscious, ho-ho, sound. Soon, the lump on Kaido's left leg gradually subsided, and it was visible to the naked eye that it had recovered to a near normal size. Ju nodded slightly, it seemed that it was almost done. He pressed Kaido's leg. Don't be impatient, it will attract attention if you do it too fast. Kaido's leg slowly returned to its original state. Ju saw this and immediately pressed the button next to it. Two researchers walked in immediately. It will take about 4 hours for the leg to regain consciousness. After he wakes up, he must eat more food to replenish his nutrition. Yes, because of the big quote. The researchers did not say much. After the explanation, Ju slowly sank into the ground. The two researchers looked at each other, one of them closed his eyes and quietly formed a seal. An invisible wave spread out. He nodded. The two stood up together and carefully checked Hyuga Kato's body, but could not find any cuts or punctures. However, Hyuga Kato's legs had changed significantly. The two were puzzled and could only install various monitoring equipment on Kato. A tube of blood was also drawn from Kato's body for testing. As for the wound on the left leg, the traces left by Ju had disappeared. They carefully cut the skin and extracted a small piece of tissue. And Kato, who was in a coma, knew nothing about it. The two quickly sutured and bandaged it. Unknown to them, under the bandage, the wound was healing rapidly. All the samples that could be taken were quickly sent for testing. About an hour later, Hyuga Kato woke up slowly. He found himself back in the room, with two Hyuga Branch, the guard of the house. Sir, you are awake. The guard shouted as soon as Kato opened his eyes. What time is it now? Kato felt that his sense of time was a little fuzzy. Advertisement. Sir, it has only been an hour and a half. The guard replied. Kato frowned slightly and looked at his left leg, and found that the skin was a little pale, but this was not the focus of his concern. His leg had been seriously injured, and there were long scars on both sides, but now all these scars have disappeared. And this leg is no longer atrophied like before. What treatment did they use on me? Their methods are very mysterious. There is a barrier here, and the white eyes can't see anything. We will see you after your treatment is over. For this situation, Kato had expected it in his heart, so he didn't ask any more questions. The door was pushed open, and two researchers and Danzo walked in. Danzo, when can my legs stand again? Danzo smiled and replied. Don't worry, you will feel it in 3 hours, and you will be able to stand up in about a month. Quote. You need to eat a lot now, so that you can provide cells with energy for regeneration. 3 hours. Kato's eyes flickered. I am indeed a little hungry, so I will go back first. If your legs can stand, I will arrange your affairs immediately. As the effect of the anesthetic faded, Kato did feel the hunger coming like a tide. Danzo nodded and said, Kato, don't let me down. Kato looked at Danzo deeply, and then two guards pushed him away. Did you find anything? Danzo asked lightly. Quote. Sir, we took blood, muscle tissue, and skin samples from Hyuga Kato for testing. Except for the increased muscle activity, the other indicators are consistent with the previous physical examination data. HMPH, trash. Danzo shouted angrily, frightening the two researchers to kneel down. Please forgive me, sir. Danzo glanced at them and said in a slightly irritated tone, forget it, go down. The two wiped the sweat from their foreheads and left the room. OJ. The sound of chopsticks knocking continued. On the table in front of Kato, 10 plates were empty, and the bowls on the side were piled higher and higher. Hyuga Kato, who had received strict education from the main family, was like a big eater at this moment, constantly putting food into his mouth. He looked like a hungry ghost reincarnated when he ate voraciously. The rice had already reached the 4th pot, and the dishes on the table had been changed twice. Kato had never thought that he would be so hungry one day, and he felt even hungrier after eating some food. So he kept asking the kitchen to add more dishes to cook. When the 4th pot of rice was finished, Kato finally felt full. This was not the point. The point was that he had been eating and drinking like this for about 4 hours. He began to feel sensation in his legs. He hadn't experienced this kind of sensation for many years. In the past, there was only coldness and numbness, and he wouldn't feel anything even if a knife cut him. Now he could feel the blood flowing in this leg. As he ate, he felt fullness in his legs, and now that he was full, the special discomfort in his left leg disappeared. Then he trembled and held the corner of the table and slowly stood up. His left leg was a little weak, and Kato almost fell, but he did have an intuition, and the feeling of being grounded returned. Kato was slightly excited, but then he suppressed the emotion. He opened his eyes and examined his left leg. The chakra flow on it was normal. Kato frowned, wondering what kind of technology Danzo used. Kato sat back down and patted his head. Two guards walked in. Call Daisuke and Masaki. Yes, sir. Konoha 8th Street. A new day has begun. Since the members of the route evacuated the guard, the Hyuga family recalled some good chunin who were on duty, and Hizashi also returned to the guard. Now the guard, except for a few Uchiha people, is basically composed of members of the Hyuga family. Today, Hizashi, at the request of the 4 elders, mixed some Hyuga members with Uchiha for patrol. The intention is to let the Hyuga family learn how to better maintain public order. Hizashi originally thought that Hyuga was slightly inferior to the Uchiha guard in maintaining public order, so he agreed. Uchiha and Hyuga currently have a good relationship, and the Uchiha guard naturally has no objection. Hyuga Daisuke and Masaki are very motivated and took the initiative to apply to participate in the study. Hizashi then incorporated the two into the Uchiha patrol team. In addition, Hazashi also arranged 4 other Hyuga members to go to Konoha 8th Street with Uchiha guards to learn. Among them, there is a man named Hyuga Yuto who is familiar with Kawasaki. Daisuke, Hyuga, Yuto, you will form a team of 3 and patrol the 8th Street with your colleagues from Uchiha. Quote. The 3 Hyuga formed a team and started daily patrols with Uchiha. The popularity of Chinese food in Konoha 8th Streets attracted many villagers to gather. There are also many outsiders who come here for missions, and they also come to 8th Streets to taste the local specialties. This makes this place extremely prosperous and crowded. The Hyuga team followed the Uchiha team and moved along the street. In less than an hour, they encountered 3 quarrels caused by crowds. Most of them involved people from other villages. The residents of Konoha were mentally prepared for the crowds in 8 Streets. Daisuke and Masaki opened their Byakugan from time to time to observe the surrounding situation. Hyuga Yuto initially thought that the 2 were paying attention to the surrounding environment, and he thought they were quite conscientious. After all, using the Byakugan to observe consumes chakra, and frequent opening consumes a lot of physical strength and chakra. But Yuto later discovered that the 2 turned a blind eye to the quarrels in front of them several times. Instead, they crossed the crowd and directly observed Uchiha's shop. Yuto frowned, wondering what the 2 were up to. He suppressed his doubts and continued patrolling normally. The next day, Daisuke and Masaki did not come to patrol Hachigata, but went to other places. Chapter 70. Complete collection of bonus ninjutsu. Uchiha leader. Forbidden technique. After a day of patrolling, Yongren hid outside the guard building after handing over his shift. Soon, Hazashi walked out of the building. Master Hazashi. Yongren confirmed that there was no one around, and quickly appeared and walked towards Hazashi. Hazashi stopped. He remembered this young Yongren. In the previous incident with Jiraiya, Kawasaki was defeated thanks to this kid. What's wrong, Yongren? Are you waiting for me here? Yongren nodded, opened his white eyes and looked around, and whispered to Hazashi. Master Hazashi, I think there is a traitor in our Hyuga family. Traitor. Hazashi frowned. Yongren has always been cautious in doing things, and he would not make a rumor out of thin air. Hazashi interrupted Yongren. Come with me. Quote. Hazashi was in front, and Yuto followed closely behind. They passed through the courtyard of the branch house and came to Hazashi's retainers. Hazashi led Yuto into his study. There are sealing talismans all around here, so you can talk without worry. Quote. Yasuto admired Hazashi's caution. He was too naive to tell Hazashi outside the guard team. Yasuto then told about his recent observations and his test of Daisuke. Hazashi pondered for a moment and pulled out a list from the academy behind him. After checking it, he found that these branch house members were closely connected with the 4th Elder Kato. Hazashi pulled the rope beside him. What do you want, sir? The servant appeared immediately. Hazashi asked. Has anyone visited the main family recently? He thought further. In the Hyuga clan, the branch house would never betray the main family. The one who can make the branch house act must be a member of the main family with a higher status than itself. The Hyuga family is relatively closed. If there are visitors, they will definitely not be able to hide it. My lord, no one has visited. The servant hesitated. However, a few days ago, the 4th Elder Kato went out. Quote. Hazashi waved his hand to let the servants leave. It was Kato. Was he acting alone, or? Hazashi thought for a moment, returned to the desk, quickly wrote a letter, and handed it to Yuto. He ordered. Yuto, you have to give this letter to the chief of the Fugaku clan in person. Remember, you must give it to him in person. Hazashi always remembered Uchiha Kawasaki's life-saving grace, and his attitude towards Uchiha was the same as Hiyashi's. But as the head of the main family, Hiyashi was often controlled by the elders. It's best not to let his brother know about this, otherwise it may cause trouble. Yuto knew the seriousness of the situation, so he took the letter and set off immediately. In the Uchiha territory, Fugaku opened Hazashi's letter and read it. He said to Yuto, thank you for your hard work, help me reply to Hazashi, just say I know. Quote. Yuto successfully completed the messenger mission and breathed a sigh of relief. He always felt that a big storm was covering the Uchiha and Hyuga clans. But as an ordinary branch house member, 997 was able to serve Master Hazashi. After Yuto left, Fugaku immediately summoned the 4th elder, Yohei, and handed him Hazashi's letter. Chief, Deputy Chief Kawasaki seemed to have foreseen this scene when he left. Yohei stroked his beard. Fugaku sighed. Kawasaki is really a god. He had made a plan in advance. The leader of the security team must be Hazashi from the branch house. If someone in the main family has bad intentions, Hazashi will definitely not be able to get around it. I came to you to find out how the evacuation plan is going. Fugaku asked. Elder Yangping nodded. Don't worry, Chief. When the clan was building, I took precautions. The secret passage had already been quietly built. Where is the transport vehicle? Chief, after Cloud Shinobi compensated us last time, we built a sample car and started to speed up production. Now we have 10 cars, which are enough for recycling. Fugaku clapped his hands. Okay, time is running out. We will gather the tribesmen tonight and implement the evacuation plan. Yes, Chief. Konoha 8th Street is still prosperous. The shops here are often open until 10 o'clock in the evening, and the night market is particularly lively. The nearby residents are used to going out to find food at night. But tonight, when they walked out of the house, they found that all Uchiha shops were closed just after 8 o'clock. This made everyone feel nervous. Why did Uchiha close the shop again? There are no root personnel in the security team now. In each Uchiha shop, employees and bosses are busy packing utensils and raw materials. After packing, they are all put into storage scrolls. These scrolls are uniformly distributed by the tribe to quickly transfer property. Many regular customers saw that there was still light in the store and couldn't help but ask why it closed early. The Uchiha store owners all responded that they needed to conduct training and develop new dishes today, so they closed early and would open normally tomorrow. Advertisement. The customers left reluctantly. The Uchiha tribe was busy as hell. The peeping Hyuga tribe members were as anxious as ants on a hot pot. They saw Uchiha packing supplies. What was he doing? We haven't learned all the production methods yet. Daisuke and Masaki hurriedly reported what they saw to Kato. Kato paced back and forth. After recovering from his leg injury, his favorite thing was to take a walk. Now he would rather stand than sit. What exactly did Uchiha mean by packing his bags? Would he not do such a profitable business? Kato had no way to intervene, so he could only wait and see. You continue to monitor. There is a new Ōtsutsuki coming to report. Daisuke and Masaki still watched secretly with their eyes. At night, all Uchiha tribe members put the packed items into the storage scroll and tied it to their bodies. From the outside, they seemed to leave the store and return to the Uchiha territory as usual. The 8th block of Konoha village. Dawn is just beginning, and the first rays of sunlight are shining down. There is a ripple in the guard. All members of the Uchiha guard unanimously submitted their resignation letters and no longer show up. Although Hazashi is not clear about Fugaku's overall plan, the absence of all members of the Uchiha guard is an established fact. Hazashi had to reorganize the team and fill the gaps left by the Uchiha members. After assigning the tasks, he began patrolling. Unexpectedly, in the 8th block, the Hyuga family. As soon as he patrolled, he found that all the Uchiha shops were locked, even during business hours. When they walked in, they found that the shops were empty, and all the ingredients and utensils had disappeared without a trace. The patrol members quickly reported the situation to Hazashi, who was extremely confused by Fugaku's move. How could such a profitable shop be closed? The news soon reached the 3rd Hokage. The Hokage took the news and looked confused. What happened? Uchiha is not making money. The Hokage quickly sent people to the Uchiha to ask. Why did the Uchiha no longer open shops? It turned out that some Uchiha were out and about, distributing flyers in the 8th district. The Hokage's men brought back a flyer. The flyer was concise and to the point. The Uchiha's food shops in the 8th district were scattered. The tribe leader decided to create a snack street. Therefore, all Chinese food shops will be moved on a specially built street outside the Uchiha territory. Those who want to continue enjoying the food can go to the north gate of the village, where there is a special car to pick them up. The Hokage was caught off guard and hurriedly sent Kakashi to inquire. The north gate is adjacent to the 8th block, which was once the old site of Uchiha. When Uchiha moved, the ground in the area had been fully renovated with high-quality materials. There were 10 cars neatly arranged, which were exactly the kind of sightseeing cars that Kawasaki had seen before leaving. Each car can carry 25 people. When it is full, the driver of the Uchiha injects chakra and the vehicle starts immediately. Kakashi, who got on the car, took a closer look and saw the 2 Uchiha driving the car. Aren't they the guards who patrolled the 8th street earlier? So it was premeditated. The vehicle sped forward and arrived at the destination in just a few minutes. Kakashi got off the car with other curious villagers. After the car stopped, they lined up and waited. Once it was full, they would return, or when new customers arrived, they would start the car, forming a cycle. Kakashi went deeper and saw that Uchiha had built a whole street on the edge of the territory. Because it was close to the Uchiha station, it was not noticed by the trapped people for a long time. The houses on both sides of the street in front of him were exactly the same. If people from Blue Star were here, they would definitely recognize that these were prefabricated houses. The walls were made of regular pieces of stone and mud, which were both neat and beautiful. The houses extended down the street, forming a U-shaped road. The food stores on both sides had hung up signs, and it was very lively. When they reached the corner of the street, in a small booth, members of Chen Libo were selling something. Kakashi looked closer and realized that it was a snack street membership card. Uchiha members said that in order to give back to customers, cardholders will enjoy a 10% discount on consumption in this street. The card fee is only 10 taels, which is almost free. Kakashi also applied for one. When applying, the Uchiha members looked up and glanced at Kakashi, and then quickly completed it. The card clearly stated that all ninjutsu were prohibited in the snack street. Violators would be blacklisted and prohibited from entering. Konoha Village North Gate. Many villagers wanted to go to the 8th street for dinner. But they found that Uchiha's stores were uniformly relocated on a large scale. Took the flyer and got off at the curiosity area. Everyone took the CIFB free sightseeing bus from the North Gate and arrived at Uchiha's Snack Street a few minutes later. Everyone was surprised because in the past 8th Street, after tasting a delicacy, you have to walk a long way to find another restaurant. Now Uchiha has concentrated all the food and beverages on one street, so that people can enjoy a feast without having to run back and forth. There are also signs on the street that clearly mark the location of various snacks. The membership card at the entrance amazed the villagers. It was so affordable that they could enjoy a 10% discount for only 10 taels. People quickly got used to the habit of dining here. And the 8th Street became deserted and no longer prosperous. Hokage Building. Danzo, what on earth did you do? The Hokage was extremely annoyed. The merchants had not yet obtained the Uchiha's catering secret recipe, but they had collectively withdrawn from the 8th Street. The third Hokage was caught off guard by opening a snack street in the Uchiha territory. It was originally thought that the village would always be able to obtain the secret recipe through the business on the 8th Street. Now the Uchiha clan does not even stay in the village. Apparently, there were arrangements in advance, and even the shuttle vehicles were prepared. The Uchiha carefully renovated the ground when repairing the territory. It was once ridiculed, but now it seems that the planner is really far-sighted. Danzo hid in the base of the route, and was also indignant about this setback. Advertisement. He was not only angry at Hyuga's poor performance, but also at Uchiha's cunning. The entrance of Uchiha Snack Street is guarded now. At first, the membership card only provided discounts. A few days later, as people's acceptance increased, the membership card became the entry certificate. No membership card. Sorry, no entry. After all, this card only costs 10 taels. If you are still unwilling to buy it, you must have other intentions. If the visitor has a special identity, Uchiha will monitor the whole process and any improper behavior will be expelled immediately. The information submitted by Hyuga Kato is less than 30% of the total amount, and most of them are incomplete versions. Danzo has no other choice at the moment, as the Hyuga family has been awarded the position of honorary elder. Kato moved directly into the main family courtyard and avoided Danzo. Danzo suddenly realized that he was calculated by Kato. The Fire Country daimyo sent someone to urge again, and Danzo had to copy the information in his hand and give it to the daimyo. At the same time, report the Uchiha's defection. Danzo originally wanted to use Hyuga to copy at least 60% to 70% of the secret recipe. After the Fire Country daimyo promoted it, it blossomed all over the country, and who would care about the original taste? Uchiha's shop will naturally be squeezed out. In order to urge Hyuga to act as soon as possible, he gave up the position of honorary elder. At present, the materials are less than 30%, and even if the finished product is made, the taste is difficult to be outstanding. Even if it is promoted, it cannot occupy the market. Danzo has suffered heavy losses. The third Hokage is thinking more deeply at this moment. A few years ago, a fire in the Uchiha restaurant accidentally ignited the prosperity of the entire street. However, people's hearts are only concerned about those Chinese delicacies. So once Uchiha moves away, the deserted streets are almost inevitable. The street income decreases, and the money that the Hokage can mobilize will naturally shrink. Now it is a peaceful time, and there are few tasks. The third generation has turned its attention to the real industry to increase income. In the past, Uchiha operated in the village. The third generation could also collect a certain amount of taxes, but now Uchiha has even given up the store. So, the third generation is thinking about giving Uchiha a little care in the allocation of tasks to see how they will deal with it. After a while, the Uchiha members who were out on missions returned one after another. But they returned to the Uchiha clan after completing the mission report and no longer appeared at the mission reception. A month later, the mission center adjusted the Uchiha's mission allocation mode to outside the village according to the instructions of the third generation Sarutobi Hiruzen. The Uchiha clan did not respond to this. Even the Uchiha clan members who often took on missions no longer appeared in the mission hall. At this time, a small meeting room was transformed inside the Uchiha clan. Bang! A ninja cat appeared in the smoke. It took out many scrolls from its pocket. The fourth elder Uchiha Yangping took the scroll and handed other numbered scrolls to the ninja cat, which then disappeared without a trace. He opened a scroll. The B-level elimination of the rebel ninja mission location is the border of the 10 countries. Mission reward. North left. An Uchiha clan member raised his hand and said, "Fourth elder, our group wants to take this mission." Quote. The fourth elder looked at them and nodded in agreement. Okay, you are strong enough, just a few of you. The fourth elder Yangping quickly distributed the task scrolls and related information to everyone, and then checked the other scrolls one by one. After reading several scrolls in turn, each one was claimed by a corresponding candidate. Today's tasks have been assigned. Please understand before you come back. The people in the small meeting room quickly dispersed. The fourth elder Yangping hurried to Fugaku to report. Clan leader, we are currently using the task system of the Yinyan village, and the efficiency is slightly inferior to that of Konoha. What about after the share? Fugaku asked. The fourth elder nodded. After the share, the tribe members' income is actually higher. The tasks sent to us by the Yinyan village are all selected, suitable for our tribe, and the share is reasonable. Quote. The current Uchiha clan has essentially been separated from Konoha. Not only will they not do business in your village, they will no longer accept Konoha's missions. Except that the Uchiha are still Konoha's ninjas in name, the current Uchiha has achieved full autonomy. Ding. Development mission. Break away from Konoha and become self-reliant, completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Konoha Shinobi Technique Complete Works. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500 million Taels of Development Fund. Ding. New mission. Become the leader of the Uchiha clan. Kawasaki, who had just landed from the land of whirlpools, suddenly heard the long-lost system prompt sound. Kawasaki was refreshed, it was like a pillow for sleepiness, and he was worried about not being able to find a place to learn ninjutsu. He was about to meet Orochimaru, who was already on his list of forces. As long as they met, the other party's subordinates would also be included in his list of forces. In this way, he could return with a full load and practice any ninjutsu as he pleased. In addition to common ninjutsu, Konoha Shinobi Technique Complete Works also includes many forbidden technique. The most valuable of them is Flying Thunder God Technique. In comparison, second-generation Tobirama's Impure World Reincarnation and Tandem Paper Bombs. Orochimaru has everything, and the improved Impure World Reincarnation is even better. In addition, it also includes the Spiritualization Technique in Darkness. Chapter 71 Orochimaru, Akatsuki, Hidan, Master Kawasaki. Recently, Fugaku has passed on village affairs to Kawasaki through the Ninja Crow. Kawasaki received the news that the old stubborn of the Hyuga family tried to use the Byakugan to explore the food preparation and secret recipes. Fortunately, Kawasaki had a plan in place and immediately launched the plan to leave. Such things will happen eventually, it's just a matter of time. Now Uchiha has actually gotten rid of the control of Konoha village and achieved independence at the mission level. In the future, Uchiha can obey orders without being constrained. After the matter of Otogakur is over, he must return to the position of the clan leader as soon as possible. In the dream space, water style, water wave. Kawasaki opened his mouth and spit. A stream of water like a water gun shot down, leaving a large courtyard on the ground. He wiped his mouth, and the water wave was indeed not as good as the water-severing wave. The water-severing wave performed by second Hokage Tobirama was like a high-pressure water blade, cutting wherever it pointed. Kawasaki liked it very much, but even if he gained affinity with water, water-severing wave was not an easy skill to learn. He still had a long way to go. Kawasaki continued to make hand seals. Water style, water barrier. Boom. A wall of water suddenly emerged on the ground in front of Kawasaki. Kawasaki frowned. It seemed that the water barrier was not very effective, not as good as his own Susanoo. The water barrier cast by second Hokage Tobirama could surround the whole body. And he could only use it once at most, and it was still far from being flexible. Without continuing to practice, Kawasaki quickly exited the dream space. Yesterday, he received news from Itachi that he had successfully brought Karen and Jugo back to Otogakur. Kawasaki had already understood a little about Itachi and Shisui Sharingan. But the research on Hashirama's cells still needed more experimental assistance. However, this process would cost a lot of rare materials and huge funds. Kawasaki is not short of money, but there are some things that cannot be easily bought with money. Given the small area of Konoha village and Tianguo, it takes a long time to collect all the materials. So, Kawasaki quickened his pace and led a group of people to rush to Tianguo. In Tianguo, there is a place called Sound Village. Jiraiya, with white hair and a strong body, appeared at the entrance of the village. Nowadays, with the addition of the Uchiha clan, Sound Village has become a powerful existence second only to the 5 major ninja villages, and its efficiency in executing tasks is extremely high. After development, Joe Ninja Village is no longer as shabby as when Itachi and 16K first arrived. Jiraiya saw many people coming in and out of the mission hall along the way, some came to entrust tasks. Some were ninjas from Sound Village who went to receive tasks. Among them, Jiraiya also found a few Uchiha people, but they did not talk to Jiraiya when they saw him, and they were busy. In the mission hall, Jiraiya unexpectedly met Uchiha Takuya. The third elder of the Uchiha clan, the two had met before. Isn't this Master Jiraiya? What brought you here? Takuya handed the work at hand to his assistant and took the initiative to greet Jiraiya. Jiraiya looked around. Let's find a quiet place to talk. Takuya understood and led Jiraiya into a remote room. As soon as he sat down, Jiraiya lowered his voice and asked, Itachi and Kamasuke betrayed the village. Takuya was surprised. Master Jiraiya, where do you get this from? We just take some tasks here to make a living. Jiraiya frowned. Can't we take tasks in Konoha? Takuya laughed. Forget it, in Konoha, our every move is watched, and our eyes may be in danger. Although this is a small ninja village, it is free. Jiraiya was speechless for a while. It is well known that Danzo dug out the eyes of Uchiha people. Takuya used this as an excuse, and he had nothing to say. He understood what Takuya meant by that they suffered too much discrimination in Konoha. Jiraiya sighed. This group of Uchiha might be fine outside, but if they were still in the village, they might be planning a rebellion. Is Orochimaru here? Jiraiya asked directly. Takuya's expression flickered. I don't know, I'm only here to make a living. If you want to find Orochimaru, just post the task directly. From Takuya's expression, Jiraiya understood that the other party had information about Orochimaru, but was unwilling to tell him for free. After weighing the pros and cons, he took out 100,000 taels of silver. Then how about I pay 100,000 taels and post a task to find Orochimaru? Takuya looked up at Jiraiya and obviously realized that Jiraiya was determined. Okay, I'll post it now. Lord Jiraiya can enjoy delicious food nearby. There will be a reply within 3 days at the latest. Jiraiya nodded in agreement, thinking that Takuya was going to ask Orochimaru if he was willing to see him. Before Takuya went out, he leaned against the door and said, by the way, Lord Jiraiya, our bathhouses here are all equipped with sealing barriers. Jiraiya's face darkened instantly. Orochimaru today is different from the original time and space. He is immersed in research all day long, and he is overwhelmed by various projects. He had neither joined the Akatsuki Organization nor planned to destroy Konoha. He no longer cared about the third Hokage's opinion of him. After all, he had more important things to do. He had long forgotten what Konoha had experienced in the past. Takuya took Jiraiya's money and directly asked to meet Orochimaru. Advertisement. Nowadays, the third elder Uchiha Takuya has made a lot of efforts in the management of Sound Village. Therefore, although Orochimaru was busy, he also took time to receive him. Orochimaru, Jiraiya came to see you. He offered a reward of 100,000 ryo for you. He is near Sound Village at the moment. Oh, Orochimaru was quite surprised that Jiraiya had no intention of seeking revenge. Paying money for a reward seemed to mean that there was no intention of using force. It seems that the situation has changed. Quote, Orochimaru had never paid much attention to Konoha's affairs. He was worried about the lack of special drugs in several studies, and then Jiraiya appeared. Orochimaru thought for a while, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. With the support of Tianjiguo, the store of Zonghua food is indeed very profitable. The Sound Village has been expanding year by year and now has a mature commercial street. After completing the task, many people go to the street to shop and taste food, which promotes the prosperity of the Sound Village. With the increase in the flow of people, some people even choose to post tasks directly in the Sound Village, forming a virtuous circle of mutual promotion. Jiraiya found a hotel and went to the night market at night. Bring back a lot of skewers and wine, and enjoy the skewers while tasting the wine. I have to admit that these foods are really delicious. As he ate, his expression changed and he looked at the door. Orochimaru lifted the door curtain and walked in. Then he sat opposite Jiraiya, and the two were silent for a while. Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru, always felt something was wrong, but he couldn't tell why. A sense of disharmony lingered. In fact, because Orochimaru had been reincarnated, his current body was not his original one. As a teammate for many years, Jiraiya often practiced fairy arts, so he could naturally feel something strange. In the past few years, Orochimaru hardly participated in the battle, and buried himself in experiments every day. The sinister aura faded a lot, and instead brought a bit of bookish air. In the end, it was Jiraiya who broke the silence. Orochimaru, did you found the hidden Sound Village? Orochimaru chuckled. It's just a cooperative relationship. Since I'm here, you don't want to reminisce about the past, do you? Facing Orochimaru, Jiraiya felt very strange. After not seeing him for a few years, Orochimaru seemed to have completely changed. The former Orochimaru was not so easy to talk to. Was Danzo responsible for the missing babies in the village? Jiraiya asked solemnly. What's the point of bringing this up now? What if it is? What if it is not? Orochimaru did not respond directly, and his attitude seemed quite casual. Jiraiya said seriously. This is very important. Orochimaru noticed Jiraiya's gaze, and after a long time, he spit out the Japanese map. Yes. Jiraiya was relieved and asked in confusion. Why don't you explain to the old man? Orochimaru chuckled. Why should I explain? I was Danzo's accomplice, what's wrong with that? Jiraiya sighed. Why bother? Orochimaru's face turned cold when he heard this, and his voice became sharp. Why choose Minato as the fourth Hokage? Eyes. This matter has always been a thorn in Orochimaru's heart, and it was mentioned by Jiraiya. Orochimaru was full of displeasure. The old man had his considerations at the time. Jiraiya noticed that Orochimaru was angry, and hurriedly defended the third generation. Orochimaru snorted, and his emotions seemed to calm down. Now that things have come to this, what's the point of saying these things? I'll leave first. Then he stood up and wanted to leave. Wait. Quote. Jiraiya spoke. The old man said that it doesn't matter whether you go back or not. Jiraiya said this. Orochimaru didn't say anything, and was silent for a long time, then walked to the door, with his back to everyone. The old man seems to have aged a lot recently. Quote. Jiraiya couldn't help but speak again. Orochimaru paused, turned his back to Jiraiya and said, my recent experiment just happened to lack a few precious herbs, deer heart grass, red sand vine and. Orochimaru listed several rare medicinal materials, which happened to be the specialties of the Konoha shinobi village. These herbs are very precious to the outside world, because they are not sold outside, but with the ability of the Hokage, it is still possible to get them. Jiraiya thought cleverly that Orochimaru was trying to give the third generation a way out. He patted his chest excitedly. Don't worry, Orochimaru, I can get it. Jiraiya was a little excited, and suddenly an idea came to him. Orochimaru, wait a moment. Orochimaru didn't turn around. Anything else? Jiraiya bit his finger and made a seal. Summoning technique. With a bang, a red toad appeared on the ground. I'll leave this communication frog with you first. I'll notify you when the things are ready. Whatever you want. Orochimaru, who didn't turn around, smiled and left. The land of hot springs borders the land of fields. Uchiha Kawasaki planned to go straight from the land of hot springs to the land of fields. Kawasaki and his party stepped into the town of the land of hot springs, but found that there were not as many tourists as rumored. On the contrary, there were very few people, and it seemed a bit deserted. Occasionally, a few ninjas were also in a hurry. Kawasaki found out that an evil cult had appeared in the kingdom of Soup, preaching everywhere, and the evil god enjoyed killing. The Hidden Stone Village was originally a peace-loving village, but because of its rich natural resources, it was targeted by the evil cult. Many ninjas in the Hidden Stone Village were brainwashed and became minions of the evil god. However, the Kingdom of Soup has asked for help from the neighboring village of Otoshinobi, and Otoshinobi sent people from the Uchiha family. Kawasaki suddenly thought, could this be the lair of the murderer Hidan? Asterisk. Now that Otoshinobi has risen, the Kingdom of Soup has directly asked Otoshinobi for help. Kawasaki was confused when he first looked at the map. How did Pain receive the commission from the Kingdom of Soup? If the Kingdom of Soup wants to go to Rain Shinobi Village, it has to cross most of the Kingdom of Fire. There was a cry in the distance, and Kawasaki and others approached, only to find that a person was hung on a tree in a weird posture. The body was bloody and a lot of blood formed a small pit on the ground. There was a triangular circle pattern on the ground not far away. A woman was crying on the ground. The person hanging was her husband. The tree was tall and straight. It was obviously not something she could handle alone. Kawasaki's face was slightly gloomy and he winked at Kimimaro beside him. Advertisement. Kimimaro nodded, cut the rope of the hanging man with a dart, and jumped up to catch the falling body. There was a sound of fighting in the distance, and there was smoke rising. Kawasaki turned his head quickly and ordered, "Don't move, I'll go see the situation." Deep in the woods. How dare you disrespect the evil god? Hey, Hidan rushed out of the great fireball with a crazy attitude. Uchiha Yaoyu frowned. This guy actually went straight through the great fireball. Hidan had a burning wound on his body and swung his sickle violently. Yaoyu met it with a knife and successfully blocked it. But Hidan's sickle was too big, and the sharp spikes made a small cut on Yaoyu's arm. Yaoyu took advantage of the moment when Hidan's weapon rebounded and slashed Hidan's throat with a knife. Hidan's body suddenly stiffened and fell to the ground. Yaoyu frowned, so easy to solve. Sure enough, there was a noise behind him. Looking back, Hidan, whose throat was cut, had stood up. It really hurts. Hidan's voice was hoarse and his words were unclear. Yaoyu was shocked. Why wasn't he dead yet? What kind of magic was this? Yaoyu stood firm. Hidan shouted, "I will execute God's punishment on you." He stepped on his own blood and quickly drew a circle and a triangle. Yaoyu threw 5 darts directly. Swish, 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 swish. The sound of continuous darts hitting the flesh. Ah, ah, ah. Although Hidan was screaming, he did not leave the circle on the ground. He showed a sinister smile. Punish you. His hand quickly wiped the sickle and was about to put it into his mouth. A figure flashed, bringing a dazzling knife light. Hidan only had time to cross the sickle across his chest. Bang. The sickle and his neck were cut off in an instant. Hidan's head was thrown high and then fell to the ground. A familiar figure appeared in front of Yaoyu. Lord Kawasaki. Yaoyu was full of surprise. He had been out with Itachi and the others for several years and had never seen the deputy chief. What are you yelling about? Kawasaki slapped Yaoyu on the head, causing him to stagger. Why didn't you interrupt his pre-casting swing? Kawasaki said angrily. In the forest of the Kingdom of Hot Springs. What is pre-casting swing? Yaoyu was stunned. At this time, Hidan on the ground opened his eyes and howled wildly. Ah, it hurts. You be asterisk 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 D. How dare you interrupt the evil god's ritual? You deserve to die. You're not dead even if you're like this. Uchiha Yaoyu was frightened. It was really weird that a head was talking. Ha ha ha, this is all the evil god's gift. I'm immortal. Immortal. Even if there's only a head left. I'll crawl over and bite off your throat. Kawasaki had no expression on his face, took out a kunai, and threw it hard. The kunai went straight into Hidan's mouth, smashing it together with his tongue, and Hidan could only make a whimpering sound. Kawasaki turned around and said to Yaoyu, look at the picture under his feet. His sickle is stained with your blood. As long as he licks it into his mouth. Standing in that circle will connect with your life. If he stabs you in the heart, you'll die here. Yaoyu was so scared that his face turned pale. Only then did he realize that he had just gone around the gates of hell. You clearly saw him drawing on the ground, and he would rather be hit by the dart than leave the circle. Why didn't you interrupt him? Kawasaki was very angry, and his Uchiha clan member almost died. Yaoyu lowered his head. I'm sorry, Master Kawasaki. Forget it. Kawasaki calmed down. After all, he is a prophet, and knows Hidan's methods. Others don't know, so it is reasonable for him to be cautious and not step forward. Are you here to deal with the evil god cult? Yaoyu nodded. Yes, Master Kawasaki, the evil god cult suddenly appeared in the country. Some people can't be killed at all, so we asked for help from the Sound Village, and that's why we came. How many people are here? Who is the leader? My lord, there are 6 in total, and it is the team led by Shisui. 3 bases have been eliminated. This time when we went out for reconnaissance, we met this person. Quote. Yao Yu answered respectfully. In such a small country, the strength of ninjas varies, because some have not received formal training. Some can't even beat Konoha's genin, not to mention the masters of Uchiha. Therefore, 6 people came here, and Shisui was the leader, which was already a great respect for these outsiders. Kawasaki glanced sideways and saw Hidan was still humming in the mouth of the ground. But people with broken tongues can't make clear sounds. Factory. Chapter 72 Kawasaki's Strength. Strong overwhelming. Immortality. Rising Uchiha. In the Akatsuki Organization, Kawasaki hates Hidan the most, not because he is stupid. But everyone else joins for their own purpose. Only Hidan joins purely to please the evil god. He keeps preaching, hoping to attract more people to join. Although there is only one immortal Hidan now, there is no guarantee that there will not be a second one in the future. This kind of pure killing cult must be eradicated. At first, Kawasaki planned to bring Hidan's head back to Orochimaru for research, but then he thought it was too disgusting. Just dig a hole and bury him, out of sight, out of mind. Kawasaki's eyes turned suddenly, and the ordinary Sharingan fissioned into the Mangekyō Sharingan, instantly summoning a huge Susanoo. Yaoyu looked at Kawasaki's Susanoo, which was tens of meters high, in shock. This is Kawasaki's Kamui. Not far away, Chiba and his group looked up and saw the huge Susanoo in Fengalin's hand. It was Kawasaki Sr. Let's go. Shisui was excited. He hadn't seen Kawasaki Sr. for many years. He didn't expect to meet him here. Hoshigaki Kisame and others in the distance saw Susanoo appear and gathered here. Boom. Amidst the loud noise, Kawasaki's Susanoo punched down, and Hidan's head and the ground were smashed into a deep pit. He looked down and saw a bloody mess in the pit, and there was no sound. Kawasaki was very curious. Now that Hidan has been smashed into Hidan sauce, let's see if you can be resurrected. His Susanoo pulled out his arms, swung left and right, and buried Hidan sauce in the soil. Boom. Using the same method, Kawasaki smashed Hidan's body into a meat paste, dug another pit, and buried it. Yaoyu was stunned watching from the side. Shisui and his friends were really cruel. The sound of swish 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 was heard. Shisui and his friends arrived first, followed by Kisame and his friends. Seeing that both halves of Hidan's body had been dealt with, Kawasaki put away Susanoo. Shisui felt nervous when Kisame and his friends appeared. After all, Kisame and Kurita Anzi were dressed in Mist Shinobi. However, Kawasaki quickly landed in front of Shisui. Don't be nervous, 243 is one of us. Kawasaki said, and Shisui and his friends breathed a sigh of relief. Why did you come out to carry out the mission in person? Have you solved your problem? Kawasaki asked. Shisui nodded. Lord Orochimaru has prepared a stable medicine for us. It is fine to use it moderately. Kawasaki nodded and said nothing more. He would find Orochimaru later. He briefly introduced everyone's name and said nothing else. But Uchiha Shisui's name is well known in Mist Shinobi. Hoshigaki Kisame's shark-like eyes occasionally turned and looked at Shisui. Kawasaki saw it and smiled secretly. Since Hoshigaki Kisame got Samahata, his strength has been increasing day by day. But he was always in a hurry, and there were many thieves along the way, so he had almost no chance to do anything. Now seeing Uchiha Shisui, he was naturally eager to complete the task first and return to Otogakure immediately. Kawasaki ignored Kisame and completed the task first. Shisui reported that they had destroyed 3 bases of the evil god cult in succession, and some of those cult members had transformed their bodies. The power increased greatly, and there was no pain. It caused some trouble at first, but later it did not constitute a real resistance. They have found out that the headquarters of the evil god cult is located in a cave in the northwest. It seems that only Hidan is a successful experiment, and others cannot curse others like Hidan. To save time, they hurried on their way, and Kawasaki said. The evil god cult has a kind of curse. After taking your blood, it can curse and kill with your blood. Remember not to get hurt. If you see a magic circle under someone's feet, be sure to destroy the magic circle or move it out of range. There may be other undead, whose limbs can move even if they are cut off. Quote. Several Uchiha listened with serious faces. The branch that was destroyed before only made some simple body transformations. Who would have thought that the evil god cult had such capabilities? Ninjas have strong attack power but weak defense. If you are not careful, you may be overturned. Kawasaki's information is crucial. Several people quickly arrived at the entrance of the cave. There were 2 guards in front of the door. Shisui jumped down, his eyes were stern, and the two guards fell to the ground. Then everyone entered one by one. Kawasaki looked up and looked at Hoshigaki Kisame, who was ready to move. You also go to help, Kisame. Kisame laughed when he heard it. Yes, boss. Then he followed Shisui and the others into the cave. You wait for us here, it will be over soon. Quote. Shira and Kurita Anzi were unwilling to fight, and Kimimaro was forbidden to fight by Kawasaki, so a few people were left waiting outside. Kawasaki also wanted to see the current level of Hoshigaki Kisame, so he slowly followed into the cave. Uchiha, the evil god cave. There were not many torches in the cave, and the light was dim. But under Kawasaki's perspective eyes, everything was clearly visible. Kawasaki walked forward leisurely. Along the way, the evil god believers were lying in all directions. It was not difficult to identify the evil god believers, and they were all dressed quite avant-garde. Hidan had a down jacket on his upper body, jeans on his lower body, and marten boots on his feet. These believers also follow the trend, with high boots, tight pants, and loose shirts. Metal ornaments were hung all over their bodies, each with its own characteristics, making Kawasaki seem to have returned to the forefront of fashion. It was just that his strength was a little lacking. Along the way, there were not many signs of fierce fighting, and they all fell to the ground. Most of the wounds were caused by Uchiha, the bloody ones were caused by Samahata. Some people can vaguely see traces of black or silver transformation on their bodies. The passage is not long, and there are sounds of fighting in front, and Kawasaki walks into it. The cave is open, and there is a high platform in front. The high platform has been stained black and brown by blood, and broken limbs are scattered all over the ground. Kawasaki frowned. This is probably their gathering or the place to worship the evil god. On the field, Shisui has already used his signature skill, Phantom Body Flicker technique, and multiple clones besieged and defeated the evil god cultists. The evil god cultists are like madmen, and they shouted, "Long live the evil god!" when they were chopped. Then they rushed up and hugged you tightly, letting their accomplices, swords pierce his body. Fortunately, Shisui Grandmaster teleportation technique, those guys are not strong. These low-end tricks of dying together are useless, and they are hugging substitutes. Hoshigaki Kisame had already untied the bandage of the Samahata and launched the flying chain slash of the Samahata. Advertisement. The handle of the Samahata stretched out, winding like an iron chain, and Kisame swung it out like swinging a meteor hammer. If it hits, it will kill you, and if it touches you, you will fall down. In the land of Uchiha, high-level ninjas are rare, and there are only a few masters of the so-called evil god cult, most of whom are small soldiers and crab generals. After Shisui and Kisame dealt with the minions, the remaining four were slightly better. The man in the middle seemed to be the leader, and he roared, "You blasphemers! The evil god will not forgive you." Kawasaki stepped forward. "Oh, we just stand here and see what your evil god can do to us." The leader was speechless for a moment, and most of the people who came were from the Uchiha clan. The men he recruited were completely vulnerable, and the most perfect reformer Hidan happened to be out at this time. Wait until Hidan comes back, and I will kill you all. Yaoyu said. It's useless, give up, Hidan has fallen to Lord Kawasaki. What? Impossible, I don't believe it. Seeing several people approaching, he ordered several people around him. It's time to sacrifice for Lord Evil God. Several people around him seemed to be possessed by demons, shouting, "Sacrifice for Lord Evil God." Several people jumped onto the platform together, grabbed the sword and slashed it to their necks, and they couldn't die for a while. They even turned the blade. In an instant, blood gushed out like a column. The leader stood on a high place and roared, "Lord Evil God, these are the gifts of the most devout believers." The bright red bloodline on the ground seemed to have life, flashing with strange light. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. The leader laughed wildly. After the ceremony, he would have an immortal body. At that time, whether it was beheading or cutting out the heart, he would be immortal. Kawasaki frowned and jumped into the air. Looking down from midair, I saw the blood on the ground gathered into triangles and circles along specific grooves. It was the talisman that Hidan had drawn. A force seemed to come through the void and condensed on the man in the front. Kawasaki snorted coldly. Kisame, wash away all the blood here. Kisame grinned. Leave it to me, boss. He inserted Samahata behind his back and quickly formed a seal. Water style, due to the explosion of water. Puff. A huge wave gushed out of Kisame's mouth. The rumbling sound was like a dam collapsing, pouring down violently. The water flow quickly washed through the grooves on the ground, not to mention the blood, all the bodies of the evil god cultists were washed out of the passage. The Uchiha people were shocked, such a powerful water style. Step on the water and jump up. However, the embarrassing thing was that Kisame's water spraying speed was too fast, and the water flow had nowhere to drain. The passage was blocked tightly by the bodies of the evil god cult, and the water level in the hall rose rapidly. Kawasaki was quite helpless. Kisame really hadn't fought for a long time and was itching to fight. This little water would not drown everyone, but it still made everyone embarrassed. Susanoo. Kawasaki transformed into Mangekyō Sharingan and summoned a huge Susanoo. With a loud bang, it broke through the mountain wall. Kurita Kyoko heard the surging sound of water like a tide, and knew that it must be Brother Kisame who used water style again. Only Brother Kisami's water style is so powerful. But isn't that the belly of the mountain? Kurita Kyoko was a little suspicious and subconsciously held the white clothes tightly. Boom. The inclined mountain wall suddenly exploded. A large amount of water immediately gushed out from the hole below. Kurita Kyoko jumped into the air, stepped on the water, and picked up Bai. And Kimimaro jumped nimbly to the big tree next to him. A huge Susanoo poked out from it. Several Uchiha people jumped out after him, and Shisui was holding an unconscious person in his hand. Hoshigaki Kisame was soaked and jumped out with Samahata. He grinned and said, "Sorry, boss, I forgot that the place was too crowded." Hoshigaki Kisame apologized, but he didn't feel sorry at all. Kawasaki didn't mind. He knew Kisame was not particular about details. After all, it was his own fault for not considering things carefully. The water came and went quickly. It soon became calm, and everyone stepped onto the water. Kawasaki scolded Uchiha. "You didn't interrupt him when he was charging his ultimate move. What were you doing?" Shisui pinched his bulbous nose. "Senior Kawasaki, don't be angry. I stopped everyone from taking action." Advertisement. Kawasaki snorted coldly. Shisui was like this by nature. He always thinks carefully before doing anything, and often misses the opportunity. Shisui awkwardly changed the subject. "Senior Kawasaki, how to deal with this guy?" Shisui threw the leader to the ground. The ground that had just been washed by the water was muddy. He choked on the water a few times, then got up and sat on the ground and kept chattering. "You actually interrupted the evil god's ritual. The evil god will definitely curse you." Kawasaki winked, and Shisui cut off his head with a sword. The magical thing is that this man, like Hidan, has not died even after his head is separated from his body. "Ha ha ha, I am immortal. The evil god protects me. I succeeded. I am immortal." Kawasaki looked at the leader of the evil god cult, who was afraid that he was mentally disturbed. He had no intention of exploring how to solve the mystery of immortality. Susanoo appeared and punched down with a heavy punch. Boom. Mud and water splashed everywhere. If the others had not dodged in time, they would have been soaked through. The head that was still chattering was smashed into a meat paste by a punch, and a big hole was smashed on the ground. Kawasaki frowned and punched again, and Tokido's body was also smashed into a meat paste. Kawasaki's Susanoo swept his arms and filled the two holes. Kawasaki dispersed Susanoo and ordered Shisui, "Shisui, go in and blow up the floor of the hall for me to prevent future troubles." Shisui took the order and left. The Uchiha around him were full of admiration for Susanoo. Boom, boom, boom. After a series of explosions, Shisui jumped out of the hole. "Senior Kawasaki, I have flattened the floor." Kawasaki clapped his hands. "Okay, the mission is over, let's go back." Konoha Village. The Hyuga clan's territory, the meeting room. The head of the main house, Hiyashi, the head of the branch house, Hazashi. And many elders sat in a circle. The four elders knelt below, their faces calm. But no one spoke, and the atmosphere in the meeting room was heavy and depressing. The eldest elder coughed. "I think it's a good thing that Uchiha withdrew from the guard team. Now our Hyuga family has completely controlled the guard team." Bang! Hyuga Hiyashi slammed the table in a rare move. "Grand Elder. I was against opening this loophole from the beginning. The guard team is almost entirely made up of Hyuga people, and they are powerful enough. The Uchiha people are there, and sometimes it is inconvenient for us to come forward. Wouldn't it be nice to ask them to help solve the problem? Now their whole family has quit, what's the point of you occupying a position? The power of the Uchiha family has suddenly increased, and now it has become the most powerful family in the ninja world. If the Hyuga family members are in the guard team, they will encounter some complicated backgrounds that they can't handle by themselves. Relying on the relationship between Hyuga and Uchiha, asking Uchiha for help, the problem will be solved in minutes. But now, it's over, the Uchiha family left without saying anything, and the store is closed. The great elder looked at Hiyashi, who was so angry, and his heart was also miserable. That's right, Hyuga and Uchiha had a very close relationship before, and the guard team asked for help when they were in trouble. Or for difficult tasks, the two families joined forces, and the success rate is rising. It's all my fault for coveting the honorary elder promised by Danzo. I was obsessed with it for a while, thinking that changing the position in the team is not a big deal. As a result, Uchiha reacted strongly. When the people from the route came, they would rather not do business than open the door. The villagers complained again and again. After the elder felt bad, he could only find the third Hokage again and again to fulfill the promise of the honorary elder. In the end, the third generation said that it was all Danzo's private promise and it was not counted. As a result, the honorary elders 3 and 4 were not obtained, and the position left vacant after the withdrawal of the root was left. Originally, the Hyuga family could stop the loss in time at this time. Unexpectedly, Danzo actually found the fourth elder Kato. The fourth elder Kato is a rare person who cares about the family wholeheartedly. He doesn't care much about the hierarchy of the main family branch house. When promoting young people, he treats them equally, whether you are from the main family or the branch house. Although he was disabled, he burned himself for the Hyuga family. No one expected Kato to do this, even though the hole was opened by the Great Elder. The fourth elder Kato spoke at this time. Chief, I did this alone, and the elders had nothing to do with it. Then, the fourth elder took out a scroll and handed it to Hyuga Hiyashi. Hiyashi took the scroll in confusion, and when he unfolded it, it turned out to be the appointment letter of the honorary elder. And the name area was blank. You didn't use the appointment letter yourself. The honorary elder is useless to me, the chief can find a suitable person to take over. Hiyashi was a little surprised. He knew the content of the transaction between Kato and Danzo, but he didn't expect Kato to hand in the appointment letter. When the other elders heard that Hyuga Kato didn't use the appointment letter himself, they all cast strange eyes. Hiyashi put down the appointment letter. Talk about it. Quote. For so many years, Hazy has worked diligently for the family. He must have his reasons for doing this time. Kato nodded, and then took out the survey report on Uchiha's income given by Danzo. Kato also prepared several copies and distributed them to all the elders. Whether it was the clan leader Hiyashi or other elders, they all had ideas after seeing the amazing income of the Uchiha family. After everyone knew the situation, Kato said, some children who have a good relationship with Uchiha told me. Uchiha doesn't need to go out to do missions now, the family pays money regularly. They used to go to Konoha to take missions just to hone their skills, and didn't expect to make money at all. Chapter 73 Sage Mode. Curse Sealed. Orochimaru. Natural Affinity. And Uchiha Kawasaki has also issued a reward order to encourage childbirth. If the Uchiha give birth at home, the tribe will give money. Kato's words made the Hyuga elders uneasy. No wonder it's rare to see Uchiha people accepting missions. I thought Itachi took a lot of people away, but it turns out that there is no need to do missions at all. Quote. Giving out rewards for having children, are Uchiha so rich? The reason why the Hyuga family is so rich is because of the powerful Byakugan. No matter which ninja war, the Byakugan of the Hyuga family is always an indispensable reconnaissance artifact. Therefore, whether it is the subsidies issued by the village, or Hyuga going out as a mercenary, or accepting missions and requests for help, the Hyuga family makes a lot of money and is famous. It makes the Hyuga family have some face wherever they go. The branch house system of the Hyuga family allows the main family to hold absolute power. It also makes the Byakugan rarely leaked, and there will be no betrayers. But because of this, no matter how many military exploits the branch house has made, it is difficult to gain power. The elders of the main family rarely go to the battlefield, they are all in the rear, and it is almost impossible to make merit. This leads to the lack of power in the Hyuga family, which has an excellent reputation. In addition to the Hyuga Hiyashi, there are no more honorary elders. Many elders of the main family dream of getting another honorary elder position, and the great elder opened the door. Seeing that everyone was listening carefully, Kato continued to analyze. The family is short of manpower due to the acceptance of the guard position. Everyone knows the days before Uchiha, and now it is our Hyuga family's turn. The guard has tied up most of our manpower, and now we can't accept many requests for assistance from the family. Many elders realized at this time that the family is in an awkward situation. The great elder knocked on the table and said in a deep voice, we foresaw this problem when we accepted the guard from the beginning. Hiyashi nodded and continued. The situation was not so serious at the time. Now it is a non-war period. It doesn't matter if we are short of manpower. As long as we survive these few years and wait for the new generation to take up the responsibility, our Hyuga family will soon enter a period of rapid development. Quote. All the elders looked at each other and agreed with Hiyashi's point of view. But the information in their hands clearly told them that they would develop rapidly in a few years. And Uchiha would directly rise to prominence. I took this honorary elder appointment letter from Danzo not for myself. It's not for my crippled leg, I just want to gain more power for the family. In a few years, our Hyuga clan will not be left too far behind. Quote. Hyuga Hato touched his leg. To him, this was just an additional condition given by Danzo. He would cooperate with or without him. Kaido's thinking was very clear. Everyone also knew about his leg recovery. Unexpectedly, Kato was not doing this for his broken leg at all, but for the family's planning. The elders looked at each other and agreed with Kaido's statement. Hyuga Hazashi couldn't help asking, aren't you afraid that Uchiha Kawasaki will come back to settle accounts with us? Everyone shuddered when they thought of Kawasaki's power. He was a smart and capable fighter. The third generation and Danzo suffered a lot from him. If Kawasaki came back, the Hyuga clan would not be able to bear his revenge. Kato smiled. When doing this, I thought of several possible results. One is that we successfully obtained all the formulas, and we can immediately cooperate with the Hokage and present the formulas to the Fire Country Daimyo. We will run this business together after copying. Even if Uchiha Kawasaki comes back, he can't do anything. Second, if only part of the formula is obtained, Uchiha's loss is not great. The family only needs to execute me to give an explanation to Uchiha. Third, if we are discovered quickly, Uchiha will not suffer any loss and can be abandoned. No matter what the result is, our Hyuga clan can win the position of honorary elders. The price is just a mere old man who is lingering on. Chief, if Uchiha needs an explanation, let me die to apologize. Kato looked calm, as if he had already prepared to sacrifice. The elders also looked at Hiashi, and the eldest elder opened his lips slightly, but in the end he didn't say anything. In this world, revealing other people's secrets is like digging out people's hearts and livers, which is an extremely serious act. Hyuga Hiashi stared at the appointment letter and the Uchiha clan's profit report in his hand, and was speechless for a long time. He raised his head and said, "Let the Hyuga guard spread the news," claiming that all this was forced by Danzo. Fourth Elder Kato, revoke his position as an elder, order him to stay at home, and wait for further processing. As for the appointment letter of this honorary elder, Rice Country. Kawasaki really felt the prosperous atmosphere when he stepped on the land of Rice Country. Along the way, whether it was the water country or the soup country, they were all in decline, and there were few people on the journey. Although I prepared a lot of food, there will always be a time when I get tired of the circle. As soon as I stepped into the territory of Rice Country, walking into a small town on the border, there was a small shop with a sign of Chinese food. Kawasaki greeted his companions to eat heartily. At the same time, he felt in his heart that he had never expected that the catering training he had engaged in that year would be so useful in Otherworld. Let yourself taste a little bit of the flavor of home in this strange place. Although the taste is slightly different due to the limited materials, it is a great comfort in a foreign land. The world of Hokage is extremely unevenly developed. Some places are technologically advanced, while others are poor and backward. Advertisement. In terms of food, almost no one has conducted in-depth research, so there is naturally no mention of the prosperity of food culture. Those delicacies in the previous life have evolved over the years. Moving here is simply a dimensionality reduction attack. After the task was completed, the people of Saint Seiya were not in a hurry to return home. Everyone tasted all the delicacies along the way. Several people from the water country experienced this exotic delicacy for the first time. Once they started, they couldn't stop. Kisame and Kurita Anzi preferred spicy food. The snacks such as skewers and mousai along the way made them love it. Kimimaro and Bai preferred sweets. They bought a lot of water chestnut cakes, mung bean cakes, anko cakes, etc. The two smiled and were rarely happy. Kawasaki also let them enjoy as much as they wanted, and they stopped along the way, and it took more than half a month to finally reach Otogakure. Otogakure is expanding, and the surrounding streets are also under construction, with shops lined up one after another. There are many people who come to entrust tasks, and naturally there are many people who consume, forming a virtuous cycle. Many of the ninjas who passed by were members of the Uchiha clan, and they were all very happy to see Kawasaki. Lord Kawasaki. Lord Kawasaki. Some people greeted Kawasaki from time to time. In these years, news from Konoha kept coming. Everyone knew that since they left, although the Uchiha clan had left the power center, everyone's life had become better. Many people's families were still in Konoha, and after having the summoning beast, communication between each other was also very fast. They understood that the Uchiha were now very wealthy, and they no longer had to work hard to complete the mission. Especially recently, the Uchiha of Konoha no longer took missions in Konoha, and all were passed back from here for them to choose. The Uchiha no longer had to be bound by Konoha's face. Some people had younger siblings, some brothers got married and had children, and the family also issued generous subsidies. All this was thanks to Kawasaki, so everyone respected him from the bottom of their hearts. According to everyone's thinking, the next clan leader should be Kawasaki. Everyone knew that Kawasaki had something important to do, so he said hello and left first. Itachi also came out quickly to greet Kawasaki. Senior Kawasaki, long time no see. Quote. Over 4 years, Itachi has grown a lot taller, and his appearance is more and more similar to the Itachi in Kawasaki's memory, except for a set of fire cloud clothes. Kawasaki shook his head and drove away this strange thought. He laughed and patted Itachi on the back. You have grown a lot taller, Itachi. Thank you for your care. Itachi was still polite. Okay, take me to see Orochimaru first. Kawasaki didn't care, but was full of expectations for Orochimaru. Itachi led the way, passed through the Sound Village, and then walked a small road. Arrived at a call, where a cave had been dug, and a ninja stood on each side of the cave entrance. The chakra reaction of these two ninjas is also at the Jonin level. But the key is that Kawasaki's previous guess was correct, and those who did not leave their names in the original work. Even if they join the faction template, they will not get rewards. Kawasaki narrowed his eyes slightly, and suddenly thought whether Orochimaru had already recruited the 4 sound ninjas. If so, maybe he could get some benefits. Itachi led Kawasaki deeper, and once he entered the cave, Kawasaki found that the space inside was deep and wide. I don't know if Orochimaru hollowed out the entire mountain belly, and the sound of footsteps came from the front. Orochimaru appeared at the end of the passage, raised his hands, and looked at Kawasaki with burning eyes. Kawasaki-kun, I have been waiting for you for a long time. A low and hoarse voice sounded. Yes, it was this smell. Ding. Successfully recruited Orochimaru. Closing square bracket. Congratulations host for obtaining ninjutsu analysis ability. Or do we have to meet each other to get it? Orochimaru's talent for ninjutsu is well known to everyone. His ability to analyze ninjutsu can quickly learn and improve ninjutsu. With it, learning ninjutsu will be faster in the future. Kawasaki smiled. Orochimaru, I have been looking forward to this meeting for a long time. Let's go, I'll take you to the laboratory. Orochimaru nodded with satisfaction and walked in front to lead the way. Kawasaki and Itachi followed closely behind. Orochimaru deliberately slowed down his pace and walked side by side with Kawasaki. Kawasaki-kun, the Jugo and Karen you asked Itachi to find are really good seedlings, and they have brought a lot of new ideas to our experiments. Jugo's body has a huge boost to my research on the curse seal. Orochimaru's mind was full of his scientific experiments, and Kawasaki quickly entered the state. I think Jugo's physique is naturally able to attract natural energy, and his curse seal is actually a low-level sage mode. The real sage mode should not lose the human mind. Quote. Orochimaru nodded. Kawasaki-kun, which sage mode do you think is better, Raichi Cave or Mount Myoboku? Kawasaki shook his head and said, it depends on the individual's physique, and see which is more suitable for Mount Myoboku's frog magic. Or the snake magic of Raichi Cave, or the Katsuyu magic of the Wetbone Forest. Of course, the sage modes of these three places are developed based on their own characteristics. If we learn their sage modes, we will more or less have some of their racial characteristics in the end. Advertisement. Kawasaki paused and continued. Whether the magic of the three holy places will affect the mind, no one dares to guarantee. If possible, I would like to create a magic that is exclusive to humans. Quote. Orochimaru nodded thoughtfully. He was an orphan since childhood. Later, during his growth, he had a deep connection with Raichi Cave. His ninjutsu series were all inspired by snakes. Even his own bloodline may be inextricably linked to Raichi Cave. But it didn't matter to him. Orochimaru was a scientist. He had invented secret techniques such as living corpse reincarnation, which could replace the body at will. Naturally, he would not be limited to his own bloodline inheritance. Orochimaru had great ambitions and would not be limited to Raichi Cave or the study of snakes. If the sage mode of Raichi Cave really had any potential risks that could affect his mind, he would not hesitate to give up Raichi Cave. Although Orochimaru knew that rebirth had damaged his soul, practicing fairy arts might face greater difficulties. During the conversation, Orochimaru had already brought Kawasaki and Itachi into the laboratory. Lord Orochimaru, Brother Itachi. A little girl with red hair and round glasses was busy putting a piece of rice cake into her mouth. Itachi nodded gently and introduced to Karen. This is Senior Kawasaki. He asked me to go to Kusagakure to save you. Karen looked at Kawasaki beside Orochimaru, and her eyes sparkled. The Uchiha clan has always been outstanding in appearance, and Kawasaki, who is in his 20s, is taller and more upright than Itachi. Karen was full of gratitude for this senior who she liked at first sight. After all, it was he who asked Brother Itachi to save her. So, she called sweetly, Kawasaki Senior. Kawasaki responded with a smile and nodded slightly. At this moment, the system prompt sounded slightly slowly. Ding. Congratulations host for greatly changing Karen's life trajectory. Closing square bracket. Congratulations host for obtaining Diamond Lock X1. Ding. Successfully recruited Karen. Closing square bracket. Congratulations host for obtaining Physical Recovery. Ha, it's like I have become an energy drink. 153 Kawasaki heard the system prompt and thought about turning back to bite himself to see if he could heal himself. Karen, is there enough food? Orochimaru rarely showed a good mood. Karen was the only one allowed to eat in his laboratory. Given Karen's special constitution, she needs to consume a lot of energy. This energy is not only chakra, but also life force. Karen can replenish these energies by eating a lot, and Orochimaru is always very tolerant of precious experimental subjects. Keeping Karen healthy physically and mentally means that experimental cooperation will be smoother and reduce many unnecessary troubles. Therefore, no matter what Karen wants to eat, Orochimaru will arrange for someone to prepare it. Karen swallowed the rice cake whole and said vaguely, Enough, Lord Orochimaru, I'm already very full. For Karen, following Brother Itachi to Orochimaru was the best decision in her life. In the Kusagakure village, she and her mother have always been regarded as tools, and her mother was sucked alive to death. She lived in fear and disgust for the Kusagakure village since she was a child, until Brother Itachi came like a god and said he would take her away. Karen agreed without much hesitation. Even if the destination was hell, it was better than staying in Kusagakure. After arriving at the land of fields, Karen found that it was simply heaven. There were countless delicacies here, and Brother Itachi was generous and could eat whatever he wanted. When she first met Orochimaru, Karen was a little scared, but after a period of getting along, she found that Orochimaru was actually very good. He just asked her to cooperate with some experiments, and she could eat, drink and sleep as she pleased every day. This kind of life was exactly what she dreamed of. According to Brother Itachi, all this was arranged by Senior Kawasaki. Therefore, Karen was deeply grateful to Senior Kawasaki. Orochimaru led everyone to continue moving forward. There was a giant machine in front of them, and a tube was connected to the machine. There stood a child with orange hair and orange eyes, and his body was unusually strong. This should be Jugo. He is really tall. I don't know what he ate. He looked about 12 or 13 years old, and was taller than Itachi, estimated to be 1.75 meters tall, only half a head shorter than Orochimaru. Jugo was very happy to see everyone coming. Lord Orochimaru, Itachi, Karen, you are here. He then looked at Kawasaki, who had a distinct Uchiha appearance. But Jugo had never seen him before. Jugo, this is Kawasaki-senpai. Itachi introduced Jugo. Shigeo respectfully bowed to Kawasaki. Kawasaki-senpai, thank you for saving me. If you hadn't asked brother Itachi to bring me here, I would still be unable to resist the urge to kill. Kawasaki looked at Shigeo with clear eyes and sighed in his heart. Shigeo was originally a person who loved nature and had a peaceful mind. But because he could not control the urge to kill when he ran away, he suffered great pain. Ding. Successfully recruited Shigeo. Congratulations to the host for obtaining nature affinity. Ding. Successfully changed Shigeo's life trajectory. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Curse Seal X1. Chapter 74 Nagato. Yahiko. Otogakur. Orochimaru, you are the Hokage. Curse Seal. Not sure what the form of his curse seal will be. Its natural affinity again, Kawasaki seems to be able to feel a special energy in the air. It seems that it's time to consider Sage Mode. Kawasaki smiled and greeted Jugo, turned to Orochimaru and asked, how do you suppress his rampage now? Orochimaru explained. Only when there is too much natural energy in his body and it affects his mind. As long as his natural energy is extracted regularly, there will be no problem. Orochimaru touched Karen's head. Little Karen has a strong sense of perception. When Jugo has too much natural energy, just seal him and draw it. Karen showed a proud expression. Orochimaru looked at the tube behind Jugo. Well, it's almost done. Jugo heard this and directly untied the tube behind him. He can finally move freely. Kawasaki was happy for Jugo because he didn't have to be imprisoned anymore. Then he said, I'll introduce you to a few friends, you should like them. Quote. Itachi, take Jugo and Karen to meet their new partners. Kawasaki ordered. Itachi nodded in agreement and led Jugo and Karen away. Jugo was originally rescued by Kimimaro, who bound him with bones and madly recommended his boss Orochimaru to him. Now that he was rescued in advance, I wonder if he will be closer to Itachi or Kimimaro in the future. Hey, it seems that there is one person missing from this group of people. Kawasaki suddenly couldn't remember who it was. Forget it, never mind, that person didn't have an important role anyway. Following Orochimaru into the secret study, the two sat down face to face. Orochimaru outlined the progress of Itachi and Shisui to Kawasaki. The eyes are originally independent of the immune system, and your Uchiha's Sharingan, under the influence of specific hormones in the brain, will produce a large amount of Yin-Dun chakra and then evolve. Quote. But this is incomplete. Sharingan is only concerned with evolution, and does not consider whether the body's functions can withstand it. Therefore, Uchiha who activate Mangekyō will eventually become blind. Quote. I have prescribed medicine for Itachi and Shisui that can block the effect of that hormone. Quote. Now, their bodies will no longer be harmed by Yin-Tun chakra, and Itachi's cell inflammation has disappeared. Quote. But the power of their eyes will temporarily stop growing. I want to wait until their bodies develop more before continuing the treatment. Although Kawasaki does not understand the specific research operations, in theory, he can provide Orochimaru with a lot of ideas. How is the separation of Hashirama cells going? Kawasaki has not contacted Orochimaru for a while and is not sure about his progress. Orochimaru initially thought that it would be enough to directly inject Hashirama cells, but Kawasaki reminded him that the will of Hashirama cells is too stubborn. If the Yang-Tun chakra is not separated first and injected, it may turn people into trees. It's not easy to separate the Yang chakra at the cell level, and there are still many rare materials missing. But Jiraiya came once a month ago. Orochimaru told Kawasaki about Jiraiya's visit. Kawasaki narrowed his eyes and thought deeply. He revealed the matter of the baby armor just to add another black pot to Danzo's head. Anyway, Danzo has a lot of black pots, and this one is not a big deal. I didn't expect the third Hokage to have other intentions. If there was no fourth generation, and Orochimaru didn't take the dark research route, would the third generation choose Orochimaru as Hokage? You know, in this world, Orochimaru neither joined the Akatsuki Organization. He didn't assassinate the fourth Kage, nor did he carry out the Konoha collapse plan. He was just a scientific research geek. His previous defection to do human experiments was a thing of the past. This world is cruel. Every ninja village has these things, but outsiders don't know about them. After all, even Obito has people to excuse him, and Orochimaru's things are not worth mentioning at all. The land of fields, Sound Village. Itachi showed up with Karen and Jugo. But he found Shisui sparring with Kisame, both of them casually. Shisui didn't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, and Kisame didn't bring samahata, only ordinary sword in the test bed. Shisui's movements were graceful, always attacking in unexpected places. Kisami's every strike was steady and powerful. Although he was not as flexible as Shisui, he was very coercive in attack and defense. Bang! Shisui's sword was knocked away by Kisami's heavy blow. Shisui landed and rubbed his nose. You win, Ryo. Kisami's shark face smiled, and he turned his head to see a scratch on his shoulder. He knew that if Shisui hadn't stopped, he would have been injured. Shisui, the instant body, is indeed worthy of his reputation. He began to like this place a little. Itachi introduced Karen and Jugo to everyone, one by one. Although Shiro's complexion had improved, his body was still thin and weak, and his timid expression reminded Karen of her former self. She took out snacks from her bag and shared them with Shiro, and the two quickly became familiar with each other. Jugo saw Kimimaro for the first time, but he seemed to be an old acquaintance, and he immediately developed a good impression in his heart. My name is Jugo. In the land of rain, the rain kept falling. Pain stared out the window with his hands behind his back. Conan arranged the sacrifice and turned to look at Pain. Nagato, I'm going to start. Quote. Pain's low voice concealed a strange emotion. Conan calmed down and made a seal solemnly, not daring to be negligent. She had learned this ninjutsu for a long time, and now she can finally perform it. But the summoned filthy earth body is not strong enough, and can only have simple conversations. He slapped the ground with his palm. Reanimation jutsu. Advertisement. The wind blew in the secret room, and the cries of countless ghosts echoed. ISISIS. ISISIS. A circle of light lit up around the living sacrifice, and the talismans on the ground attached to his body one after another. Ah, ah, ah. The unconscious living sacrifice woke up, and the severe pain made him scream heartbreakingly. The scream was as shrill as a demon. Conan couldn't help but step back and bump into Pain behind him. Pain had turned around and saw the talisman paper dissipated, revealing the form of Waiduti and Jusuk. After not seeing each other for many years, Jusuk was still wearing the clothes of the past. Except for the cracks in the dirty soil, everything was the same as before. Haosuke's eyes gradually became bright. Am I not dead? Then he saw Pain in front of him. Although he didn't know the situation, he still rushed over excitedly. Great, big brother. You are okay. Pain had a blank expression and let Jusuk hug him. After a while, Jusuk realized that something was wrong. Yahiko in front of him was stiff and had no heartbeat. What's going on, brother Yin? What's wrong with you? Haosuk asked hurriedly, but looked up and found Pain's Rinnegan. Haosuk sat on the ground. This is not Nagato's Rinnegan. What is going on? Someone approached him, and Jusuk looked up. It was Conan. Conan looked sad. Hadosuk. Hadosuk saw Conan. There seemed to be light in his eyes. He stood up and held Conan's hand. Conan, what happened to Big Brother? Didn't I die? Where is Daibatsu, Nagato, and other partners? When Conan heard Hadosuke's question, the figures of his friends in his youth flashed in his mind. Conan closed his eyes painfully. Hadosuk, you and Daibatsu, and other partners are all dead. Yahiko is gone too. The one in front of you. I am Nagato. Pain seemed to have finally sorted out his emotions and spoke. Hadosuk took 2 steps back and bumped into the window, then noticed that he was covered with cracks. He raised his hand and looked. Really? It seems that many things happened after I died. Hadosuk sat down cross-legged. That day when you went to negotiate with Hanzo, I received news from my companions at the border of Konoha, saying that Konoha Anbu was heading towards Hanzo. Quote. I think the timing is too coincidental, and Hanzo's words are too pleasing to the ear. I suspected a trick, so I called my companions to support you. I didn't expect to be stopped by 2 people on the way. One of them had a black and white face, and his body looked like 2 aloe leaves. Quote. The other covered his face and called himself Uchiha Madara. The Uchiha Madara didn't let me go to support you, saying that he wanted you to face reality, and then the black and white face summoned a bunch of white monsters on the ground. The man who called himself Uchiha Madara had strange abilities. My attack went through his body, and then he stabbed me. I wanted to use a secret technique to kill him together, but he escaped. Hadosuk easily recounted his experience at the end of his life, and he quickly accepted that he was only temporarily resurrected. After all, resurrection from the dead is unrealistic. But Conan and Nagato were unwilling to tell him the truth about Yahiko, and why Nagato used Yahiko's body. Conan couldn't help asking, did the guy who called himself Uchiha Madara say anything else? Haosuk pondered for a moment and said, I heard his words before I died. In order for Nagato to open the real Rinnegan, this world is cursed, where is the real peace? Nagato should give up his current dream and step into the door of the new world. After speaking, Haosuk raised his head suddenly. Nagato, have you given up our ideal of peace? Pain was silent for a moment and replied, no, I just changed a method. We were too naive in the past. People always grow up after experiencing pain. People who don't understand pain will never understand what peace is. I will bring peace to this world in my own way. Pain announced firmly. Hadosuk looked at Pain and felt that Nagato in front of him was unusually strange. Nagato, no matter what you have experienced, you are doing this now, isn't it in line with Uchiha Madara's wishes? Pain's face changed slightly, and he didn't speak for a long time. Faced with Hadosuke's continuous questioning, he remained silent. After a long time, he gently answered. Conan sighed and murmured, Imper World Reincarnation, solution. Hadosuk suddenly felt that his body became lighter, and his soul was being pulled out of this body. He couldn't help shouting, Nagato. Don't fall into the trap of conspiracy. As a war orphan, in the days of wandering and helpless, Akatsuki is the first ray of hope I saw, Nagato. I will never forget that morning when the sun first rose. Quote. Advertisement. My eldest brother named the organization, Akatsuki. Quote. He said. This country, which has been devastated by war and shed tears, needs us to be the dawn that brings change. The voice gradually weakened and finally dissipated. Pain stared out the window, and his chakra was agitated. Conan looked at him worriedly. Would Pain's chakra return to normal, and he said coldly, let's go find Uchiha Kawasaki, he knows more inside information. The land of fields, Otogakur. In Orochimaru's laboratory. In the original world, although the fifth Hokage was Tsunade, it was under the sudden death of the third generation. Tsunade couldn't bear to see his grandfather's hard work being wasted by Danzo, so he took over the responsibility of the fifth Hokage. In fact, Tsunade's relationship with the village is not harmonious now. Naoki and Dan's death was too hasty, and Kawasaki didn't believe that Danzo didn't intervene. But no one knows whether Danzo made the decision in private or with the tacit consent of the third generation. One of the heirs of the Senju died and the other went mad. The rest of the Senju died because of copying the wood style. The Sarutobi clan grew stronger, and Danzo was eyeing the position of Hokage. From the perspective of the ultimate beneficiary, Danzo and the third generation are both suspected. Kawasaki laughed sinisterly. Orochimaru, do you want to be Hokage? Hokage. Orochimaru chewed on the word. He didn't have a deep obsession with Hokage, but he was dissatisfied because the old man chose Minato instead of himself. However, except for the 5 major countries, the kage of other countries would not be recognized once they left the village. Therefore, it is rare to hear titles such as Takikage, Kusakage, and Frostkage. Orochimaru is no longer interested in being the kage of a village. Pursuing the truth is his lifelong ambition. I am not interested in being Hokage. Quote. Orochimaru shook his head. Alas, Orochimaru, your vision is too short. Kawasaki shook his head and said. The land of fields is so small, and the resources are not rich. The rare materials that are difficult for you to get are not difficult for the Hokage. Jiraiya only got the materials once, what if you were the Hokage? Orochimaru's mind moved when he heard this. Orochimaru was not stupid, but was obsessed with scientific research and often ignored these things. If he really made himself the 5th Hokage, then the fertile land of the Land of Fire. There are also many secret books and medicines of the ninja clan, which can be found in Konoha village. After all, the area of the Land of Fields is less than 1/10 of the Land of Fire. Whether it is people's livelihood or military, it is far behind the Land of Fire. What are your plans? Orochimaru is a very practical person. He takes action as soon as he thinks of it, and immediately asks Kawasaki about his plan. Now Konoha has lost its talent, and there are not many people who can be Hokage. Except you, only Tsunade and Jiraiya are still considered Hokage. If the third Hokage does not want the power to fall to someone else, he will not consider others. After years of cultivation by the third generation, the Sarutobi clan has a large number of ninjas, and the ninja clan is huge. But the top combat power, sorry, there is not a single one. Asuma, who he has high hopes for, is a rebellious person and cannot be used. Others who may inherit the Hokage either died, ran away, or defected. So, the old man who is almost 7,000 years old is still sitting in the position of Hokage. At this moment, Kawasaki did not count Kakashi, who is still in the growth stage and the time is not right. Jiraiya will never want to be Hokage. Orochimaru knows Jiraiya's character well. Kawasaki chuckled. It's impossible even if he wants to. Orochimaru knew that Kawasaki had ruined Jiraiya's reputation, and he couldn't help but smile when he heard it. In this case, the only one left is Tsunade. Kawasaki thought for a while and asked, first of all, how did Naoki and Dan die? Orochimaru understood the meaning of the music and smiled ironically. Naoki is the only heir of the Senju clan. Who will benefit the most after his death? How can a person of such status die in an accident? Kawasaki nodded, and Orochimaru's thoughts coincided with his. As for Kato Dan, his spiritualization technique is most suitable for investigation, and he died suddenly not long after the investigation. Kawasaki smacked his lips. After all, those who know the insider know more deeply. Back then, Kato Dan's spiritualization technique made great contributions to Konoha. The biggest weakness of the spiritualization technique is that the body is defenseless when it is spiritualized. The action that should have been the most secretive was exposed. Dan was attacked while performing the spiritualization technique and was seriously injured and died. Orochimaru's tongue curled lightly. Only a few of us knew about Dan's whereabouts back then. In addition, the third generation and Danzo knew about it. As the third generation possible? Kawasaki asked. Orochimaru nodded. It may be that he was the mastermind, or he may have known about it afterwards and helped to cover it up. Tsunade also noticed it, so he left the village. Quote. Although there is no evidence to directly prove that the third generation is the mastermind behind the scenes. But the ultimate beneficiary is undoubtedly the third generation. Moreover, The third Hokage indulged Danzo many times, resulting in a large number of talents leaving Konoha. A good hand of cards, played badly. As Tsunade interested in the position of Hokage. Kawasaki's impression of Tsunade only remains in memory, so it is most appropriate to ask Tsunade's team leader Orochimaru about this matter. Orochimaru chuckled. Tsunade is the princess of the Senju clan, and she is the granddaughter of the first generation. She has everything since she was a child and has no interest in Hokage. Of course, if Konoha is in decline, she may go back to be Hokage. Quote. I have to admit that Orochimaru also knows Tsunade well. In the original time and space, Tsunade returned for this reason and served as Hokage. Kawasaki's eyelids drooped slightly. As long as you become Hokage to make Konoha stronger, Princess Tsunade probably won't compete with you. Chapter 75 Eternal Mangekyō. Kawasaki's Eye Technique. Kusanagi Sword. Yamada no Orochi Technique. The current Odogakur is no longer the small village of the previous life. Although the territory of the Land of Fields has not changed, its economic development is the fastest. In terms of strength, more than 100 Uchiha people became the pillars of the Odogakur when it was the most difficult. Later, the number of tasks increased sharply, and many foreign ninjas were attracted to join. They also had a say in the ninja world. But Odogakur has never had a proper ceremony. There is a leader in the village, but no shadow. If the Land of Fields develops further, perhaps a ceremony can be held. What if the daimyo of the Land of Fields and the new Odogakur both support Orochimaru to be Hokage? Orochimaru's chances are not small. Orochimaru of the Odogakur has always been hiding behind the scenes, and the real person in charge is Yakushi Kabuto, although he is only in his early 20s. But the Odogakur has developed from a barren land at the beginning to the present, and he has made an indelible contribution. I have to mention that this guy Kabuto is really a genius and has super abilities. Since Orochimaru became a technology geek, Kabuto is often the decision maker on the front line, and he handles all the big and small things in the village in an orderly manner. Now some people have begun to call Kabuto Sound Shadow Master, but it doesn't count because there has been no ceremony. Below are the three elders of Uchiha, the most combative are Itachi and Kamasuke. Further down are some talents recruited by Uchiha and Orochimaru. At the beginning, so many Uchiha poured into the Sound Village, and many villages were not optimistic, thinking that Uchiha wanted to usurp power. In the end, everyone lived in peace. Uchiha did their duties, and promoted the catering industry with the daimyo of the Land of Fields. It is said that the irritable Uchiha is actually just a little cold, and they can still get along normally, which is quite surprising. If Kabuto officially becomes the Sound Shadow, Orochimaru can stay out of it and pretend that he is just a partner of the Sound Village. Orochimaru has a good relationship with the Uchiha who ran away, and has the support of the Land of Fields and the Sound Village, so the external help is in place. As long as he returns to Konoha village and makes some achievements, the position of 5th Hokage will be secure. As for what kind of achievements, there is a lot of room for maneuver. Kawasaki wanted to find Tsunade before. Konoha village has such a complete medical system, which was all built by Tsunade. If possible, Kawasaki also hopes that the national player can build a medical team for Uchiha. Now there is another reason to find her. What? Tsunade disagrees. Uchiha has nothing but money now, and its own development fund has not been used. He will force Tsunade back to Uchiha. After a brief communication with Orochimaru, Orochimaru was also moved and expressed his willingness to cooperate with Kawasaki. The 4th Hokage is not himself, but it would be good if the 5th Hokage is himself. After roughly finalizing it, Kawasaki brought up the topic of Sharingan again. Land of Fields, Odogakur. Kawasaki gave Orochimaru a research direction before, the evolution of Sharingan 560. From one Magatama to ordinary Mangekyō, it is the continuous improvement of Yinten chakra. And the eternal Mangekyō may be to repair the genes in the body so that the body can withstand the atavism of Mangekyō. To avoid continuous damage to the eyes when using it. But now Kawasaki has achieved eternal Mangekyō and skipped this step directly. He wants to let Orochimaru see how the eternal Mangekyō without repairing genes appears. Although his eye evolution relies on cheating, it would be good if it can help the experiment a little. When Orochimaru learned that Kawasaki was eternal Mangekyō, he couldn't believe it. But since Kawasaki can even predict the future, it is normal to have some special features. Afterwards, a lot of tests were done on Kawasaki, including Mangekyō's Susanoo and 2 kinds of eye techniques. Now Kawasaki's Susanoo can reach a maximum of 100 meters, and it is still increasing. The weapon-enhancing eye technique, Aim no Kume style, has an attack power that even Orochimaru is amazed at. It can actually forcibly eliminate space. The place that was cut disappears in an instant. When Orochimaru heard the name of this eye technique, he looked strange. Then he opened his mouth and spit out a sharp sword. Kusanagi sword. Kawasaki raised his eyebrows. Kusanagi sword seems to be Aim no Kume sword. But the Kusanagi sword in this world is not a specific sword, but a type of sword. Kawasaki's Aim no Kume style is a combination of pupil power and chakra, attached to the Susanoo weapon. Orochimaru has more than one Kusanagi sword. Advertisement. Orochimaru has the Yamada no Orochi technique, and the Kusanagi sword is the weapon of the Yamada no Orochi. Legend has it that each Kusanagi sword represents a snake. It can be said that Orochimaru's Kusanagi sword is infinite. But there are only a few sharp ones. It's just right to bring a gift back to the apprentice. Orochimaru, get me a Kusanagi sword. Kawasaki is never polite to acquaintances, and directly stretched out his hand to ask for it. Orochimaru didn't care, and spit out another Kusanagi sword. This sword is just right for little Sasuke. Orochimaru smiled. After all, he and Itachi have such a good relationship. Precious experimental subject, it is normal for an elder to give Sasuke a sword. Kawasaki put the Kusanagi sword on his waist and prepared to start today's experiment. Kawasaki's second eye technique is called Suzan Mingzun's eye. It only has one ability to enhance observation. When the eye power is enhanced, the space will become clearer. But in the end, it became blurred again. Kawasaki has never encountered an opponent who needs to fight quickly, so he rarely uses Suzan Mingzun's eye because it consumes a lot of eye energy. It just so happens that Orochimaru wants to test the recovery speed of Kawasaki's eternal eye after the eye power is exhausted, and this eye technique is the most suitable. This time he plans to inject all the eye power into the Suzan Mingzun's eye. As soon as Kawasaki opened the eternal Mangekyō, his aura immediately changed, and he kept injecting eye power into his eyes when looking far away. The vision became clearer and clearer, but it began to blur to a certain extent. Has it reached the limit? Kawasaki frowned. Kawasaki simply continued to input his pupil power. At this time, the world seemed to be opening up, and the blurred scene suddenly changed. Bang! Orochimaru used the storage scroll on the side, but he didn't know what to take out. Kawasaki was puzzled. Bang! Orochimaru used the summoning technique again to check if there was any news. Kawasaki followed the sound and found that a space channel had been opened where the summoning technique was. Looking along the channel, there were many snakes there, and a white-scaled snake in a temple suddenly looked over. The huge snake pupil reflected his own image. Kawasaki suddenly woke up. This pupil technique could see through the different space and track the spatial coordinates. Raichi Cave. The white snake immortal, the pipe he was holding shook slightly. Who was spying on Raichi Cave just now? The white snake immortal secretly deduced and found that the future scene was actually a chaos. These eyes can see through the different space and track the spatial coordinates. When Kawasaki said this, Orochimaru was also amazed. Being able to track spatial coordinates in battle is not necessary against ordinary opponents, but it is very useful against space-time ninjutsu. Speaking of space-time ninjutsu, the most famous one is Flying Thunder God technique. It has 2 steps. First, engrave the Flying Thunder God mark to lock the position, and then teleport there. If fighting against Kawasaki, Kawasaki only needs one coordinate to predict the next landing point of Flying Thunder God, without having to find the mark. Kawasaki was still thinking about Obito's Kamui space, which he thought could only be cracked. Now it seems that even the coordinates corresponding to the Kamui space in reality can be found, and Obito has nowhere to hide. After a few days, Orochimaru's analysis of Kawasaki Sharingan came out. The original guess was that Sharingan's yin-dun was superimposed, family inheritance and genetic integration. Filling the bloodline deficiency, promoting the evolution of bloodline, thus achieving the eternal eye. And Kawasaki's eternal eye is a qualitative change caused by the rich pupil power. Just like adding water to a small bottle, if the bottle is hard enough, the water will be compressed. As for why Kawasaki's bottle is so strong, Orochimaru has not figured it out yet. Kawasaki's way of eye formation has opened up new ideas for Orochimaru. Shanshui's eyes now have a second way to evolve into the eternal eye. However, whether the eternal eye can still evolve, Kawasaki and Orochimaru still need to discuss. At the same time, Kawasaki told all about the Ōtsutsuki clan and the reincarnations of Indra and Ashura. Because there is only one pair of Rinnegan in the ninja world now, there is no reference in Nagato. Without the participation of Indra and Ashura's chakra, it is still unknown whether Sharingan can evolve into Rinnegan. There is no clue about Rinnegan, let's put it aside for now. If chakra is a necessary condition, then Rinnegan can only hope that Sasuke will evolve. If so, the eternal eye and Rinnegan cannot be simply said to be in a hierarchical relationship. Rinnegan has become a kind of upgraded eternal eye. In the Sound Village of the Land of Fields, Orochimaru extracted Kimamaro's cerebrospinal fluid and verified that Kawasaki's theory about the immortal marrow was correct. Kimamaro's bone marrow does have a reversion phenomenon. As he grows, the changes in the bone marrow will make the blood become like sulfuric acid. The bones may be able to hold up, but the delicate internal organs will definitely not be able to bear it. No wonder Orochimaru couldn't cure Kimamaro in his previous life. If this continues, Kimamaro will not survive. Kimamaro, who has been fighting with dead bone pulse, has signs of premature bone maturity, so he is so much taller than Shiro. The current urgency is to use drugs to control Kimamaro's growth, but this is only a temporary solution, and another solution must be found. Orochimaru suggested using Hashirama cells, but the technology is not yet mature. The will of the cell is still in the theoretical stage, and success may take several months or even years. It really depends on God's will. Since Kawasaki has decided not to be negative anymore, the regrets of the previous life must not be repeated. Kimamaro, I must save you. Kawasaki has a grand plan in his mind and will not let go of any good seedling. After making up his mind, Kawasaki was excited. What are the side effects of the drug that prevents Kimamaro's development? Orochimaru thought for a while. The drug will lose its effect in 2 to 3 years, and it will not lose its effect slowly, but the drug will stop working. Kimamaro will suddenly accelerate his development, and the symptoms may worsen instantly. 2 years is a safe period, and then it will be out of control. 2 years should be enough for me to come up with a way to save him. Kawasaki already has some ideas in his mind, and 2 years is definitely enough. Is Tsunade's 100 healings mark effective? Kawasaki has already planned to bring Tsunade into the game. After all, Orochimaru wants to be the Hokage, so he will inevitably have to deal with Tsunade. Orochimaru pondered for a moment. If Kimamaro suddenly develops a disease, he will not die at least because of the 100 healings mark. But this is Tsunade's unique skill. Advertisement. Kawasaki shook his head. I can negotiate with Tsunade. Orochimaru's tone was quite interested. The 100 healings mark requires a huge amount of chakra support, and Tsunade relies on the 100 healings mark to store it. The 100 healings mark is only for women, and it is not easy to transform it into a suitable one for men. Kawasaki smiled. You have to try, right? Orochimaru took a deep look at Kawasaki. Kawasaki nodded, thinking about plucking hair from Tsunade, the gold master. Since we have to find Tsunade anyway, it shouldn't be difficult to get the 100 healings technique. But how can we get Tsunade to teach us this unique skill? Oh, Tsunade loves gambling, and I'm not short of money now. Kawasaki clenches his fist and hits, it's you, money power. After making up his mind, Kawasaki began to ask Orochimaru about the details of the 100 healings technique. Orochimaru knew almost the same as Kawasaki. The 100 healings technique is to exchange blood with chakra. Without enough chakra, the 100 healings technique cannot heal itself. If there is not enough chakra when using it, Kawasaki always has a backup plan when doing things, and immediately considered a way to quickly replenish chakra. But most methods have side effects. Kimamaro's body is weak to begin with, and he is afraid that he will lose his life in the end like the 8 inner gates. So, Yamazaki listed a few backup plans. After Kawasaki came, he discussed future plans with Orochimaru for several days, and the topic was always about Hashirama cells. It would be a waste if such a huge treasure trove was not studied. Unfortunately, cellular research is very expensive, requiring high-end medical equipment and expensive materials. One experiment costs tens of millions, and if it fails, it will be a waste of money, or you will get a bunch of saplings, which can be called a luxurious version of tree planting. The experiment of removing the cellular will in Hashirama cells and leaving only pure yang escape chakra is also very expensive. Final conclusion. Development still needs money. The land of fields is not large, and the catering market is also saturated. Originally, fearing the leakage of technology, they dared not set foot in the land of fire, and only promoted it in the land of fields. Now it seems that a choice must be made. Fugaku had sent news before that someone in Konoha was ready to move. Uchiha took this opportunity to actually leave Konoha and achieve self-sufficiency, but it still belongs to Konoha in name. Now, the third Hokage seems to be interested in letting Orochimaru return to the village. This makes Kawasaki wonder how to pave the way for Orochimaru. This is the Hashirama cell fluid I extracted. Quote. Orochimaru's words interrupted Kawasaki's thoughts. Kawasaki raised his eyebrows. Those cell wills have not been completely cleared, right? Orochimaru's voice was a little cunning. Indeed, if the cell will is not removed, there is an 80% chance of turning into a tree when using it. But Shisui and Itachi helped me do experiments, and the pupil power can suppress the cell will to a certain extent and achieve fusion. With your pupil power, the success rate is 40%. Kawasaki rolled his eyes. I'm not desperate, why bother to gamble on the 40% probability? Orochimaru stuffed the solution into Kawasaki's hand. This thing costs 200 million, can you bear to destroy it? Kawasaki stared at the crystal liquid in the test tube, struggling in his heart, and really couldn't bear to do it. Forget it, just keep it first. Seeing Kawasaki put away the solution, Orochimaru also breathed a sigh of relief. For scientific researchers, a 40% success rate is already very high. But in practice, the odds are almost the same as gambling. However, the amount of money invested is too much to give up. Later, Orochimaru even revealed his plan to Kawasaki. I want to fuse various high-quality genes to create a perfect body for myself. Kawasaki was so surprised that he almost sprained his waist. Is Mitsuki going to be born early? Oh, this doesn't count Mitsuki. However, Orochimaru has already started to prepare for the artificial human plan, and Kawasaki is looking forward to this plan. When Jugo was brought back, I considered using the curse seal to create an immortal body. But after reading your talk about the negative impact of soul splitting on the spirit, I think if my soul splits a few times, I may no longer be myself. Orochimaru said with emotion. When he escaped from Konoha, he planted the newly developed Heaven's Curse Seal on Anko. However, this curse seal is of no help to Anko. It just sucks her life nutrients and stores Orochimaru's soul fragments. If it weren't for Kawasaki's knowledge reminder, would he continue to split his soul and eventually become a dementia? I plan to improve living corpse reincarnation. Forcibly crushing the container soul will cause impurities in my soul. Quote. Orochimaru raised his hand and said, have you begun to study your soul in depth? Kawasaki raised his eyebrows. Orochimaru was indeed a smart man and immediately began to examine himself. I let Itachi attack me with all his strength, and found that I could not resist his illusion at all, and my illusion resistance dropped significantly. Quote. Orochimaru seemed calm when he spoke. As a scientific researcher, he was able to accept his shortcomings and seek to make up for them. Kawasaki nodded. It's good that you noticed it early. I was just about to remind you of this. Orochimaru knew that Kawasaki had the ability to foresee the future, and couldn't help but wonder, will there be a problem with my soul splitting in the future? Kawasaki nodded. Big problem. Kawasaki thought for a while. Let me put it this way, if I hadn't sent Itachi and the others here, you would have implemented the plan to destroy Konoha and kill the third Hokage. Orochimaru was a little surprised. I killed that old man. Kawasaki nodded. Yes, you first coveted the Rinnegan of the Akatsuki Organization, and were beaten badly. Then you coveted Itachi's Sharingan and were beaten again. In the end, although you killed the third generation in Konoha, you also ended up half-crippled. Later, there were constant troubles, so you split your soul into multiple parts. Although you were resurrected later, you became, after resurrection,